Cardanus, a powerful military group that maintains the peace of the vast empire. Each of the 7 knighthoods of Cardanus possesses a military force comparable to that of a small or medium-sized nation. Among them, the Golden Dragon Knighthood is the most elite, comprised solely of the direct line. The direct descendants who inherit the Cardanus blood most strongly are born with blonde hair and golden eyes, with the blood of dragons flowing through them, just as the name Golden Dragon suggests. Meanwhile, the branch families strive to surpass their own limits here at the training grounds. This clash of ambitions plays out daily here at the Cardanus training grounds. Among the trainees, a young man with sharp golden eyes grips his spear, ready for the next challenger. Sparring weapons clash with intense speed as the mock combat continues at a grueling pace. The young man stands tall and completely unfazed, dominating the training ground with absolute ease. The female trainee, designated as number 2, grips her sword in frustration and shock at his overwhelming power. She can't believe her eyes. She truly believed that even against number 1, the two of them working together would stand a chance. But to think that number 4, one of their strongest, was taken out in a mere instant? She grunts in pain as she struggles to defend herself against his lightning-fast attack. It's no use, she realizes with despair. I can't read his movements at all. He looks down at them and asks, "Is this all you've got with the two of you? I can't believe we're the same direct descendants who have awakened their attributes." Pointing his training weapon at her, he coldly declares, "You're no match for me at all." The gap in their abilities is clear as the defeated trainees sit on the ground, completely exhausted and bruised. He confidently proclaims, "I am the winner of this selection." Meanwhile, at the grand headquarters of the Cardanus Young Dragon Knighthood, several high-ranking knights gather inside to observe the magical projection displaying the selection process. Observing the screen is the commander of the Young Dragon Knighthood, the legendary Swordmaster Fabian. One of the instructors notes, but there is only one who possesses those qualifications. He refers to number 1, William Cardanus. Even with number 2 and number 4 attacking together, they couldn't land a single scratch on him. William stands triumphantly, surrounded by the floating badges of the trainees he has easily defeated. Fabian asks for confirmation. If I recall, number 2 and number 4 were also from the direct line, to which the instructor replies, "That is correct." When Fabian asks about the status of the others, the instructor reports the branch families are almost completely wiped out at this point. Only a few who joined squads led by the direct line have survived. Only a few managed to remain standing amidst the fallen branch family members scattered across the forest floor. Fabian sighs, noting, as expected, the wall of blood cannot be overcome. At this training ground, numbers are an indicator of strength. He adds, therefore, it is only natural for number 1 to become special grade, but there is no need for comparison this time. His words pique the interest of the instructors, who look back at him with curiosity. The blonde-bearded instructor questions him, asking, And the reason? Fabian looks closely at the screen, preparing to reveal a surprising candidate. A look of intense focus crosses the commander's face as he keeps his eyes fixed on a specific trainee. He admits that while the top trainee is strong, he still falls somewhat short of his high expectations. The instructor agrees, noting that if the chief instructor himself says so, there must be a valid reason. He points out a trainee who suddenly began to distinguish himself a few days ago, cutting down every trainee who crossed his path. In that short amount of time, he raised his rank from number 381 to number 25. The instructor urges the commander, "Please look at the screen right now." The magical monitor shifts focus, zooming in on the mysterious trainee in question. Deep in the training forest, William Cardanus notices the approaching challenger and mutters, "Number 25. William grins arrogantly, mocking the newcomer. "You've got guts coming at me yourself." The challenger, a blonde-haired youth with striking crimson eyes, stands calm and collected in his number 25 uniform. Enraged by the challenger's calm demeanor, William unleashes his aura, demanding, "How dare a piece of trash like you? Draw your sword. I'll teach you a lesson." The challenger observes William's power calmly, noting, "I see, number 1's badge isn't just for show." Drawing his training sword, he declares, "I'm the one who's going to teach you a lesson. Let's see how far I can go as I am now." With a powerful leap, William launches himself high into the air, aiming a devastating downward strike. William roars, "I'll crush you along with your sword," but the challenger remains completely composed as the strike descends. Their training weapons collide with a massive explosion of sparks, the impact shaking the surrounding air. Moving with incredible speed and grace, the challenger effortlessly deflects William's heavy blow. William is thrown completely off balance, his face twisted in utter disbelief at the challenger's strength. The challenger quietly looks at his training sword, evaluating his own power in this clash. William gritted his teeth, his face contorted with anger and frustration as he declared, "My shield isn't so soft that it would be broken by an apprentice knight." As the challenger stood with a wooden practice weapon, the phantom of a legendary long-haired swordsman loomed behind him, enveloped in a blazing golden aura. With a sharp whoosh, the two combatants clashed in a series of incredibly fast and fluid exchanges, their wooden swords tracing brilliant blue and yellow trails in the air. William launched a heavy downward attack enveloped in blue flames, but the challenger effortlessly bent backward to parry it, redirecting the devastating force. Their weapons collided in a shower of sparks, the challenger remaining completely calm and composed, while William struggled against his unexpected strength. Watching from the monitors, the instructors analyzed the combat, with one noting, "It doesn't seem to be the orthodox swordsmanship of Cardenas." The bearded instructor continued his observation, pointing out he's parrying every attack with minimal force. William swung his sword desperately, yet the challenger easily dodged, prompting the instructor to remark, "And he hasn't even launched a proper counterattack yet." The challenger gracefully leaped backward, landing lightly on the forest ground as he maintained his distance and evaluated his opponent. Unleashing a fierce blue aura, an enraged William charged forward and roared, "Is running away all you're good at?" William executed a massive circular slash that tore through the foliage, but the challenger skillfully ducked beneath the sweeping strike. Leaping high into the air, the challenger calmly observed William's movements from above, fully in control of the tempo of the fight. Landing firmly on the ground, the challenger's boot cracked the earth as he prepared to engage William once more. William rained down a flurry of blue slashes, but the challenger moved with incredible speed, blocking each strike effortlessly. Infuriated by his inability to land a hit, William channeled a massive surge of blue energy, shouting in rage as he prepared to strike. Their swords clashed in a spectacular display of power, creating shockwaves that shook the surrounding forest as their respective auras collided. Despite the intense pressure of the clash, the challenger's crimson eyes remained completely steady and unfazed. With a swift pivot, the challenger swept low, kickstarting a rapid sequence of movements that kicked up leaves and dirt. The challenger slid back gracefully, holding his sword in a low guard as William stared at him, trying to anticipate his next move. Enveloped in a cloud of dust, the challenger stood completely relaxed, his stance revealing no openings whatsoever. William gritted his teeth and barked, "You've got a big mouth for someone who does nothing but run around." "Fight me seriously!" William yelled, as a sudden crackle of electrical energy flared in the challenger's calm crimson eyes. In an instant, the challenger dashed forward, moving so quickly that he became a blur on the battlefield. Looking at William's furious assault, the challenger thought to himself, his power is one thing, but his judgment isn't bad either. William braced himself, channeling his aura into his sword as he thought, but what he's still lacking. The challenger surged forward like a bullet, leaving a golden trail in his wake as he closed the distance. William's inner dialogue continued, recognizing the ultimate weakness, is the sense and judgment cultivated at the border of life and death. Convinced of his victory, William thought, no matter how excellent a trainee he may be, this is your limit. But his confidence shattered in an instant as his eyes widened in shock. What? With a painful grunt of "Coup," William was thrown off balance as the challenger executed a lightning-fast overhead strike that completely bypassed his defense. The surrounding trainees watched the battle in sheer disbelief, with one girl gasping, "That guy is fighting on equal terms with number 1. Is he really number 25? Moving with supernatural agility, the challenger spun through the air, completely evading William's counteroffensive. With his crimson eyes glowing brightly, the challenger pinpointed William's blind spot as he completed his evasion. He vanished into the forest brush, using the environment to break his opponent's line of sight in the blink of an eye. William frantically looked around, sweat pouring down his face as he panicked, "Damn it, I lost sight of him!" Suddenly, the challenger materialized right behind William, his wooden sword blazing with golden energy. William gasped in utter terror. Since when did you?" Completely defenseless, William cried out in shock. "Impossible! How could someone like you?" With a calm and resolute gaze, the challenger declared coldly, "You lose, number 1. Colossal blast of golden energy erupted as the challenger's final strike connected, shattering the ground and sending William flying through the air. William fell to the ground, coughing up blood and losing consciousness as the overwhelming power of the strike took its toll. The challenger stood quietly amidst the settling dust, reflecting on his growth. This would have been impossible for the old me. Calm expression crossed his face as he realized, all of my memories have returned now. The challenger, with his piercing red eyes, stood tall, the towering spectral image of his true identity, the white-haired master of the sword, standing proud behind him. His true identity was Ren, the legendary man who walked the path of the sword. In his past life, Ren's mastery was unparalleled. He effortlessly split the heavens, reached a realm where he could shatter mountains. Ren had dedicated his entire being to the blade and earned the title of Sword Emperor through his own strength. But still unsatisfied, he finally challenged the heavenly demon, hailed as the strongest of the era, to a duel. The legendary duel between the Sword Emperor and the heavenly demon began, as the battle raged on for days. Ren fought with everything he had, executing strikes of such power that its ferocity transcended human limits. Their clash was so cataclysmic that it was said to have reshaped the very map of the region. Covered in blood but wearing a satisfied smile at the peak of combat, the Sword Emperor faced his final moment. And the result? Two powerful warriors stand facing each other on a cracked crimson battlefield as a tense energy swirls around them. I don't understand. My swordsmanship should be perfect. Why can't my sword even graze you? It's the fundamentals. You have never truly understood the sword. To risk your life to challenge me and fight this far, it is truly magnificent. However, your inexperience in neglecting the fundamentals became your fatal flaw in the end. I lacked the fundamentals? For a mere stray dog to challenge me and fight this far? It is truly magnificent. As you depart for the far shore, the legend of Ren shall close in total defeat. Under the light of a massive crimson moon, the victor stands tall as the white-haired warrior sits completely defeated on the broken ground. You who were called the Sword Emperor. To think it would end so easily. As his vision begins to fade, Ren looks up at the sky with a mixture of regret and peace. Would my sword reach you? Thus, the legend of the Sword Emperor, Ren, closed in utter defeat. But at that moment, a new legend was about to begin in a place no one could have imagined. Is he breathing? Crap, should we call an instructor? Ha! What the? That dream again. Oh, you're alive. I completely thought you were dead, but something's, well, you look fine anyway, so let's pick up where we left off, scaring us like that, you bastard. As the fist flies toward his face, his crimson eye flashes with sudden, sharp intent. With precise, effortless movement, he tilts his head to dodge the heavy blow. The attacker is left completely stunned as his fist hits nothing but empty air. He stopped it? My body moved on its own. What the hell is this? His grip is like iron, completely freezing the attacker's arm in place. You little... Don't get cocky. Just because you got lucky once. In a flash, he ducks low, letting the heavy wooden blade sweep harmlessly over him. He dodged it again? My body is moving on its own. It's almost as if, without a moment's hesitation, he unleashes a lightning-fast counterstrike. Something is guiding my movements. With a single clean strike, the bully is sent crashing to the dirt. No way, this isn't a fluke. He's completely playing with us. This has to be a joke. How is the guy who couldn't even fight back doing this? He's like a completely different person. I don't get this. Hey, don't wimp out. Is this really the same loser we were just beating to a pulp? Let's crush him together. I see. Now I understand. Channeling his newfound power, he readies his sword as a radiant golden aura ignites around the blade. With a flawless, sweeping slash, he knocks both opponents back with overwhelming force. He leaps gracefully into the night sky, completely dominating the battlefield from above. He delivers a devastating downward strike, shattering their defenses and leaving them completely incapacitated. Standing tall amidst the quiet of the night, he looks down at his fallen foes, fully realizing that his legendary journey has just begun. I've always had these strange dreams. Dreams of a man under a crimson sky, fighting with his long robes and white hair flowing. I was so tormented by those dreams that I couldn't focus on my training. I resented them for the longest time, but that man's life and death are vividly resurfacing in my mind. It's hard to believe, but there's only one conclusion. I am the reincarnation of Ren, the Sword Emperor from another world. Feeling the moonlight wash over him, the young apprentice knight clenches his fist in silent wonder as his past memories fully settle. Did my dying, desperate wish become a reality? My arms ache just from swinging a sword a little bit. It's because I've been training the wrong way. But from now on, with these memories and techniques, I'll grow limitlessly stronger. I don't know who granted this wish, but it doesn't matter if it was just a coincidence. Ren couldn't achieve it, but the current me, Leonard, will definitely make it happen. I will use everything at my disposal to become the strongest Sword Emperor, surpassing even my past life. Inside the Cardenas training grounds, the above three individuals are injured. Within a grand hall at the training academy, several apprentice knights gathered to discuss the shocking news of the recent clash. By the way, a high-ranking trainee with badge number 5 listens intently, his eyes narrowing as he considers the implications of the report. The one who took down those 3 was apparently acting alone. Number 381? I hear it was over in an instant. What were the numbers of the 3 who got B? Numbers 329, 257, and 133. Really take them out alone? If someone like that joins another faction, the current power dynamics will... Tension flares in the room as the high-ranking trainees realize a dangerous wildcard has entered their midst. Sparking with intense blue lightning, a powerful trainee unsheathes his blade, eager to test the newcomer's limits. Number 381, was it? I'll see for myself, if he's a vessel worth using. I'll tell you this as a gift for the afterlife. The reason you couldn't reach the higher realms is because you built the foundation of your internal arts far too late. In the 5 elements, the foundation and balance are the most important. If you had built that foundation when you were young, the result might have been different. That's right. By the time I built the foundation of my internal arts, I was already past my prime. But if I solidify the foundation starting from this young age, enveloped in a blazing shroud of blue mana, Leonard concentrates deeply to restructure his internal channels. A dense sphere of spiritual energy begins to spin rapidly at his core, aligning perfectly with his past life techniques. First, I'll create a constitution that can handle mana. Waves of powerful magical force course through his body, completely purifying his physical vessel. A glowing runic pattern unfolds across the ground as Leonard reaches the absolute peak of his meditation. Opening his eyes, Leonard is amazed to see a vibrant, steady stream of raw mana responding flawlessly to his touch. With his crimson eyes glowing, he clenches his fist, feeling the incredible potential of his newly built foundation. Next morning, the Academy's grand dining hall is filled with the chatter of trainees lining up for their daily meals. This suits my palate quite well. A balanced diet is important during the growth period, so I must eat without skipping meals. As he quietly enjoys his food, Leonard suddenly feels a massive, towering presence loom behind his chair. Looking over his shoulder, he finds a friendly, broad-shouldered trainee smiling warmly down at him. The large trainee strikes up a conversation, clearly curious about the rookie who has been causing such a stir. No, I'm number 7 now. I took down number 7 the other day. I see, so it's a system where you steal higher numbers through duels. Leonard listens carefully, instantly grasping the straightforward, merit-based ranking rules of the training grounds. The giant trainee leans in closer, dropping his voice to share some critical inside information. Haven't you noticed the atmosphere has been brutal lately? The high rankers are moving to expand their influence. As you know, number 1, 2, and 4 are... Leonard walks through the dining hall carrying an empty tray while a larger trainee looks over his shoulder at him in surprise. Hey, everyone around will hear you. Be careful. Geez, are you just dense or have you gone crazy? Listen, there's definitely a reason they're expanding their influence. It means we won't survive unless we unite. The large trainee calls out in frustration to Leonard, who continues walking away with a calm and different expression. The large trainee follows Leonard through the dining hall, waving his hands to try and talk some sense into him. The large trainee points to his badge, trying to get Leonard to understand the gravity of the Academy's hierarchy. I refuse. I won't belong anywhere. He's not the number 381 I know. Leonard walks out of the Dining Academy's grand entrance under a dramatic evening sky. Leonard strolls through the courtyard, calmly resting his hands behind his back with his wooden sword at his waist. Was the food good, number 381? Personally, I have a mountain of things to say, but before, Lord number 1 is calling for you. I'll overlook yesterday's incident as a special case. Since you turned down number 7's invitation, Lord number 1 has taken a liking to you. Hearing this, Leonard wonders to himself, is everything happening here being leaked to number 1? Leonard stands ready, looking back over his shoulder with a cold, intense glare. What did you say, you trash, even though you're a low ranker? I'll make you regret those words. Leonard smoothly ducks under his opponent's powerful downward strike with supernatural reflexes. He closed that distance in a single kick? This level of physical ability at this age is extraordinary. Leonard unleashes a powerful, fiery aura, moving with terrifying speed. Barehanded? What is wrong with this guy? The wooden sword! Leonard delivers a powerful palm strike straight to his opponent's chest, creating a massive shockwave. Even though he's not a high ranker, number 57 has this much skill. As I thought, there's some secret to the Cardenas bloodline. Shut up. I'm stronger than him. Don't act all high and mighty and come at me. I see. Then, as you wish. A huge impact shakes the courtyard as Leonard unleashes his incredible speed against the second trainee. A mysterious figure in a blue hood and mask watches the battle end from a high window. Was he hiding his true strength until now? I don't understand. For an informant, his background is too clear. He noticed my gaze from this distance? Please spare me the cliché developments like last time. The observer is revealed to be the observer of the Fugaro trainees. I'll be expecting great things, number 381. He's number 98 now, Leonard Cardenas. Hurry, it looks like number 98 is heading to the training grounds. Sorry, number 1 told me to go capture number 98. I'm in a hurry. A high-ranking blonde female trainee wearing badge number 2 stands in the hallway, watching the commotion with calm curiosity. So one of number 1's subordinates lost? They should be fairly high-ranked. A trainee is suddenly blasted backward through the air with a painful cry of "Gah!" The trainee lands hard on the ground in a cloud of dust as the blonde female trainee watches calmly. Leonard executes a brilliant high vertical kick to deflect an oncoming attack in the training grounds. Just shut up and join our squad already, bastard. I told you I refuse. Is that number 1 guy stupid despite his strength? Leonard shatters his opponent's sword and sends him flying with a single clean counter. I'll be taking your badge. Do you know him? A dramatic close-up of the blonde female trainee's piercing golden eye as she locks eyes with Leonard. Under a blazing shroud of golden mana, Leonard concentrates deeply as a mysterious voice notes the strange constitution of his body and the peculiar flow of his energy. A close-up shows a hand tightly gripping the badge belonging to number 2. Leonard analyzes the high-ranking trainee, realizing she possesses the incredibly rare mind's eye ability to perceive internal energy at such a young age. He recognizes the powerful trait of the mind's eye, which allows one to see an opponent's inner self and intent, making it a formidable weapon against even stronger adversaries. The blonde female trainee stares back in surprise, her golden eyes wide as she registers Leonard's intense presence. A powerful trainee stands with his sword held behind his back, blocking their path as the tension in the courtyard spikes. Smiling with quiet malice, the top trainee is revealed as badge number 1, William Cardenas. William brutally kicks a defeated trainee on the ground, calling him useless trash who failed to complete a simple task. He mercilessly stomps down on his fallen subordinate, ignoring the trainee's painful screams of agony. Watching the brutal display, Leonard calmly assesses William's overwhelming presence as the Academy's top-ranked fighter. Despite the display of cruelty, Leonard stands his ground, confidently asserting that he is still ready to fight. A vein pops on William's forehead as he glares back, clearly annoyed by Leonard's complete lack of fear. Suddenly, the blonde female trainee breaks the heavy tension by bursting into a fit of loud, genuine laughter. Wiping a tear from her eye, she smiles warmly as the hostile atmosphere completely dissipates. Shrugging her shoulders, she turns to walk away, explaining that she only came to see what kind of person Leonard was. Glaring over his shoulder, William delivers a cold warning to Leonard, telling him not to regret provoking the Academy's elite. Leonard watches them depart with a cool, indifferent expression, unaffected by the top ranker's parting threat. Leonard reflects on the secret training rules known only to direct-line descendants, where trainees must build their own factions to survive. Under the grand crest of the Cardenas family, anticipation builds for the joint training scheduled for the following day. The next morning, a high-ranking instructor stands in the dense forest training grounds, clad in a red cloak. An apprentice knight salutes the instructor, reporting that all the trainees have successfully gathered for the exercise. The trainee nervously salutes, sweating under the intimidating gaze of his superior. The powerful, bearded warrior is revealed to be Senior Instructor Bruno. Instructor Bruno listens to the report, his eyes scanning the surrounding woods. Sunlight streams down upon a grand golden dome tower nestled deep within the lush green forest. The instructors discuss the rules of the joint training, noting that there is absolutely no limit placed on squad size. The largest faction, Squad A, is led by number 1, William Cardenas, while the second largest, Squad B, is gathered under number 2. Number 2 looks over her shoulder, leading her faction deeper into the forest. A powerful, blue-haired female trainee sporting badge number 3 clenches her fist, determined to dominate the training. Smiling cheerfully, the blonde leader of Squad D stands ready with badge number 4 proudly displayed on his chest. An instructor flips through an ancient, rune-covered ledger containing the profiles of the participating trainees. The instructor looks down at the page in shock, sweating as he reads the surprising details of a specific profile. The ledger displays Leonard's portrait, revealing him to be the focus of the instructor's intense scrutiny. Carrying a heavy rucksack, Leonard, now holding badge number 25, strolls calmly into the vast forest. Leonard looks around at the towering trees, marveling at the sheer scale of the training grounds. Planning to secure a base early to exploit the terrain, Leonard is approached from behind by Instructor Bruno, who asks if that is his only luggage. Instructor Bruno looks on thoughtfully as Leonard turns and calmly assures him that his light gear is not an issue. Clenching his fist, Leonard proceeds deeper into the wilderness, fully focused on his strategy. Heavy leather boots tread steadily along the dirt path of the training grounds. Suddenly, a voice calls out to Instructor Bruno, asking to speak with Leonard and warning that entering the forest alone is highly dangerous. A smiling blonde trainee is introduced as number 4, Dylan Cardenas, who politely invites Leonard to join Squad D. Leonard looks back over his shoulder with a sharp, suspicious glare. Looking at a bisected monster nearby, Leonard sees through Dylan's friendly facade, recognizing him as a snake who would readily discard him in danger. Dylan continues to walk forward with a warm smile, claiming that his offer is highly beneficial. The two trainees lock eyes in a silent, tense standoff, with Leonard refusing to drop his guard. Leonard notes that Dylan is the type to despise his own kind, warning that his arrogance will ultimately lead to his downfall. Still wearing a pleasant smile, Dylan suddenly dashes forward, his form blurring with incredible speed. Drawing his wooden sword in an instant, Dylan unleashes a rapid multi-directional strike toward Leonard. A blinding flash of light erupts as a powerful downward slash tears through the air. Dylan's eyes widen in absolute shock as Leonard effortlessly dodges the surprise attack, leaving him wondering how a low ranker could move so fast. Dylan lunges forward with a swift strike, observing, strange footwork. Leonard, sensing the attack, reacts with supernatural speed. With an incredible counter, Leonard strikes Dylan from above, sending him flying as Dylan cries out, "Gah!" Looking back at his opponent, Leonard reflects, even at the moment he swung his sword, I didn't sense any killing intent or hostility. Has he already reached the realm of an assassin at this age? Dylan falls face down onto the dusty ground, thoroughly defeated, while Leonard stands calmly over him with his wooden sword in hand. Senior Instructor Bruno approaches and places a reassuring hand on Leonard's shoulder, explaining, however, since this isn't the real match, promotion won't be recognized. Turning to the instructor, Leonard calmly replies, understood. Instructor Bruno smiles warmly, a glowing golden aura of power surrounding his form. As Leonard runs ahead with his heavy backpack, Instructor Bruno watches him depart, thinking to himself, even my past self would struggle against fighters like this. Vision of the Academy's top geniuses appears as the narrative notes, as expected of the continent's greatest sword family. At such a young age, they've already awakened outstanding talent. The dark, chilling silhouette of William Cardenas is shown as the narration continues. For so many prodigies to appear one after another, there must be some secret in the Cardenas bloodline. A heavy boot steps forward onto the dirt path, snapping a fallen branch with a sharp crack. Sprinting deeper into the wilderness, Leonard focuses on his immediate goal, but for now, focus on the training. First, secure an advantageous hideout. Stopping in a clearing, Leonard ties his white shirt around his waist, standing ready in his black training shirt with badge number 25. At the Central Command Base, Senior Instructor Bruno addresses his subordinates, demanding, report the situation after the start. An instructor on a flickering hologram screen receives the request, preparing to deliver the latest update from the forest. The hologram screen displays a strategic breakdown as the instructor reports. Group A, under the command of number 1, attacked Group C as soon as they entered the forest, without even looking for a base. A visual panel shows William's faction brutally ambushing their rivals, with the report stating Group C, caught off guard, was unilaterally beaten. Running for her life through the trees, Charlotte, holding badge number 3, clutches her bleeding arm as the report continues. Other than number 3, who barely managed to dodge, they were completely wiped out. Hearing this, Instructor Bruno turns to his subordinate and remarks, interesting. I thought he was sharp, but to think he would choose a surprise attack. Bruno strokes his beard thoughtfully, analyzing William's strategy. However, he probably didn't decide based solely on the difference in military strength. Group A, with its large numbers, would be at a disadvantage in procuring supplies the longer the battle dragged on. A panel shows Group A marching confidently through the forest as Bruno continues. He used their numerical advantage to attack at the beginning of the training, when it's difficult to unite. He broke the common sense that securing a base comes first and caught them by surprise. A tactical map illustrates Squad A's calculated maneuver over Squad C, concluding it means he's one step ahead not only in actual strength but also strategically. Eager to hear about the other factions, Bruno commands, all right, then give me the reports for Group B and Group D. The visual feed displays the leaders of Group B and Group D marching together with their trainees. Knowing Group C's situation, Group B and Group D formed an alliance in order to defeat their common enemy, number 1. Smiling with approval, Bruno reflects on their choice. A wise decision. Their response is much faster than the previous trainees. They seem promising. Suddenly sensing another presence, Bruno glances over his shoulder with a sharp look. Turning to the blue-haired female instructor behind him, Bruno says, and you were in charge of the remaining groups, right? Now give me your report, Instructor Colin. She nervously replies, "Yes, Instructor Bruno." Sweating under his gaze, Instructor Colin reviews her records and thinks Group E hasn't made any particular progress since their leader was chosen, but number 25 from Group F is... Holding the document detailing Leonard's profile, Colin sighs in disbelief, thinking, where should I even begin to explain? Back in the forest, Instructor Colin crouches in concealment behind a tree, only to be completely startled when Leonard suddenly calls out, "Instructor Colin." Shocked that her presence was detected, Colin thinks, did he just call me? My concealment technique is at the highest level even among instructors, though. Standing before a dark cavern, Leonard calmly looks back over his shoulder toward her hiding spot. Staring at his intense gaze, Colin realizes, as I thought, that kid has completely noticed me. Bypassing her cover, Colin steps down onto the forest floor with a light rustling sound. Crossing her arms and trying to maintain her composure, she asks, "All right, what's your question? Number 25. Leonard points his wooden sword toward the rumbling cavern where glowing eyes emerge, calmly asking for a sleeping place. A massive blue-furred beast steps into the light, snarling fiercely as Leonard silently notes, "I thought it might be bad if I injured or killed it." Instructor Colin observes the beast, recognizing it. That's right, that wolf is a relatively safe direwolf trained by Cardenas. However, it's impossible for a trainee to defeat a direwolf alone. Smiling with quiet anticipation, she thinks, if push comes to shove, I can save him. Let's see if he's bluffing. Addressing Leonard directly, Colin says, no, it doesn't matter. This is also part of the training. If you can defeat it, use it as a sleeping place or a food storage, whatever you like. She adds with a grin, that is, if you can defeat it, as the direwolf lets out a low, menacing growl. The direwolf lunges forward, tearing up the ground with terrifying speed as Leonard prepares to dodge. Easily evading the beast's initial strike, Leonard calmly raises his wooden sword and remarks, "For a pet, it has good movements." The enraged direwolf swings its massive claws, unleashing a barrage of swift strikes. Moving with blinding speed, Leonard swings his sword to deliver a precise counter, saying, "Sorry, but I'm gonna have you leave," as the beast cries out in pain. The direwolf skids backward across the dirt, barely recovering its stance. Snarls echo through the clearing as the beast growls, its blue eyes glowing with intense anger. The direwolf unleashes a massive shockwave of energy, letting out a deafening howl that shakes the surrounding trees. Standing calmly amidst the swirling leaves and wind, Leonard observes the beast's change in behavior, wondering, killing intent? Has it lost its reason? Tensing his arm, Leonard grips his wooden sword tightly, ready to face the beast's true power. "This is gonna hurt a little," Leonard mutters as he leaps high into the air, wooden sword raised, launching a powerful downward strike at the charging direwolf. In a flash of movement, Leonard shifts his weight and passes right by the beast, executing a flawless dodge as the wolf lunges past. A massive wolf snaps its jaws close to him, but Leonard remains utterly unfazed, declaring, "Like hell I'd let myself be eaten that easily." With incredible focus, Leonard executes a sharp, swift turn, preparing to deliver his counterattack. Landing a powerful, precise upward strike right under the wolf's chin, Leonard sends the massive beast flying into the air with a heavy impact. Watching from her hiding spot, Instructor Colin is left completely stunned, thinking, he overwhelmed it in an instant. There was no need to save him? As Leonard lands gracefully back on the ground, Colin looks on in utter shock, wondering, is that really the strength of a trainee? A quiet, overgrown path leads to a dark cave nestled deep within the thick green forest foliage. Suddenly, the once ferocious direwolf sits down and pants happily like a tame pet as Leonard gestures with his hand and says, "Wait, sit." "Paw," Leonard commands, and the giant wolf happily rolls over and offers its massive sparkling paw, to which Leonard responds with the calm, "Good." Gently petting the large beast, Leonard turns to a dumbfounded Colin and asks, "Can I bring it along for this training?" Colin gulps nervously as she imagines the terrifying prospect of Leonard riding the formidable direwolf into battle, thinking, that's strength and decisive action without hesitation? If someone like that subjugates a direwolf, that would be difficult. Snapping back to reality, Colin points toward Leonard and firmly states, participation in combat is prohibited. Colin holds her hand to her forehead in exasperation, while Leonard calmly replies, that was my intention from the start. With the wind blowing through the grass, Leonard stands resolutely, ready to embark on his next move. A close-up reveals the sharp, determined gaze of Leonard's red eyes as he prepares to resume his training. Walking down the dirt path with the giant blue wolf by his side, Leonard says, well then, shall we get down to the training for real? You, go find some food, prompting a happy woof from the beast. They soon encounter a fork in the forest path, and Leonard decides, A fork in the road? Let's split into two groups. Looking back over his shoulder, Leonard commands, "Now go," as they part ways to cover more ground. The powerful blue wolf dashes forward into the wilderness with incredible speed, kickstarting its search. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, a defeated trainee sits slumped against a rock in terror, stammering "monster" as a shadow looms over him. Standing amidst a field of unconscious trainees, William Cardenas cold-bloodedly remarks, "It's not even a contest. To think such trash has the blood of Cardenas. They're beyond saving." Slipping another stolen badge into his pocket, William indifferently notes, "But there's no more room to hold badges." Staring down at his final victim with a menacing yellow-eyed glare, William warns, "You got lucky. Next time we meet, I'll eliminate you." Gritting his teeth in painful frustration, the defeated trainee, badge number 438, can only mutter, "Damn it." He recalls the hopeless battle where his entire squad attacked at once, lamenting, "To think that even with all of Group E attacking, we couldn't beat him alone." Clutching his chest in despair, the leader of Group E, badge number 483, trembles as he thinks, "I knew we didn't have a chance from the start, but at this rate we'll just be prey. I don't want this. I was just forced to be the leader. What should I do now?" Sweating and overwhelmed, the young leader looks up, completely at a loss for how to save his team. His teammates gather around him anxiously, asking, "Leader, what should we do now? We were lucky to be spared this time, but..." The grim reality of their situation weighs heavily on them, with the dark realization that if we get attacked by another group, it's over for us. Is this the end of the line? Guys, let's pull ourselves together and go look for some food. Suddenly, his teammates' faces twist into sheer horror, prompting him to ask, "Why are you making those faces?" as a massive shadow falls over them. A colossal, red-eyed brown bear roars furiously behind the leader, who screams in absolute terror, "We're really going to become food!" Facing certain doom, the helpless leader closes his eyes, despairingly thinking, "This kind of death." Just as the beast is about to strike, Leonard suddenly dashes into the clearing at blinding speed, sword drawn. With a powerful leap, Leonard unleashes a heavy strike directly onto the massive bear's back. The giant beast recoils from the sudden impact, while the terrified leader cries out, "No!" Startled and confused by the sudden interference, the bear lets out a bewildered growl. "Grr?" Without giving the monster a moment to recover, Leonard executes a massive downward blow, slamming the bear into the ground. Shielding his face from the intense shockwave and dust, the stunned leader looks up and stammers, "You are..." As the dust settles, Leonard stands calmly on top of the colossal, unconscious beast, his wooden sword resting on his shoulder. Number 25 stands tall and composed, looking down at the trainees with complete indifference. The massive bear lies defeated on the ground with dizzy spiral eyes, as the trainees realize, "And even our food for several days?" Turning around, Leonard casually leaps away and begins running back into the forest. The leader looks on in utter confusion, letting out a bewildered, "Huh?" Leonard glances back over his shoulder, completely unfazed by their reaction. Walking away from the massive beast, Leonard simply says, "Then that's fine," prompting the leader to yell, "Hey, wait, weren't you here to take the badges?" Stopping for a brief moment, Leonard looks back at them with a calm and neutral expression. The leader is left completely speechless as Leonard casually explains, "I can gather my own food. I don't need a badge." With those final words, Leonard walks away, disappearing back into the depths of the forest. "By the way, you became number 25 in a short time, right?" asks a voice, breaking the forest's silence. Clutching his chest, trainee number 438 grits his teeth and says, "I owe you one." Looking back at Leonard, the trainee adds, "Thanks to you, I avoided elimination." Leonard turns slightly, looking a bit awkward as he says, "That's not what I meant." Suddenly, loud thumping sounds echo through the trees, prompting a startled, "What is that?" as a terrifying beast with glowing eyes approaches. A massive blue wolf emerges from the bushes, carrying a limp trainee in its jaws, eliciting a terrified scream from the onlookers. A wolf?" The trainees stammer in pure shock, but Leonard calmly commands, "Sit." To everyone's utter bewilderment, the giant beast immediately plops onto the ground and sits like an obedient puppy. Leonard mutters, as the docile wolf gently drops the unconscious blue-haired girl right in front of them. The trainees look down at the girl on the ground, realizing her identity. Number 3? Trainee 438 is left completely flabbergasted by the bizarre turn of events. Despite the wolf panting happily with its tongue out and Leonard looking completely unfazed, the trainees find both of them incredibly terrifying. Looking at her arm, Leonard notes, "Those are serious injuries. Even a fighter who could barely be scratched ended up like this. A monster? Or maybe number 1 or number 2? Kneeling down, Leonard asks, 438, so you really don't want to be eliminated, huh? To which the defensive leader replies, yeah, so what? You think that's pathetic? Pointing toward the massive unconscious bear behind him, Leonard says, that should be enough food for you guys, prompting an overjoyed, really? Yes, from the leader. An advice bubble appears against a dotted background, reminding them, don't get too obsessed with numbers. Trainee 438 and his squad are left standing in absolute stun and confusion. They watch in awe as Leonard and the giant blue wolf walk away, whispering, number 25. Walking side by side with the massive wolf, Leonard breaks into a nervous sweat, thinking, I think I misunderstood something. Sometime later, under the dim light, the blue-haired girl slowly opens her eyes in a cave, murmuring, sitting up and looking at the starry night sky, she wonders, where am I? Looking down at her bandaged arm, she asks herself, treatment? Who? Suddenly, a voice asks, you're awake? Causing her to gasp in alarm. With a swift rustling sound, she tosses her blanket aside, instantly springing into action. Driven by instinct, she launches a powerful, high-flying kick at Leonard, who blocks her strike effortlessly with his arm. Leonard calmly observes, your leg seems fine. Don't waste unnecessary energy. Rest properly. As the girl defiantly demands, give me back my badge. Leonard just stares at her in deadpan silence as a quiet tension fills the cave. Looking down, the girl suddenly notices her red badge with the number 3 is still pinned securely to her shirt, letting out an embarrassed, ah. Blushing from embarrassment, she slowly walks back toward him, completely quiet. Keeping her head down, she stammers, I'm grateful you saved me, but I can't give you my badge. In response, Leonard simply holds up a stack of freshly cooked, sizzling skewers and says, sit here and eat. As they sit by the warm campfire, Leonard gently insists, don't be shy, there's still plenty, determined not to let a kid go hungry, while she takes a bite and mutters a quiet, thanks. Stuffing her face with the delicious meat, she listens as Leonard asks her, what happened to those injuries? Sitting together in the darkness of the cave, Leonard continues, did you run into monsters? To which she quietly responds, no. Gritting her teeth, she recalls the painful memory, saying, right after we set up base. A dark flashback reveals her squad being completely overwhelmed. We were ambushed by a squad and wiped out. Looking down at the fire, she adds with a heavy heart, it's true, we may not have stood a chance. Leonard looks at her and explains, but fighting against numbers is different. You all lack experience. Still, there are ways to win. A sinister silhouette of William Cardenas looms over a miniature chessboard, illustrating how he controls the trainees like mere pawns. Leonard turns to her and asks, was your right arm taken out by number 1? As the meat continues to sizzle over the hot flames, Leonard adds, it can't be helped that your squad lacks strength. But clenching her fist, she interjects passionately, he didn't even get a proper chance to fight. He must have been frustrated. A small, knowing smile plays on Leonard's lips as he thinks, even after realizing the gap in strength, that fighting spirit doesn't disappear. Standing tall on a cliffside, the blue-haired warrior gazes out over the vast forest, declaring, anyway, this is a bad situation. Back in the cave, Leonard assesses the tactical situation, noting, at this rate, the collapse of B and D squads is only a matter of time. The girl's chipified head pops up in a thought bubble, wondering, maybe they formed an alliance. As the blue wolf sleeps peacefully by his side, Leonard ponders, that aligns even numerical superiority. And even if 2 alliances form, they still can't surpass a squad in total wins. In that case, a strategic ambush would be ideal. Images of William Cardenas surrounded by blue flames flash through Leonard's mind as he thinks, but there's no way he wouldn't be prepared for that. He sighs inwardly at the unfairness of the trial, thinking, seriously? Going this far against kids? With a sharp look, Leonard proposes, let's target a squad's weak point, prompting a puzzled, a squad's weak point? From the girl. A massive dark silhouette with a glowing red eye points down at miniature pawn figures of the trainees, while a speech bubble commands, focus all attacks on number 1. In a cosmic space, a blue-haired girl and a blonde boy are positioned on opposite sides of a chessboard. Below, a hand snaps the head off a golden pawn as the text explains, a squad revolves around him. Because he is their core pillar, their unity and decision-making are fast, but the broken head of the pawn falls onto a chessboard scattered with fallen pieces, with the text stating, the moment that pillar breaks, they'll turn into a disorganized mob. Sitting by the campfire, Leonard looks at the blue-haired girl and says, you look like you want revenge on number 1, to which she passionately replies, of course I do. Leonard leans forward with a serious and determined look on his face, telling her, trust me. The blue-haired girl is shown from the nose down, staring in stunned silence with a quiet. Clutching her bandaged arm, she looks up at Leonard with a mixture of shock and determination. Deep in the forest, a massive squad of trainees carrying wooden weapons and heavy supply packs marches down a dirt path. Number 1 walks at the front of his squad alongside Number 5, calmly noting, "Before that happens." Number 5 watches his leader closely from behind as they continue their march through the dense woods. Number 1's eyes suddenly flash with a sharp, glowing gold glare as he senses danger nearby. Raising a clenched fist, Number 1 yells to his team, "Halt! Prepare for battle!" The squad stops in unison, their heavy boots slamming onto the dirt path as the command "Prepare for battle" echoes through the forest. Drawing his wooden sword, Number 1 confidently challenges the hidden enemies, saying, "If you can see there is no hope of winning, wouldn't it be more prudent to surrender?" Birds fly out of the trees in a frenzy as Number 1 commands, "Stop hiding and show yourselves." Dozens of hidden trainees suddenly emerge from the bushes and trees, surrounding Number 1's squad as a voice says, "Oh, you noticed us? The majestic lion has a sharper nose than I expected." Number 1 stands calmly in the center of the ambush, glaring at his opponents with complete composure. Number 2, a beautiful blonde girl, and Number 4, a smiling boy with brown hair, step forward from the trees as Number 4 mockingly asks, "Or perhaps it is closer to that of a dog?" Unsheathing his large wooden sword, Number 1 replies coldly, "Your shallow wit is not even worth discussing." Number 1 glares forward, his golden eyes filled with intense resolve as he prepares to fight. Number 2 flashes a dark, confident smile as a chilly aura swirls around her. Drawing her sword alongside Number 4, she playfully retorts, "You look less like a dog and more like a peacock." Annoyed by her words, Number 1 swings his sword back and yells, "This is called dignity, you incompetent woman." Kicking up dirt and leaving deep cracks on the ground, both sides launch themselves forward at blinding speed. A powerful shockwave erupts in the clearing as Number 1, Number 2, and Number 4 clash weapons in a spectacular display of speed and strength. Seeing the battle begin, the surrounding trainees charge forward in a massive wave, shouting, "All units, charge! Annihilate Squad A!" Standing firm at the front line, Number 5 points his sword forward and rallies his squad, yelling, "Do not let them break through." The two rival squads collide in a chaotic, brutal melee, trading heavy blows with their wooden weapons. Dust and leaves scatter everywhere as trainees clash fiercely in the middle of the forest path. Number 2 is blown backward from the sheer force of Number 1's strike, thinking in shock, more importantly, what on earth is his trait? Gritting her teeth, Number 2 struggles to hold her ground, thinking, on top of his speed, every single blow is heavy. Even when I block, my wrists throb. To think even my eyes cannot see it. What is he? Facing both Number 2 and Number 4 at once, Number 1 unleashes an overwhelming strike that forces both of them back. Catching a wooden sword barehanded, Number 1 scoffs, "Did you two really come here just to show me such petty tricks?" With incredible strength, Number 1 swings his arm, sending Number 4 flying backward in complete shock. Before Number 4 can recover, Number 1 delivers a powerful kick directly to his midsection, slamming him to the ground with a loud groan. Spotting an opening, Number 2 lunges forward from behind with her sword raised, thinking, "An opening!" As she closes the distance, she focuses on his posture, thinking, "I can see the muscle movements." Suddenly, her eyes widen in sheer panic as she senses a trap, thinking, "Wait, it's strange for there to be such a large opening. Don't tell me." Number 2 freezes mid-strike, her face turning pale as she realizes she has completely fallen into his trap. With a swift, powerful upward swing, Number 1 easily counters her attack. Turning to look at her over his shoulder, Number 1 calmly says, "But you were far too slow to realize." Pressing his weapon hard against hers, Number 1 notes the deep cracks forming in her wooden sword, asking, "They aren't perfect, are they?" Glaring down at her with cold, glowing gold eyes, Number 1 adds, "Unlike Number 25. With a massive downward strike, Number 1 completely shatters her defense and sends her crashing to the earth. A painful scream of "Kya!" echoes through the trees as she is decisively defeated. Kneeling on the ground and gasping for breath, Number 2 listens as Number 1 looks down at her and says, "For all that provocation, you weren't much of a challenge." Pointing his sword directly at her neck, Number 1 declares, "Admit your defeat, Number 2. You cannot win against me regardless." Number 1 stands victoriously over her, his expression cold and completely unyielding. Against a dusty brown background, a single advice bubble appears, stating, "That is a premature judgment." Suddenly, a new figure steps into the clearing behind them, prompting a startled and shocked "You!" from the defeated trainees. Dragging the incapacitated body of Number 5, Number 25 makes his strategic entry into the clearing, proving that status ranks are irrelevant when confronted with superior tactical execution. Releasing his grip on the defeated trainee's uniform, Number 25 leaves the opposing leader completely stunned, while Number 2 recovers in the background, nursing her injuries. Looking down at the unconscious number 5, the observers realize that the core pillar of Squad A has been efficiently neutralized, completely dismantling their organizational advantage. Number 25 mocks the very concept of Squad A's elite status, pointing out the absurdity of their pride when they have failed to secure their position through actual results. Remaining entirely composed, number 25 assesses the battlefield, evaluating the most efficient path to secure complete victory for his alliance. Stunned by the sudden loss of his key squad member, number 1 looks around in disbelief as his carefully planned defense crumbles before him. The chaotic battle erupts in full force as the coordinated alliance of trainees overwhelms Squad A, demonstrating that numerical superiority and cooperation yield far greater utility than individual talent. Trainees clash fiercely using wooden weapons, each strike calculated to disarm and incapacitate the opposition with minimal wasted energy. The melee intensifies as the alliance maintains its tight formation, systematically breaking down Squad A's defense through sheer pressure and synchronized action. With a powerful battle cry, the alliance forces launch a decisive offensive, scattering the disorganized remnants of Squad A and securing a dominant position on the field. The narration emphasizes that those previously dismissed as weak have reclaimed their agency, proving that collective rebellion can successfully overthrow an oppressive, stratified hierarchy. Trainee number 438 cheers enthusiastically, celebrating the successful execution of their tactical plan, which has maximized their chances of survival. The title screen marks the progression of this narrative, the Sword Emperor reincarnated into a Swordmaster clan, highlighting the journey of optimizing combat potential. Pointing to the carcass of a massive bear-like monster, a trainee ecstatically announces that this resource ensures the squad's survival, representing a vital net gain for their collective well-being. The group joyfully celebrates their successful hunt, shouting praises for number 25, whose leadership has directly secured their sustenance and safety. Number 25 stands alongside the injured number 3, calmly analyzing the sudden commotion and assessing how to channel the trainee's enthusiasm into a productive alliance. Offering his hand in cooperation, number 25 proposes an alliance to the hesitant trainees, explaining that pooling their resources is the most rational path to mutual survival. Trainee number 438 expresses doubt, pointing out their squad's low ranking and fearing they will only act as a drain on resources rather than contributing utility. Standing before the group, number 25 reminds them of their shared foundation as Cardenas trainees, suggesting that their latent capabilities are currently being underutilized. Explaining his logic, number 25 states that rank numbers are merely arbitrary labels and that their actual growth rates are comparable, though the trainee fiercely rejects this egalitarian perspective. Number 25 continues his rational argument, asserting that because they all carry the same elite bloodline, they each possess the necessary talent to achieve high-utility outcomes. A helpful diagram illustrates that those who manifest unique traits are a small minority, meaning that the baseline strength of the remaining trainees is functionally identical and ripe for collective optimization. Pointing to his own ascent from number 381 to number 25, and number 3's rise through sheer effort, number 25 demonstrates that systematic labor is the true determinant of value. Trainee number 438 counters emotionally, arguing that their low numbers exist because they are fundamentally outmatched, but number 25 interrupts to clarify that the root issue is psychological, not physical. Number 25 challenges the trainees to believe in their own potential, offering them his trust to bridge the confidence gap and maximize their collective efficiency in the trials ahead. Clenching his fist, number 25 officially extends an alliance proposal from Class F to Class E, aiming to consolidate their strength for the greatest mutual benefit. With an open hand, number 25 invites them to join him, offering a path that elevates their survival rate from marginal to highly secure. Standing atop a rock, the blue-haired girl rallies the trainees to charge forward, urging them to seize a high-value victory for the leader who believed in their capacity. Number 1 angrily accuses them of losing their pride by teaming up with those he considers inferior, unable to comprehend the pragmatic value of a broad alliance. The blue-haired girl responds with a bright, confident smile, completely unfazed by his elitist rhetoric because she knows the results speak for themselves. Number 25 observes the exchange silently, fully prepared to let the physical outcome of the battle settle the ideological dispute. Gritting his teeth, a trainee retorts that he simply aligned himself with superior strength, pointing out that a single strong leader does not automatically make an entire squad effective. The allied trainees celebrate over a defeated opponent, demonstrating that cooperative efforts consistently produce successful outcomes where individual efforts fail. Number 25 tilts his head in mild confusion, observing the sudden shift in the battlefield dynamics as the opposing forces begin to capitulate. Recognizing the futility of further resistance, number 2 kneels and offers her surrender, wisely choosing to join Squad F to preserve her own safety and utility. Number 1 stands frozen in shock as he witnesses his own allies prioritize survival and rational self-interest over blind loyalty to his squad. Number 4 sits on the ground laughing, accepting his defeat with good humor as he realizes that the old hierarchy has been thoroughly dismantled. Number 1 glares in absolute fury at number 4, feeling betrayed by his squad mate's pragmatic decision to abandon a lost cause. Brandishing his weapon, number 1 desperately appeals to their shared bloodline and pride, trying to salvage some order from the collapse of his authority. A teammate coldly advises number 1 to stop being stubborn and admit defeat, as clinging to pride in a losing scenario yields zero positive utility. Facing the irrational anger of the defeated leader, number 25 stands calmly as a wooden sword is pointed directly at his chest. Refusing to accept the systemic shift, number 1 demands a one-on-one duel to settle their dispute, hoping to salvage his status through personal combat. Number 1 prepares his weapon with fierce determination, ready to exert maximum force to defend his position as the top trainee. Number 25 smiles subtly, welcoming the opportunity to resolve the conflict efficiently through a decisive single combat rather than a prolonged, costly struggle. Reaching for his wooden sword, number 25 prepares to demonstrate the ultimate futility of number 1's outdated worldview. Drawing his weapon, number 25 unleashes a brilliant golden aura, channeling his highly optimized energy to end the confrontation as swiftly as possible. A bright flash of light accompanies the declaration that he will make number 1 realize the objective reality of their respective strengths. Observers watch the high-stakes confrontation from behind a digital barrier, recognizing that a duel between number 25 and number 1 will determine the future distribution of power. The two combatants face off in the clearing, while the observers eagerly anticipate whether the established order will prevail or if a new, more efficient leader will take charge. The wooden swords clash with immense force, sending shockwaves through the clearing as both fighters expend their maximum effort to secure the optimal outcome. The observer comments on the combatants' fierce clash, noting their unwavering sword strikes and extraordinary destructive power. Looking at his opponent, number 25 acknowledges that trainee number 2 did exceptionally well to withstand those powerful attacks, noting that just defending against them must cause immense fatigue in the arms. Number 1 readies his wooden sword with a cold glare, determined to prove his superior status despite the setback, whispering, "Even so." As the battle rages, number 25 calmly observes that while number 1 is still just a trainee whose strikes are powerful, his movements are easy to read. Startled by number 25's sudden stance, number 1 gasps in shock as a powerful draft of wind cuts through the clearing. Number 25's eyes narrow with absolute focus, fully analyzing his opponent's style to find the perfect opening. From behind the monitoring screens, the veteran blonde-bearded instructor in the red cloak closely monitors the high-stakes duel. The instructor watches intently, wondering if number 25 saw through number 1's technique during their rapid exchange. Stroking his beard, the instructor marvels in disbelief, thinking how incredible it is for a person without a trait to do something even number 2 couldn't do. As their wooden swords clash in a brilliant flash of colored energy, number 25 realizes that number 1 isn't swinging his sword with just physical strength. The secret behind number 1's power is revealed to be psychokinesis, an invisible, formless power that enhances his physical capabilities. Number 1 unleashes a flurry of rapid attacks, his blade leaving a trail of blue light as he attempts to overwhelm his opponent. With a fierce spin, number 1 swings his sword, utilizing his telekinetic energy to increase his range and speed. Dodging gracefully, number 25 strikes back, his sword shattering debris and sending sparks flying across the clearing. The narration explains that by executing a strike from a trajectory where it is normally difficult to apply force, an ordinary or even an experienced trainee would let their guard down, falsely believing a sword couldn't be swung from such an angle. At that crucial moment, number 1 uses his psychokinesis to imbue his arm and sword with power, unleashing an extraordinary destructive force. A colossal shockwave of blue energy rips through the ground as number 1 swings downward while number 25 prepares to withstand the massive impact. Number 1 grits his teeth and yells in frustration, "You bastard, you saw right through my power," while acknowledging that number 25 is quite impressive for a youngster. Their wooden weapons collide with an explosive blast, creating a blinding flash of golden light that illuminates the forest. Leaning forward in astonishment, number 1 remarks that there is something else about his opponent's defense, realizing, and not only that. Stunned by the unexpected resistance, number 2 accuses number 25 of hiding his true strength all this time. Demanding answers, number 1 glares furiously and screams, "Why did you hide it until now?" Remaining entirely composed, number 25 looks at him coldly and replies, "Let my sword answer that for you." A majestic golden crest representing the House of the Sword Duke shines brilliantly, symbolizing the ultimate standard of combat excellence. Number 1 smirks wickedly, letting out a sinister chuckle as he prepares to unleash his ultimate technique, whispering, "Very." Number 25's eyes widen slightly in surprise as a sudden, powerful telekinetic shockwave rushes toward him. The observers watch in awe as a massive fissure tears through the earth, realizing that Number 1 can use psychokinesis not just to enhance his strikes, but to launch long-range slashes as well, proving his position is not just for show. Standing confidently over the ruined ground, Number 1 boasts, "You understand the meaning behind this attack, don't you? No hard feelings, Number 25. You've got quite the confidence." Number 25 maintains his stance, holding his wooden sword firmly as he prepares to counter the overwhelming assault. Number 1 gathers a massive vortex of blue energy around himself, declaring, "Fine, I'll show you exactly what you want to see." Number 25 calmly reasons that he cannot afford to draw unnecessary attention to himself by utilizing that kind of external force during the trial. Gripping his wooden sword tightly, Number 25 decides that his only option now is to swiftly cut down his opponent. With his eye glowing a bright gold, Number 25 moves like lightning to execute a decisive strike to cut his opponent down. Number 25 unleashes a flurry of rapid, blinding movements, creating sonic booms as his sword clashes with Number 1's telekinetic barriers. Number 25 leaps high into the air, gracefully dodging a barrage of blue telekinetic slashes that slice through the forest trees. Growing more frustrated, Number 1 swings his sword horizontally, shouting, "Then how about this?" The powerful telekinetic wave effortlessly slices a massive tree trunk in half as it hurtles towards Number 25. Number 25 clicks his tongue in annoyance as he performs a quick mid-air flip to evade the falling timber and the surrounding shockwaves. Trainee Number 4 asks in confusion, "What do you mean?" as he stands beside the injured Number 2. Number 1 continues his relentless pursuit, shouting, "What? How cowardly!" as Number 25 repeatedly evades his direct attacks. Dashing forward effortlessly, Number 25 reflects on his strategy, while others begin to think he is the cowardly one for hiding his true strength. The blue-haired trainee girl and her squad mate watch the battlefield with tense, worried expressions. Sweating as he watches the fight unfold, the squad mate counters, "No, quite the opposite." Another trainee wearing a green headband observes the screen, remarking, "It looks like he's just running around trying to escape Number 1, but the veteran instructor smiles in admiration, clarifying, "He's making it look that way while cornering Number 1 without him noticing." The instructor compares Number 25's tactical genius to a predator leisurely cornering its prey in the wild. Sweating profusely and gritting his teeth in panic, Number 1 begins to feel the pressure as Number 25 gradually closes the distance. The final trap is sprung as a golden explosion of pure physical force detonates in the forest clearing, completely shattering Number 1's telekinetic defense. With a flawless and powerful swing, Number 25 strikes his opponent directly, sending Number 1 flying backward through the air. Bleeding and wide-eyed with shock, Number 1 gasps in utter disbelief at his definitive defeat, crying out, "No way, me?" A colossal pillar of pure radiant energy erupts violently in the middle of the forest, sending shockwaves and leaves scattering through the air with a deafening blast. Amidst a dark, trembling void, the defeated trainee's mind reels in absolute disbelief as he wonders if he has truly lost the battle. Number 1's eyes widen in utter shock as sweat pours down his face, completely stunned by the overwhelming strength of his opponent's decisive move. As reality begins to set in, he realizes that this crushing blow is far more than just a simple defeat. Looking up in sheer terror, he envisions a colossal, terrifying skeletal specter loom over him, symbolizing the absolute presence of death. The grim, crowned skeletal specter holds a cross against a pitch-black background, radiating an aura of inescapable doom. Sweating profusely as the cold tip of a wooden sword is placed right against his forehead, he feels the terrifying sensation of death itself staring back at him. Number 25 stands completely calm and composed under the bright sunlight filtering through the trees, holding his wooden sword pointed directly at his fallen opponent. Number 1 gasps heavily for air, a wry, defeated smile spreading across his sweat-stained face as he accepts his ultimate loss. Gripping his chest, Number 1 official surrenders, admitting, "I lose, Number 25, while his squad mates watch in silent amazement. With the crowd erupting into deafening cheers of "He won," the dust begins to settle over the massive crater where the legendary duel reached its conclusion. From the monitoring room, the veteran instructor in the red cloak lets out a soft sigh of intrigue, deeply impressed by the incredible performance. Sitting on the dirt, Number 1 sighs with relief and tells Number 25, "I feel a lot better now thanks to you," leaving the victorious trainee slightly surprised. Staring down at his hand, number 1 reflects on his journey, trying to reconcile his long-held beliefs with this sudden release of pressure. He recalls the painful memories of his past, specifically his father's overbearing educational policies and the crushing conviction that he had to be the strongest at all costs. Number 25 tilts his head in confusion, puzzled by his former rival's sudden shift in attitude. With a warm, sportsmanship-like smile, number 25 reaches out and tells his defeated opponent that it was a good, honorable match. Number 1 firmly grasps his hand in a strong handshake, replying with a heartfelt, "Yeah," as they solidify their newfound mutual respect. Back inside the control room, the observers stand in stunned silence, unable to believe that the undisputed top trainee has actually been defeated. The other trainees can hardly process the reality of the situation, expressing their shock since they had placed all their faith in number 1's absolute victory. Despite the shocking turn of incidents, the veteran instructor smiles warmly, remarking that it was a highly unexpected outcome but a great harvest nonetheless. Trainees swarm around number 25 in wild celebration as the official announcement rings out. With this, the field training is officially concluded. Number 4, covered in dirt but smiling brightly, stands alongside a relieved number 2, pleased that the intense trial has finally come to an end. Cheering joyfully, the trainees lift number 25 high into the air and toss him up, celebrating his monumental victory with high spirits. The veteran instructor looks on proudly, noting that number 25 accurately saw through the true, hidden intent of the field training exercise. Turning to his assistant, the instructor commands, "Let's prepare to head back," to which he respectfully bows and responds, "Understood." A pristine white envelope sealed with a majestic red wax stamp lies on a table, holding a highly important message. A dark, ominous orb of red energy commands, "Tell them the time has come for the coming-of-age ceremony." Under a beautiful, starry night sky, number 25 gently strokes a giant, majestic white wolf, softly telling it, "I'm leaving tomorrow, but I can't take you with me." The giant white wolf looks down with sad, expressive blue eyes, letting out a soft whine of disappointment. Number 25 offers a gentle, reassuring smile to his loyal companion, promising that they will meet again. Under the bright glow of the full moon shining down upon the quiet mountains, the wolf whines softly, as if understanding his words. With a happy howl, the giant wolf barks affectionately, enjoying these last peaceful moments together with its master. Number 25 gently rubs the wolf's soft muzzle, sharing a deep, silent bond of friendship and trust. He looks at his companion with a warm, hopeful expression, knowing that this parting is necessary for both of them to grow stronger. The massive beast happily pants with its tongue out, completely cheered up by its master's warm affection. Carrying his spear, number 25 walks away down the forest path as the wolf's howl echoes behind him, silently thinking, "Make sure you're strong enough to keep up with my journey." Inside the moving carriage, a heavy silence fills the air as the trainees sit quietly, with number 25 and the former number 1 now wearing each other's swapped badges, representing their new ranks. Looking at the awkward silence between the two top trainees, the blue-haired girl curiously asks what they are doing in the same carriage. Number 4 chimes in, saying he simply wanted to have a word with the incredible guy who successfully crawled his way all the way up from the very bottom. He explains that he wanted to talk to the genius who jumped from rank 381 to rank 1 in just a single month, which shocks the girls, while the former number 1 fumes in annoyance, wondering if they are surprisingly academic. The new rank 1 and the new rank 25 exchange a silent, awkward glance inside the carriage. Teasing him, the blue-haired girl asks the former leader if his head was hit too hard during the battle, causing him to react angrily and yell, "Shut up!" Explaining the upcoming changes, the former leader mentions that starting tomorrow, they will receive supplies strictly based on their grades, as the narration notes that they are heading back to training as true descendants of Cardenas. A mysterious red potion swirling with magical energy is revealed, with the trainees learning that the blood awakening ceremony is about to begin. The narration explains that the Cardenas bloodline possesses unique organs that normal humans do not, and the coming ceremony is a special ritual designed to awaken them, shifting their entire training focus. Listening intently, number 4 realizes that this explains why the training grounds only taught basic subjects until now, as the trainees wonder what happens once those special organs finally awaken. The sturdy wooden wheels of the carriage spin rapidly along the dirt path, carrying the trainees toward their next major destination. It is revealed that this upcoming ritual is the exact reason why spirit fruits and spirit stones were strictly banned in the training grounds, leaving some of them curious about their true power. The ultimate goal is revealed. Once the blood awakening ceremony concludes and their basic preparations are complete, the qualified trainees will finally join the prestigious Young Dragon Knighthood. Young Dragon Knighthood? That's news to me, remarks the trainee as he raises his hands in surprise. Inside the carriage, Leonard looks out the window, listening intently as the others talk about their training curriculum. They design a curriculum optimized for every single trainee, explains the smiling blonde girl. Leonard turns back to look at his companion, who continues explaining the details of the coming ceremony. An intricate magic circle represents the core concepts. To be precise, they're called mana cores. Their attributes and numbers vary from person to person. The blue-haired girl, with her arms securely wrapped in a white sling, taps her chest in agreement. A bright golden aura shines as the voice explains, by the way, the fewer cores you have, the better. Among them, the single core is considered the absolute best. The trainee raises a gloved finger to emphasize his point about the rare mana cores. With a dramatic, confident look, he declares, and I am undoubtedly a single core. A single core only appears once every 10 years or so, he continues proudly, making his companions laugh while Leonard listens silently. Leonard reflects on his past life. I did similar training in my past life. Originally, 5 soul sources were the 5 elements. 5 elements? The blonde girl chimes in with a serious expression warning, that would be a pentacore. They have the worst training efficiency imaginable. She continues explaining the theory to the group. That's why the efficiency drops so hard. An abstract blue-striped background highlights the harsh math. If a single is the base, a dual is 4x, a triple is 9x, and a quad is 16x. An illustration compares the burden. A single-core trainee stands easily with 1 box, a dual-core trainee sweats under 4 boxes, and a triple-core trainee is crushed beneath a stack of 9. A trainee with a 5-core system is shown completely exhausted next to an overwhelming, chaotic mountain of wooden boxes. Looking slightly nervous, Leonard wonders, is one really that uninterested in theory? Before muttering a quiet, well... The blue-haired girl and the blonde girl cheerfully reassure Leonard, laughing as they say, hey, if you're that strong in a real fight, you don't need theory. Resting his chin on his hand, Leonard contemplates, but if the training I know works in this world too, this is a massive chance. If you could actually train all the cores, wouldn't a pentacore be the strongest? Trainee number 4 raises a finger with a grin. Without resources, there's a limit to how far you can train. A glowing text bubble reads, so having more cores is just a disadvantage. Inside the cramped carriage, Leonard secretly clenches his fist as he thinks, in that case, a dual or triple core would be the safe bet. I'd be satisfied with a triple, while his companion mutters in annoyance, will someone please shut him up? Against a purple background, Leonard continues his internal dialogue. If a single core appeared, I'd stand out way too much. It'd be a pain. A dramatic announcement rings out across the room. Leonard, pentacore. Leonard stands completely frozen in disbelief, staring blankly as the reality of his devastating evaluation sinks in. Over a dark, textured background, onlookers whisper in disappointment. To think he was blessed with the talent for the sword, but not the talent for the bloodline. Oh, dragon, why would you do such a thing? Leonard walks down the grand hall alone, his back turned to the light as he processes the disappointing results. Sweating in frustration, he thinks to himself, well, I've stood out all right, just for all the wrong reasons. Holding his wooden sword, Leonard stands in the massive, beautifully decorated hall, bathed in the bright sunlight streaming through the windows. Filled with regret, he sighs internally. I didn't mean for it to turn out like this. Leonard scratches his head in frustration, trying to shake off his irritation. Suddenly, Leonard's eyes widen as a sharp, red-tinted line of focus cuts across his vision. With a swift, agile step, Leonard effortlessly evades a sudden, powerful blast of wind that slices across the marble floor. He turns his head back in surprise as a voice echoes, "Oh, impressive." A close-up reveals a hand clad in a gray glove gathering a glowing green energy. To be able to see this sword at such a young age? Tall, muscular warrior in heavy silver plate armor and a bright red cape steps forward, officially introduced as the young dragon knighthood commander, Fabian. Fabian approaches Leonard, who politely introduces himself. I am Leonard, formerly 381. While Fabian remarks, to have reached such heights at your age? Fabian looks down at the young trainee, thoroughly impressed by his incredible physical potential. Fabian reflects on the combat demonstration, noting the impression that the presence of aura had nothing to do with the completion of one's martial arts. Fabian throws his head back and lets out a booming, boisterous laugh. Gahaha! Patting Leonard on the shoulder, the commander smiles warmly and says, good attitude, I like you. Placing his hand proudly over his heart, he declares, my name is Fabian. I am the commander of the Young Dragon Knighthood and a Swordmaster. I stake my name and title on this promise. He smiles warmly at the stunned young trainee, promising, I see you as someone qualified for special grade status. I guarantee you the best treatment. Fabian's assistant stands closely behind him, sweating nervously at the commander's sudden, reckless decision. Fabian turns and shouts with passionate resolve, "Core count doesn't matter." Over a red and white splattered background, Fabian's booming voice continues, "You'll never achieve greatness if you fret over trifles. If there's talent, we should invest in it fully." The assistant lets out a heavy, defeated sigh, completely exhausted by the commander's loud and dramatic antics. Stepping forward, the assistant hands over a bundle of supplies to Leonard, saying, "You are worthy of the special grade. Take this. It's a spatial bag." Fabian looks down at Leonard with a proud, encouraging grin. Pointing toward a grand corridor filled with floating red magical energy, Fabian instructs, "Go on, make your pick. Beyond these doors lie various training locations." "Normally, we would choose based on your skill level, but I'll grant you the right to decide," the voice explains, causing Leonard to look back with a surprised expression as he holds his supplies. Looking up at Commander Fabian, Leonard asks, "Which location offers the resources best suited for my current level?" With a boisterous laugh, Commander Fabian slaps Leonard on the back so hard that it nearly knocks him off balance. Pointing dramatically toward one of the massive, glowing doors, Fabian declares, "Then you shall go to Calabogos." A detailed map reveals Calabogos to be an isolated, hazardous territory surrounded by treacherous mountains and monstrous creatures. The narration explains that untamed wilderness is the only fitting way to describe this perilous place, where savage beasts fight endlessly for survival. What's more, certain areas are so dangerous they're practically demon territory, the narrator warns as a colossal creature stamps its claw into the ground. Under a blood-red moon, giant, monstrous predators rule the forest, far outmatching any ordinary beasts. Looking forward to it, Fabian asks, to which Leonard confidently responds, "Yes, thank you for your consideration, Commander Fabian," as he pushes open the heavy, glowing doors. As he steps through, Leonard reflects that the reason pentacore training is considered difficult in this world is simply because people do not know the proper method. He recalls the principles of his past life. The 5 elements are a single flow, yet also a single mass, meaning that if he can elevate all of them together, it is actually a golden opportunity for him to grow stronger and transcend even the incredible heights of his previous life. "Then, I wish you luck," echoes behind him as Leonard strides confidently into the blinding, teleporting light of the magic doorway. Leonard shields his eyes with his arm as the intense flash of the teleportation gate begins to clear. He finally arrives in the lush, untamed wilderness of Calabogos. Standing on a dirt path, Leonard looks around in awe at the sheer scale of the towering trees surrounding him. Suddenly, a calm voice calls out from behind him, saying, "Welcome," catching the young trainee completely off guard. Sweating slightly, Leonard realizes that he didn't hear a single sound before the speaker appeared, concluding that this person must be incredibly skilled. The man, wearing a green cloak and a sword at his waist, stands before Leonard and asks, "So you're the trainee everyone's talking about?" "Are you the rumored trainee?" he repeats, studying Leonard's reaction closely. Bowing politely, Leonard replies, "Nice to meet you. I'm Leonard." "I'm Bradley," the man introduces himself, looking back over his shoulder with a calm, experienced demeanor. When Leonard asks if he is also an instructor, Bradley simply raises a finger and replies, "No." Walking ahead, Bradley explains, "You're of the same status, but you should still show some respect to your seniors," though Leonard notes to himself that his tone makes it sound optional. Smiling, Bradley tells him, "I'll keep that in mind," acknowledging Leonard's cooperative attitude. "After that, you'll have to figure everything out on your own. Got it?" Bradley warns, preparing Leonard for the harsh, self-guided training ahead. Bradley explains that normally a trainee's basic needs wouldn't be any of his business, but because of Leonard's special treatment, he will at least provide him with a place to sleep. Stopping before a wooden door built right into the base of a colossal tree, Bradley says it has everything you need. Leonard stares at the rustic tree trunk lodging, curious about what kind of place this will be. That concludes the basic explanation. "Do you have any questions?" Bradley asks with a friendly chuckle. Pointing around the simple interior of the lodging, Bradley explains, "There's a slight difference, but it's simple." With a playful gesture, Bradley clarifies, "During the training period, I'll basically just be ensuring the others don't lay a hand on you." Bradley stands quietly, waiting as the young trainee hesitates before speaking. Heaving his massive backpack forward, Leonard asks, "Please tell me the value of the training resources I was provided." Bradley opens the bag to find it packed to the brim with glowing spirit stones and countless high-grade potions, thinking, even for the #1 trainee, this is an awful lot. He is shocked to realize that Leonard, who is supposedly from a mere branch family, has received more resources than even direct-line descendants usually get, indicating the commander's immense favor. A helpful illustration explains that a spirit stone is an ore imbued with raw mana, which a cultivator absorbs to gradually expand their mana hole. Leonard sets the heavy spatial bag down onto the floor with a loud thud, ready to begin his practice. Turning back with a sharp, serious expression, Bradley points a finger at Leonard to emphasize his next point. A pyramid diagram is shown as Bradley explains that crossing each of these realms brings a cultivator closer to becoming a true martial artist. The first is the realm of physical tempering, Bradley explains, where the physical vessel is strengthened to hold mana. The second is the external power realm, where a martial artist gains the ability to release their power outside of the physical body. The third is the realm of refining one's individuality, which allows a warrior's unique traits and fighting style to truly blossom. The fourth realm involves condensing this power into a refined, condensed sphere of ultimate control. And in the fifth, you transcend humanity and reach godhood, Bradley finishes as Leonard sits cross-legged on the floor listening intently. A magnificent illustration depicts a legendary golden-armored knight who achieved this ultimate godlike power. Bradley lets out a sigh and folds his arms, returning to a more realistic tone. With a sinister grin and his eyes glowing a menacing cyan, Bradley reminds Leonard that such heights are incredibly far off. Bradley coughs into his fist, quickly composing himself after his dramatic outburst. First up is mana cultivation, Bradley instructs, telling Leonard to use his training resources to temper his physical body and expand his mana hole. Bradley smirks knowingly, pleased to see Leonard's focused attitude. Bradley turns to open the wooden door to leave, while Leonard sits cross-legged on the floor and asks, "Excuse me?" Bradley's parting words echo behind him, "I wish you luck," leaving a bewildered Leonard sitting alone and muttering, "Huh?" Looking down at the pile of glowing spirit stones scattered on the floor, Leonard mutters, "Absorption, huh?" He picks up a single shining stone, examining the raw mana contained within the crystal. Clenching the spirit stone tightly in his fist, Leonard prepares to absorb its raw energy. A confident smile spreads across his face as he readies himself to begin his cultivation. As night falls and a bright full moon shines over the forest lodging, Leonard suddenly notices something unusual and mutters, "This is strange." A fierce, fiery orange energy wraps around Leonard's arm, causing his veins to bulge under the intense physical strain. Feeling the immense power surging through his body, Leonard flexes his arm and notes, "At this rate, I could reach the 5th stage in a single day." Lying flat on his back next to his supplies, Leonard reflects, "Thanks to retaining memories from my past life, this training has become too easy. The pentacore operates the same way as the 5 elements from my past life." Looking up thoughtfully, he worries, "Still, if I finish it in a single day, it'll definitely look suspicious. In that case, should I seclude myself in the mountains to train for a few days?" Suddenly, he hesitates as he remembers Commander Fabian's expectations, thinking, "No, wait." A clever smirk appears on his face as he decides, "If I master the techniques from my past life right now, I might be able to play along with that narrative perfectly." Meanwhile, outside in the lush forest of Calabogos, 3 other trainees stand together. They look toward the closed cabin door, with one asking, "Hasn't he been holed up in there for over a month?" To which another responds, "A month and a half." One of the trainees lets out a heavy, disappointed sigh, completely tired of waiting. Turning away from the cabin, they decide to move on, saying, "Let's hurry up and go fishing." Walking down the path, one of them grumbles, "Seriously?" Another trainee remarks, "We should at least beat the orc level." Back inside, Leonard stands up covered in dirt, adjusting his red tie and thinking, "Should I ask Sir Bradley for a real sword?" The scene shifts to a majestic mountain towering over the dense, untamed wilderness of Calabogos. Bradley stands before Leonard in a clearing, crossing his arms and asking, "What's your reason?" In response, Leonard rolls up his sleeve and takes a solid stance, ready to demonstrate his progress. With a sudden explosive burst of power, a shockwave of scion energy blasts outward from Leonard, shattering the ground and leaving Bradley completely stunned. As dust and rocks fly everywhere, Bradley is thoroughly impressed by the young trainee's raw display of power, whispering, "Ho ho." Leonard stands calmly amidst the swirling debris, his fist clenched in a composed stance. Smiling, Bradley acknowledges Leonard's talent, thinking, "It's an impressive rate of growth, but..." Unleashing a terrifying dark red aura, Bradley draws his blade and warns, "Don't get ahead of yourself, apprentice." Sweating profusely under the suffocating pressure of Bradley's immense aura, Leonard is struck with panic, thinking, "What? As I am right now?" Before Leonard can even react, Bradley swiftly swings his sword, gently tapping the flat of the blade against Leonard's cheek. Bradley smiles warmly and sheathes his weapon, leaving a stunned Leonard to nervously scratch his head at the sudden demonstration of peak swordsmanship. Stunned, Leonard can only blink in surprise as Bradley prepares to hand him his next task. Bradley holds up a glowing crystal stone with a smirk, explaining the value of hunting monsters to gather resources. Bradley turns around and walks away, casually waving his hand over his shoulder. Standing alone in the forest, Leonard unfurls a detailed map of the surrounding hazardous territories to plan his next move. Deciding to check out a dangerous area marked with a skull, Leonard heads deep into the Forest of Remnants as night falls, where a swarm of shadow-like goblins with glowing yellow eyes lurks in the darkness. Deep within the Forest of Remnants, savage goblins with razor-sharp teeth prowl through the undergrowth, seeking their next prey. Their green-clawed feet stomp heavily on the damp, dark forest floor. Emerging from the misty woods, a pack of large, menacing green creatures known as hobgoblins appears. The fearsome hobgoblins, classified as E2 rank monsters, glare with menacing yellow eyes as they prepare to attack. With a clean, swift strike of his sword, Leonard walks forward calmly as blood splatters behind him, noting, no matter how cleanly you cut them down, you can't hide the smell of blood. In a blur of white and blue sword strikes, Leonard effortlessly slices through the surrounding horde of goblins. As a defeated goblin disintegrates and spits out a glowing spirit stone, Leonard reaches down to pick it up, noting about 100 low-grade spirit stones in one day. Looking at the glowing crystal in his hand, Leonard admits, not bad, but he realizes that he can no longer expect any significant progress by staying here, thinking, I can't expect any more growth in the Forest of Remnants. As a few remaining goblins rush at him, Leonard dismisses them, thinking only E-rank weaklings live here. Suddenly, Leonard pauses and turns his head sharply, detecting a dangerous presence approaching from the shadows. Gripping his sword, he detects a completely different, much more powerful scent nearby, thinking, this smell is different from before. A gnoll? Leonard's hand trembles with excitement as he grips the hilt of his sword tightly, ready to face a worthy opponent. Leonard stands amidst swirling dark wind in the misty forest, realizing that the beast ahead is completely ignoring stealth because it views him as easy prey. Gripping his sword as dust and debris blow around him, Leonard notes with a sharp glare that he is clearly being underestimated. With a cold glare from his crimson eyes, Leonard calmly taunts his opponent, saying, "Come on, mutt," as a sudden impact echoes through the trees. A massive red-eyed gnoll lunges downward with a savage roar, its jaws wide open as it attacks. The beast unleashes a powerful downward swing with its massive double-sided axe, shattering the stone ground into fragments. Leonard stands firm, crossing his arms defensively as the heavy dust and shockwave from the beast's attack blow past him. Looking back calmly at his massive opponent, Leonard tells the beast to stop its incessant screaming, saying, "Quit screaming, damn dog!" The monster bares its razor-sharp teeth, saliva dripping from its mouth as it glares with glowing red eyes. Feeling the immense impact vibrate through his hands, Leonard marvels at how the beast can alter its attack path with such monstrous power. With incredible agility, Leonard leaps high into the air, narrowly dodging a devastating horizontal swipe of the giant axe. Seeing the bulging veins on the monster's muscular hide, Leonard realizes this opponent's strength is far greater than that of an ordinary gnoll. Standing in the windy forest, Leonard calmly analyzes the beast's movements to find a weakness. A systematic guide explains the monster's classifications, noting that a normal goblin is ranked E1, while its evolved form, the hobgoblin, reaches rank E2. The guide further explains that a standard, unawakened gnoll is categorized as a rank D1 threat. Leonard observes the creature, recalling that a monster's awakening process typically concludes after a single evolution. As the ferocious beast lunges at him from behind, Leonard realizes its power vastly exceeds rank D2, pointing to an even higher evolution. A system box identifies the formidable creature as an Adnol, a dangerous rank D3 opponent, as it snaps its jaws close to Leonard's head. Leonard smiles confidently, thrilled to finally have some worthwhile training, while the beast growls in surprise at his lack of fear. Leonard unleashes a flurry of swift, glowing blue slashes that engulf the beast in a brilliant display of swordsmanship. A single massive blue energy wave cuts vertically through the air, dealing a powerful blow to the opponent. Sidestepping with perfect poise, Leonard notes that an attack so wild and unrefined is incredibly easy to predict. Dodging effortlessly, Leonard leaps over the beast's massive weapon, confidently declaring that its attacks will never hit him. Leonard lands gracefully, striking the beast's side with a swift and calculated counterattack. The beast's axe strikes the ground with such force that sparks fly, leaving Leonard to marvel at its raw density and power. Looking down at the axe stuck deep in the fractured stone, Leonard concludes that his opponent relies purely on brute strength. Seizing the perfect opportunity while the axe is firmly lodged in the ground, Leonard plans his next move since standard sword strikes are ineffective. Leonard spins with blinding speed, gathering momentum for a decisive physical blow. He focuses intensely, acknowledging that while the beast's bones and muscles are incredibly tough, it still has critical vulnerabilities. Leonard aims his weapon directly at the beast's open mouth, noting that its interior is completely unprotected. Leonard delivers a devastating strike directly to the monster's head, unleashing a massive shockwave of pure force. The mighty Agnol falls defeated to the ground, leaving behind a valuable glowing purple spirit stone. Leonard watches in silence as the high-grade crystal floats before him, reflecting on the spoils of his victory. The monster's body completely dissolves into purple magical particles, leaving nothing but the crystal. With his dual blades in hand, Leonard walks away from the forest clearing, satisfied that he has completed his training there. Back in his room, Leonard sits cross-legged on the stone floor, cultivating his mana as a brilliant blue aura swirls around him. Looking down at his hands, Leonard is astounded by his rapid progress, having already achieved the 10th stage of body tempering. Analyzing the complex pentagram circles of his pentacore, Leonard worries that reaching stage 10 so quickly will attract unwanted attention and wonders how to gather resources discreetly. Leonard's focus is interrupted by concerned voices whispering outside his training room, wondering if something has happened to him. Outside, the senior trainees walk down the path, noting that there are no signs of Leonard ever leaving his quarters. One of the trainees asks his companions if it is truly necessary to inspect Leonard's cabin every single day. The senior trainee looks deeply anxious, sweating slightly as he ponders the newcomer's mysterious and prolonged seclusion. A flashback illustrates a grand castle and a handshake, reminding the trainees that at a prestigious house like Cardenas, building strong connections is the ultimate key to influence. Pointing toward the rustic cabin, a trainee explains that even the powerful commander has kept a close eye on Leonard's potential. Disregarding the chatter, a trainee named Hayden carrying a wooden bucket pushes his friend aside to head toward the door. Hayden sets down a bucket filled with fresh fish near the door, muttering in concern that he hopes the young trainee hasn't died inside. Listening from the other side, Leonard is pleasantly surprised to find that his seniors are actually caring, realizing that their constant visits were out of genuine concern. Peering through a small slit in the wooden door, Leonard gets a clear, detailed look at the senior's face. A plan begins to form in Leonard's mind, realizing that while his own rapid progress would look highly suspicious, attributing the growth to a 10-year veteran senior would avoid any scrutiny. Hayden sighs in relief and wipes the sweat from his forehead, hoping a small gesture of food will help the novice trainee. Left alone once more, Leonard prepares to initiate his plan, muttering that it has been a long time since he used this technique, but deciding it is well worth the try. Leonard prepares to use a technique, raising his hand to his head as energy starts to swirl around him. A text box explains reverse utilization art, a disguise technique that manipulates facial veins and muscles, while Leonard recalls that as Sword Emperor, he never had a reason to hide his identity. Under the intense stress of the physical technique, blood vessels bulge on Leonard's face as his physical features begin to alter completely. Leonard thinks, "To think I'd use this to hide my power," as a wide view reveals his secluded wooden cabin nestled under a massive cliff illuminated by a giant full moon. In the room, steam and energy rise from Leonard's hands as he looks down, completing his transformation. Now disguised as a completely different young trainee with blonde hair and golden eyes, Leonard stretches his shoulders and thinks, "You are Hayden, right?" A transition screen reads, 3 months later, Bone Mountain Swamp, depicting a dark, misty, and desolate marshland. Dashing through the foggy swamp, Leonard recalls the ironclad rule for survival he has learned so far. There's no one else out here. Every creature in this place possesses poison and some kind of ability to hide. That's why I must move with caution. Leaping onto a high tree branch, Leonard keeps his guard up, knowing that if he lets his guard down, he will be devoured by the lizard man lurking in the swamp below. Drawing his sword on the branch, Leonard notes, a typical lizard man is rank C. They're even stronger than Agnol, who was an anomaly. Since they're numerous, I'll end this in a single blow. With a powerful leap, Leonard drops down from above to surprise a giant reptilian monster rising from the murky swamp water. Bringing his blade down with blinding speed and force, Leonard unleashes a massive strike onto the creature's skull. In a fluid motion, Leonard lands on the beast's head and slices cleanly through it with a sharp horizontal slash, spraying dark blood. Leonard stands victoriously over the slain beast with a calm, analytical expression. Suddenly, another lizard man emerges from the water from behind, wielding a sharp spear and preparing to strike. The hostile monster snaps its jaws and charges forward, emitting a low growl as it prepares to lunge at Leonard. Sparting the attack, Leonard swings his sword with effortless precision, stating, "You're fast, but your movements are simple." With a swift, powerful blue energy slash, Leonard easily cleaves through the lizard man, declaring, "I don't have time to play with someone who has no formal training in swordsmanship." The defeated monster dissolves into light, leaving behind a glowing, multifaceted spirit stone. Grabbing the floating crystal, Leonard continues through the swamp, deciding it is time to change locations. A visualization shows intense blue lightning surging through a cultivator's body. The text notes, the total amount of mana contained within 1,500 mid-grade spirit stones is more than enough to reach the next stage in one go. However, the process of crossing a major boundary is incredibly intense. Leonard realizes, if I break through a major boundary here on Karabagos Island, it'll be difficult to keep it a secret. He stands in a vibrant green forest, holding his sword while looking at the surrounding mountains. Walking along a dirt path, Leonard looks around the quiet, sun-dappled woods. Leonard thinks, somewhere I can at least take shelter from the wind and rain, as he pushes his way through the dense green foliage. Leonard stops suddenly, his red eyes widening as his gaze fixes on something unexpected in the distance. Looking down from a ridge, Leonard is surprised to see a hidden crop cultivation field, asking himself, is that a field? Observing the glowing blue plants, Leonard thinks, to think there are so many spirit herbs with a higher mana absorption rate than spirit stones. He then spots a giant, muscular, tusked monster and wonders, is the cave's guardian, the troll, managing them? The green-skinned, muscular troll suddenly twitches its ears, detecting a sound as a red exclamation box registers its alarm. Sensing the danger, Leonard quickly drops behind a rock, thinking, something's coming. A massive explosion of earth shatters the field as a gigantic wolf-like creature leaps from the trees to ambush the cave-guarding troll. The text identifies the beast as a lycanthrope, as it unleashes a barrage of blue electrical strikes, sending the troll back. A majestic, glowing white lycanthrope cloaked in intense blue lightning lands with a snarl, establishing its presence. Watching the intense confrontation from safety, Leonard wonders, is this a territorial dispute? Seeing the magical shockwaves warping the surrounding air, Leonard comments, it's striking with lightning and making the earth rumble. Can monsters of that level harness the power of nature? The ground explodes into fragments as the two monstrous titans clash with immense brute force. The troll roars, picking up a massive boulder of soil and stone, while Leonard notes, manipulating dozens of tons of earth and stone at will? Even for me, that would be a struggle. The lycanthrope dodges the thrown boulder with lightning speed, preparing to counterattack. The two powerful monsters roar in unison as they lock in a brutal close-quarters combat, refusing to back down. A massive shockwave of lightning and debris erupts as their attacks collide, while Leonard watches the chaotic battle unfold from behind a safe vantage point. Realizing this is the perfect opportunity, Leonard slips past the clash, thinking, I should be able to explore the cave while they're occupied. He makes his way toward the dark opening of the cave, reasoning, if a troll of that level is standing guard, there might be some incredible treasure inside. Stepping into the quiet, dark cavern, Leonard notes, I just stepped inside, yet I can't hear the noise from outside anymore. This is the perfect spot to break through the major boundary. Walking deeper, Leonard is stunned to find a giant golden tree glowing with a brilliant yellow aura in the center of a large chamber surrounded by mid-grade spirit herbs. Leonard's sweat drops as he looks closely at one of the glowing blue spirit herbs, wondering, is the troll growing these? Feeling a strange hum in the air, Leonard looks around the chamber with a surprised expression. Raising his hand toward the space in front of him, Leonard releases a spark of blue mana to test the air. The mana spark collides with a hidden hexagonal barrier that ripples with blue electrical energy. Seeing the protective barrier, Leonard smiles confidently and says, this is what's protecting it. Everything about this place is bizarre. This golden tree? What on earth is it? Stepping closer, Leonard gently reaches his hand out to touch the vibrant, glowing golden leaves of the mysterious tree. I doubt that troll even understands what this is. Staring up at the magnificent golden foliage, Leonard clenches his fist in thought, wondering if the guardian troll even truly understands the incredible value of the tree it is guarding. It seems like I have company. Suddenly, Leonard's sharp eyes narrow as he senses an ominous presence nearby, realizing that he is no longer alone in the cavern. Towering behind Leonard, the colossal guardian troll looms in the shadows, its massive body covered in fresh wounds from its previous battle as it glares down at the intruder. With a sudden burst of speed, Leonard moves to dodge an incoming strike as a brilliant flash of blue energy cuts through the dark cavern. Because of the properties that block out mana and noise, I didn't notice him at all. Leaping backward to create some distance, Leonard realizes that the unique barrier blocking out mana and sound in this cave completely hid the troll's approach. Fortunately, his combat wounds haven't healed yet. Observing the blood still dripping from the beast's deep gashes, Leonard notes that the troll hasn't had time to heal from its brutal encounter with the lycanthrope outside. Roaring in fury, the giant troll unleashes a powerful earth-shattering blow, cracking the very foundations of the cave. With incredible agility, Leonard leaps high into the air, maneuvering through the falling rocks with his sword drawn. He aimed for the entrance to trap me instead of attacking me directly? As massive boulders cave in and block the exit, Leonard quickly deduces that the troll strategically targeted the cave's entrance to trap him inside. Fine by me. I'll take you on. Smirking at the challenge, Leonard channels a surge of blue lightning energy around his body, ready to face the giant beast head-on. Tremors shake the cavern as a heavy downpour of shattered stones and debris rains from above. Even the surrounding forest paths shake from the immense shockwaves of the fierce clash taking place inside the cave. Disregarding his own injuries, the monstrous troll sprints forward, kicking up dust and rubble as he rushes his target. Did he realize in just a few exchanges that he can't win in speed? Dodging a barrage of high-velocity stones, Leonard clicks his tongue, realizing the troll immediately shifted tactics after recognizing its disadvantage in speed. To think he'd throw rocks so recklessly like this! The giant beast scoops up heavy pieces of shattered bedrock and hurls them recklessly, seeking to overwhelm Leonard with sheer volume. Even a single hit would be fatal. Vaulting over a massive flying boulder, Leonard keeps his focus sharp, knowing that a single direct hit from such devastating weight would be fatal. He's a sharp one. Deflecting a smaller stone with his blade, Leonard channels blue electrical energy, acknowledging that the troll possesses surprising combat intellect. His crimson eyes lock onto his target, analyzing the giant's stance to find the perfect opening. In an instant, Leonard transforms into a blur, charging straight toward the troll with crackling energy trailing in his wake. I'll settle this in one blow. Closing the distance rapidly, Leonard prepares his sword, determined to end the battle with a single decisive strike. Garu! The troll lets out a confused cry of alarm as Leonard's blade slices cleanly through its defensive aura with blinding speed. Spinning midair, Leonard delivers a devastating slash across the giant's chest and back, drawing a massive spray of dark blood. He was protected by the earth and rocks. If it weren't for that. Landing safely, Leonard looks back as a bright orange glow erupts behind him, realizing the troll managed to cushion the worst of the impact using its earth manipulation abilities. Naturally, to Leonard's surprise, a colossal pillar of fire suddenly erupts around the troll, revealing that it can harness more than just the earth element. The air turns scorching hot as violent roaring flames envelop the massive beast, turning the cavern into a blazing inferno. Bringing down its giant flame-engulfed fist, the troll smashes the ground, unleashing a wave of destructive heat. I see. No wonder the lycanthropes were defeated. Crouching low to dodge the blast, Leonard finally understands how the troll managed to overcome the powerful lightning-cloaked lycanthrope outside. You were a dual-element user from the very beginning. Grrrr. Facing the roaring beast, Leonard notes that the troll was a dual-element user from the start, capable of manipulating both earth and fire as the monster growls in rage. This isn't a problem I can solve just by closing the distance. The fiery troll stomps forward, shaking the burning ground, forcing Leonard to reconsider his close-range approach due to the intense ambient heat. If I touch that heat, I'll be melted in an instant. Leaping backward through the air, Leonard acknowledges that getting too close to that supreme heat would melt him in an instant. I have to identify a gap and end it in one shot. With sweat dripping down his face, Leonard keeps his eyes trained on the burning titan, searching for the single perfect opening to strike. This is just like the dragon's coat. Propelling himself high above the flames, Leonard is reminded of the legendary battle techniques of a dragon's combat as he prepares a special stance. Undeterred, the massive troll advances through the raging fire, leaving charred footprints on the molten stone. Now! Spotting a fleeting opening, Leonard's eyes flash with a red glare as he dives straight down like a falling star, shouting that the time is now. Landing a heavy strike directly onto the troll's shoulder, Leonard uses the momentum of his descent to shatter the giant's guard. This sensation, it's nostalgic. Looking down with a calm expression, Leonard feels a wave of nostalgia from executing such high-level, precise combat techniques once more. In a flash, a concentrated beam of brilliant blue mana erupts from Leonard's blade, blasting straight through the troll's body and into the ground. Landing light on his feet, Leonard immediately leaps backward to avoid any desperate counterattacks from the wounded giant. With perfect poise, Leonard executes a backflip mid-air, clearing the sea of fire that still burns fiercely below. It's too late. As the troll tries to raise its arms in a final defense, Leonard swings his sword down, coldly declaring that it is already too late. A sharp lance of pure condensed blue mana pierces straight through the troll's chest, dealing a final fatal blow. I pierced his chest. Surely it's over now. Stepping back, Leonard breathes a sigh of relief, confident that piercing the monster's core chest area has finally put an end to the battle. However, the giant troll's chest suddenly begins to pulse with a violent, unstable red and purple light, revealing a cracking energy core inside. The glowing, highly unstable dual-element spirit stone floats in the center of the troll's chest, crackling with volatile energy. In the next instant, the core destabilizes completely, unleashing a massive, blinding explosion of fire and destructive energy. This is bad if he explodes at this distance. Caught off guard by the self-destructing core, Leonard's face tenses as he realizes he is far too close to survive the blast unscathed. The sheer force of the fiery blast erupts outward, completely engulfing the cave chamber and throwing Leonard's body back like a rag doll. Gah! Coughing up a gasp of pain, Leonard is slammed violently against the rock wall of the cave, his clothes singed and torn from the explosive impact. Hunched over on the grass, Leonard spits out a mouthful of blood, his body battered and clothes shredded, but victorious after surviving the terrifying battle. Resting beneath the giant golden tree, Leonard recovers his composure as fire and smoke consume the surrounding cavern. Surrounded by a heap of glowing spirit stones, Leonard decides to push forward, thinking, which means it doesn't matter what happens here. I've heard that if you reach a higher realm, your physical body will recover. There is no time to hesitate. Determined to survive, Leonard reaches out with a scratched hand to grab one of the glowing stones from the grass. I can feel it. The mana from the spirit stones is permeating my broken mana organs. Inwardly, Leonard's heart glows with intense power as he notes, my body is also being healed by spirit stones. Seeking further aid to bolster his recovery, Leonard crawls on the cavern floor and reaches towards some glowing green spirit herbs. He plucks the leaves of the spirit herb and eagerly stuffs them into his mouth, determined to absorb every bit of energy he can find. Sitting cross-legged in deep meditation, a massive vortex of blue energy and stone swirls around Leonard as he thinks, the preparations are complete, mana exceeding my capacity is raging wildly. Deep inside his soul, the 5 colored rings of his pentacore spin rapidly, prompting him to note, and the pentacore has started rotating all at once. A brilliant sphere of light condenses in his core as Leonard feels, I feel all my energy becoming one. With mana swirling fiercely around his body, Leonard thinks, it's like a new heart. As the surge of power continues, the narrator notes, and he broke through to a new realm. Meanwhile, Leonard struggles to contain the overflowing force, wondering, and yet, why won't it stop? The blue lightning around him crackles intensely as the narration highlights, even though he has long since surpassed the power a human can handle. A massive dragon of pure blue energy manifests behind Leonard as the text notes, this is just like the dragon's co. As golden leaves flutter down from the tree, Leonard floats gently above the ground, amazed by his own progress. Not only has my pentacore mana been integrated, but my realm has jumped straight to the 3rd stage of the external force realm. Recalling his fellow disciples back at the training grounds, Leonard thinks, considering my seniors have been stuck at the 2nd stage for several years, looking down at his hand, which crackles with a vibrant blue electrical aura, Leonard notes, clenching his fist, Leonard stands up with a look of awe on his face, thinking crossing a single great boundary could result in this much growth. Looking up at the golden tree, Leonard spots a single glowing blue fruit hanging from a branch, wondering, still, how did I survive such a massive explosion in this enclosed space? I felt none of that intense heat that should have been impossible to absorb. Observing the glowing object closely, Leonard softly says, I see. Reaching out, Leonard holds the glowing blue sphere in his hand, noting the brilliant light has faded, leaving behind a single fruit. Looking back at the memory of the fiery explosion, Leonard realizes that vast, overflowing spiritual energy must have shielded me in this cave from the pillar of fire. Holding the vibrating blue fruit close, Leonard thinks, this fruit, it feels natural in my hand. Sensing the quiet stillness left behind in the cavern, Leonard wonders, did it really absorb every last drop of that mana? Placing his gear onto his back, Leonard bids farewell to the golden tree, saying, in a way, you're the one who saved my life. I'll plant the seed anew for you. With his mission inside the cave complete, Leonard quickly runs through the dark tunnels toward the exit. Dashing past the blocked entrance at high speed, Leonard thinks, I'll be under suspicion if I'm any later than this. I need to get back, fast. Leaping high into the air, Leonard effortlessly soars over the dense forest canopy. Smiling as he glides through the air, Leonard realizes, I've become too strong. I couldn't help but overdo it. Stopping on a high ledge, Leonard looks down through the trees at the glowing gate of the training grounds. Carrying a massive blue wolf pelt over his shoulder, Leonard stands at the entrance, thinking, made it back in time. Leonard pauses as he hears a sound coming from nearby, his expression turning alert. Hearing the bell ring, one of the disciples in a gray shirt looks back in surprise, uttering, "Oh?" Walking down the path, the disciples notice the gate, with one of them exclaiming, "Hey look, the door actually opened!" Spotting Leonard, a brown-haired disciple named Ian excitedly runs up to introduce himself, shouting, "When? Yo, my name's Ian. Feel free to call me Senior." Leonard politely introduces himself in return, saying, "I'm Leonard." Ian extends his wooden training sword toward Leonard, asking, "Senior, to be honest, I've hit a bit of a wall with my swordsmanship lately. I was wondering if you might be willing to spar with me?" Caught off guard by the request, Leonard hesitantly replies, "That's a bit sudden. I'm down, but are you sure you're up for it?" Ian confidently responds, "It would be my absolute pleasure to have an opportunity to learn." Another disciple waves his hand and calls out to Ian from behind as Ian excitedly prepares for the spar. Ian smirks confidently, eager to show off his skills against the newcomer. The spar ends in an instant as Ian is sent flying high into the air, completely dazed. He cries out, "Why am I floating? I yield!" as the screen displays, "Sparring match, Ian defeated." Next up, Gale challenges Leonard, only to end up on the ground raising his hand in surrender as the screen displays, "Gale defeated." Effortlessly spinning past his opponents, Leonard handles multiple challengers at once with absolute ease. Gritting his teeth in frustration, another disciple named Hayden holds his wooden sword tight, thinking, "Damn it, you're telling me this is the skill level of someone who just left the training grounds?" Hayden lunges forward to attack, but Leonard easily blocks the strike, creating a sharp impact shockwave. Desperate to win, Hayden begins to illegally channel a fiery orange mana aura into his wooden sword during the spar. Seeing the dangerous flame, a nearby disciple screams in panic, "Hey Hayden, what the hell are you doing using mana?" while Hayden glares with a crazed expression. The other disciples rush over in concern, calling out, Are you okay, Leonard?" To which Leonard calmly replies, "Yeah." Looking down at his bloodied, smoking hand, Leonard remarks, "My apologies. I used a self-defense technique instinctively, so even just blocking a sword with mana can deal damage." Stunned by Leonard's calm demeanor and immense durability, Hayden looks at him in disbelief, asking, "Why aren't you angry, Leonard?" Looking down at his blood-stained hand tightly gripping the hilt of a wooden sword, Leonard calmly declares, "I look forward to our continued sessions." Holding his wooden training sword out with a warm, confident smile, Leonard tells the disciples, "Training with you all seems like it's going to be quite fun." Later that evening, a firm knock resounds against the wooden door of Leonard's quarters. Opening the door, a disciple carrying a heavy backpack and geared up in traveling armor sighs, saying, "Sorry, but looks like tonight's session is a no-go." Looking out, Leonard notices the empty path as the disciple remarks, "I don't see the other two either." Seeing his heavy gear, Leonard inwardly notes, "Their gear is different from usual. Are they being deployed for real combat?" The disciple continues to explain, "It's caused a huge uproar, so I hurried over to let you know." Behind his back, Leonard discreetly gathers a swirling blue mana in his hand, thinking, "Good, it doesn't seem like I'm under suspicion." Scratching his head in disbelief, the disciple says, "Apparently a lycanthrope and a troll who had reached the true demon realm had a territorial dispute at the Bone Mountain Marsh." The narrator explains the aftermath of the ferocious battle between the two giant beasts. The troll was reportedly burnt to a crisp, and the lycanthrope was found dead, its skin completely flayed. It must have been one hell of a death match. Now that those two bosses are dead, the entire region is in chaos. Drawing his sword with a swift motion, the disciple turns back to Leonard and advises, "You aren't at the level for live combat yet." He shrugs off his heavy shoulder armor, preparing to leave Leonard with some extra equipment before heading out to join the other knights. Dumping a bundle of solid metal swords onto the sandy ground, the disciple smiles and says, "You probably snapped a bunch of swords during practice, right? It's nothing fancy, but I brought you 5 swords that should be decent enough to use." Surprised by the generous gesture, Leonard breaks into a sweat while the disciple gives him a friendly thumbs up, wishing him luck. Walking away while waving, the disciple warns, "Of course, Senior Ian, and don't go wandering outside today. Most of the knights guarding this island are training at the marsh right now. Well, you'd probably be fine, but..." Watching the disciple leave, Leonard stands in deep thought, realizing, to think the commotion was big enough to move the entire Knight Order? If I move carelessly, things could get complicated. Mana crackles in the air as Leonard senses the shift in the environment, thinking, however, this is the perfect chance, now that everyone's attention is diverted. Taking off at high speed, Leonard's boots kick up dust as he dashes out of the training grounds. Running swiftly while wearing a dark, hooded cloak, Leonard strategically plans his next move. "I should be able to move even more boldly without any issues. That said, the risk of using reversal techniques is high today." Watching a massive column of marching knights from the shadows, Leonard notes, if I were to run into someone while wearing Hayden's face, it would only trigger a new wave of confusion. Leaping across the rocky cliffs with incredible agility, Leonard smiles under his hood, thinking, if almost everyone is gathered in one spot, I can move about freely. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Reaching a high precipice overlooking the vast landscape, Leonard pulls down his hood, preparing to enter the forbidden zone. Looking out over the mist-shrouded canyons beneath the purple twilight sky, Leonard declares, time to explore the Owl Plains. Stepping cautiously onto the dry, cracked earth of the plains, Leonard notes, keeping an eye on me from deep within the dense fog. Standing tall as the wind whips his dark cloak, Leonard remains completely unfazed by the hidden threats lurking in the shadows. Walking forward into the desolate wilderness, Leonard mutters, I don't know if they're being cautious or if they've lost their nerve, but suddenly a massive winged beast descends from the sky like a thunderbolt, shrieking as it targets the lone intruder. Flapping its powerful feathered wings amidst glowing embers, a terrifying giant owlbear appears, ready to attack. Standing his ground as the wind pressure from the beast's arrival sweeps over him, Leonard slowly turns to face his opponent. Pulling his hood tightly over his head, Leonard's red eyes glow with lethal focus as he identifies the monster, Owlbear. Reaching for the hilt of his sword, Leonard smiles confidently, ready to test his newly acquired power against the high-ranked beast. Meanwhile, at the shores of the island under a burning sunset sky, a mysterious voice announces, we have arrived. This is Calabagos Island. A massive group of dark, cloaked figures stands assembled on the rocky beach as a scout reports, we are missing a total of 2 members. Addressing the gathered assembly, the leader of the group calmly explains, it seems they couldn't catch the updraft and fell into the sea. Glaring from beneath his red hood with glowing blue eyes, the powerful commander is revealed, Kyrgis's 5th shadow. Raising his clawed fist to rally his men, the commander shouts, do not let our comrades' deaths be in vain. We must complete our mission no matter what, for Kyrgis. Clenching a glowing purple artifact wrapped in heavy chains, a warrior grinds his teeth and declares, we must completely uncover the secret of their tainted blood. Moving like a swarm of shadows, the lethal assassins leap through the air to begin their infiltration, shouting, show no mercy, even if our target is a child. They are the root of all evil. The wind howls across the desolate rocky canyons of the Owl Plains as the sun begins to set. Suddenly, a fast-moving figure slides to a halt, kicking up a cloud of dust on the barren ground. One of the invading shadow warriors leaps forward at high speed, thinking, I got separated from the others before I knew it. Before he can recover, a giant taloned leg crashes down, sending shockwaves through the canyon as the warrior panics. Just how many different types of A-rank monsters are on this island? To think I can't even engage in combat without the captain. Retreating in sheer panic, the warrior grits his teeth, wondering, just what are those devils from Cardenas doing on this island? Covering his face to hide his presence, the warrior consults a map of the territory, thinking, fortunately, it seems the monsters get weaker the deeper you go into the island. In other words, someone else must have dealt with it. Not that it's a problem. Spotting a massive silhouette in the fog, the warrior prepares to strike, thinking, that's probably an owlbear. It's strong, but I can easily take it on. Drawing his blade, the warrior lunges downward with full force to execute a decisive strike on the beast. As he gets closer, the warrior gasps in shock as he spots the lifeless, glazed eyes of the giant monster, thinking, wait a minute, this thing is already dead. Landing heavily on top of the giant carcass, the warrior stands in absolute disbelief, wondering, was someone else here? The shadow warrior stands frozen, his eyes wide with shock as he realizes the sheer scale of what happened. Looking around, he is stunned to see multiple giant owlbears lying dead across the plain, their cores glowing in the dark, prompting him to think, it's not just one, what a skilled fighter. Suddenly, a sharp sound cuts through the air as a stone projectile flies toward him, forcing the warrior to quickly deflect it with his sword. Dashing forward with incredible speed, the golden-haired youth closes the distance while declaring, that's my line. Plunging out of the shadows, the mysterious warrior is caught off guard and knocked to the ground with a painful groan before demanding, who are you? Gathering swirling blue mana in his hand, the golden-haired boy calmly stares down at his opponent and asks, you can't speak anymore, huh? Clutching his throat in panic, the captured shadow warrior desperately tries to make a sound, thinking, damn it, my voice. Desperate to break free, the shadow warrior unleashes a ferocious, fiery orange slash of energy with his sword. Dodging the fiery impact with ease, the boy watches his opponent's movements and notes, that's a blade full of bloodlust, so you have no intention of holding back. Sound of clashing metal echoes through the canyon as the boy effortlessly parries the heavy strikes. The Shadow Warrior's eyes widen in disbelief under his mask, shocked that his deadly attack was blocked so easily by a mere kid. Lunging forward with a swift dash, the boy quickly closes the distance across the cracked earth. Delivering a powerful, mana-infused counterstrike, the boy forces his opponent to defend with all his strength. Observing the clash, the boy wonders if his strike was blocked by a magical artifact, while the assassin realizes his purple barrier barely held. Spinning past his opponent, the boy unleashes a sharp, glowing green slash through the air. Gritting his teeth, the assassin unleashes a powerful technique that summons a giant glowing serpent aura, furious that he must resort to such measures against a brat. Analyzing the strike calmly, the boy asks, "Did you hide something in your sword?" It's a cunning and vicious assassination technique, just like a venomous snake. Charging right into the path of the fiery attack, the boy confidently declares, "But it's unrefined. Your sword path is painfully obvious." Locking blades in a fierce struggle, the boy smiles mockingly and remarks, "You've only ever cut down small fry, haven't you?" Suddenly, glowing purple chains manifest from the assassin's gear, tightly wrapping around the boy's wooden sword. Believing he has won, the assassin mockingly thinks it was foolish to discard the weapon, only to gasp in shock as he realizes the boy let go of his sword on purpose. Channeling a massive surge of purple mana into his bare fist, the boy prepares to deliver a direct physical blow. Cocking his fist back, the boy mockingly asks, "Did you think I'd be helpless if you sealed my weapon? What a truly childish thought." Delivering a devastating punch that shatters the chains, the boy sends the assassin flying back as the man gasps at the kid's unbelievable strength and judgment. With a heavily bruised face, the defeated assassin struggles to breathe, wondering if the child has already awakened the power of their tainted blood. Step by step, the boy's boots crunch against the gravelly ground as he walks over to his incapacitated foe. Pulling back his hood slightly as the wind blows, the boy looks down at the tied-up assassin and asks, "Have you grasped the situation yet?" Standing over the bound captive, the boy notes, "I'm sure your mana and body are completely useless right now, but..." Bound tightly to a tree trunk by heavy ropes, the assassin can do nothing but grit his teeth in silent rage. Screaming in absolute defiance, the assassin curses, "You filthy cardinous devil, to mock my pride with such despicable power. I will never forgive you." Looking down at the screaming captive with a perplexed expression, the boy remains entirely unfazed by the insults. Pointing his finger toward the discarded weapons and gauntlets on the ground, the boy observes, "You were using a magical artifact like that too, weren't you?" Glaring with pure hatred, the assassin yells back, "Shut up! There's no such thing as fighting dirty when dealing with a Cardenas." Raising a clenched fist, the boy silences his captive, prompting a gasp of fear from the bound warrior. With a heavily swollen and bruised cheek from the strike, the captive assassin screams out in agonizing frustration. Staring back at his prisoner with cold, red eyes, the golden-haired boy prepares to extract the information he needs. Spitting in defiance, the assassin barks, "I won't talk even if it kills me, you bastard inheriting that impure blood." A vision of a golden shield decorated with swords and a massive red gem flashes as the boy listens to the historical accusations. Against the backdrop of a blood-red moon and a dark castle, the assassin yells, "If you were raised in that evil clan, you should know." Raising his voice, the captive shouts that the Cardenas clan are not human, but aberrations born with monstrous, unnatural strength. Smiling coldly beneath his hood, the golden-haired boy remarks, "You sure know a lot, don't you?" Looking up at his captor, the assassin demands to know why the branch families are all forced to stay outside the country if there is no secret to their bloodline. Intrigued by the captive's words, the boy mutters a soft exclamation of surprise as he processes the information. Standing before the tied-up warrior, the boy asks, "Is the prosperity of Cardenas that enviable to you, to the point of throwing away a knight's honor to kidnap a child?" Looking down at the glowing purple chains, the boy points out, "If you had intended to fight fair and square from the start, you wouldn't have needed such childish restraining devices." Turning his back to the captive, the boy walks a few paces away into the misty night, his cloak rustling in the wind. Leaning in close to look the assassin straight in the eye, the boy asks coldly, "With that pathetic appearance, can you even face your ancestors?" Red-faced and veins popping on his forehead, the warrior screams, "Don't get cocky! You greenhorn! Are you trying to insult me?" Before the warrior can react, a sharp, water-like blade of mana slices past, leaving him stuttering in shock. "What? How do you already know?" Wide-eyed with terror, the assassin watches the glowing particles of his own mana scatter into the air. Raising a finger as the wind whips around him, the boy declares, "You who have unleashed your mana circuits will die shortly, but before that, I'll have you confess everything you know." The narrator explains the history of the region, a country known as the Holy Land of Knights until a few centuries ago. The Knights of the Crucis Kingdom suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Red Dragon Knights of Cardenas. With that single defeat, Crucis was forgotten by the world, and Cardenas became the Holy Land of Knights. And so you... The golden-haired boy stands tall, looking down at his bound opponent, who can only stare back in silent frustration. Interests. The boy's red eyes gleam under the evening sky as he calmly processes the captured assassin's words. The fact that experts of the transcendent realm have already landed on this island. A shadowy figure with glowing red eyes looms in the darkness, representing the dangerous forces at play. Bradley. The boy prepares to draw his weapon, readying himself for the next move in this dangerous game. The sharp chime, a brilliant blue aura of swirling mana gathers around the blade. The enemy is the Shadow Knights of Crucis. The boy's gaze sharpens as he identifies the true identity of their foes. Most of the knights on this island are apprentices. This is far too heavy and dangerous. Knowing the apprentices stand no chance, the boy channels his blue mana. I don't have time for a detailed explanation. It'll be enough if there are traces of a Swordmaster class individual being on the island. With a swift and decisive strike, the boy unleashes a powerful slash. As I thought, the boy mutters, watching crackling sparks of electricity dance along the metallic barrier. But this should be enough. Standing over his handiwork in the misty clearing, the boy prepares to leave. He looks down at the discarded gear and rolled scrolls glowing with purple light, identifying them simply as tools. Right? With effortless strength, the boy hoists the unconscious assassin onto his shoulder and slips away. Peaceful silence hangs over the apprentice knights' camp as several white tents stand nestled under the forest canopy. Finally, some free time. Yeah, we haven't had 3 apprentice knights walk back to camp, looking forward to a moment of rest. Let nothing happen, one of the apprentices mutters, but a sudden sense of unease causes them to look back and worry. You think that is? Isn't that a corpse? The group freezes in shock as they spot a body lying on the ground ahead. Phew! Go call Sir Bradley. On the ground lies a dead assassin, a strange blue mana flame flickering on his chest. A close-up reveals the wide-eyed shock of a witness discovering the aftermath of the battle. Aura Blade, a technique that can only be used in actual combat by those who have reached the realm of a Swordmaster. Sir Bradley examines the corpse, deeply impressed by the clean strike. It seems that Sir Bradley notices a piece of parchment left on the ground near the body. The truth, a confession written out of guilt for attacking young people. Bradley picks up the paper, reading the dramatic confession. The Shadow Knights of Crucis. The confession details a dark conspiracy of assassins operating in the shadows. Many veterans and a leader who is a transcendent realm expert. These people are heading toward the center of the apprentice knights' lives. We might be able to prevent it if we gather the apprentice knights' forces, but the problem is their leader. Sir Bradley grits his teeth in frustration, knowing the threat is far beyond the apprentice's capabilities. This is an emergency. Alarm across the entire island. Yes, sir. Sir Bradley issues immediate orders to raise the camp defenses. Heavy alarm horns echo across the academy barracks as the sky turns a fiery red. Hearing the sirens, apprentice knights run out in a panic, drawing their weapons. Dozens of boots stampede across the dusty courtyard as the entire force mobilizes. The golden-haired boy, dressed in a clean white shirt and red tie, blends in with the running crowd. "Everyone!" Sir Bradley calls out, his voice booming over the assembled students. They have invaded the island and their military strength is formidable. Sir Bradley briefs the gathered apprentices in the main hall. The apprentices exchange nervous glances, realizing the gravity of the situation. Well aware of the strength of someone who has reached the transcendent realm, aren't you? Just imagine Commander Pabian of the Young Dragon Knights. Consider them walking disasters. Now to hide or abandon? Bradley shouts, giving them a choice in the face of absolute danger. Enemy. Decide, apprentice knights of Cardenas. Bradley demands they make their stand or flee. Actual combat should be a one-of-a-kind experience for these people. Well, that is if they can survive. The boy stands unfazed, calmly looking on as Bradley's massive armored fist clenches in determination. No one can be blamed even if they choose to withdraw. The boy's red eye narrows slightly, observing the reaction of his fellow apprentices. Sir Bradley raises his fist, motivating the crowd while the boy remains silent and watchful. We've improved our... 3 apprentices look at each other with determined smiles, refusing to back down. Choosing to take up the sword in the face of imminent danger is not easy. I suppose a knight is still a knight. I've gained a new respect for them. We'll fight! The apprentice knights raise their swords in unison, letting out a thunderous battle cry. Bradley looks down from his podium, proud to see the brave faces of his young soldiers. A small, satisfied smile breaks across Sir Bradley's face as he acknowledges their courage. Splendid. I shall show respect for your choice. However, that is a separate issue from fighting a transcendent realm expert. Everyone, prepare yourselves. The sun begins to set behind the majestic mountains, casting an orange glow over the forest. To think I'd be using it so soon. The golden-haired boy stands before a stone-blocked cave entrance, his mind focused on the battle ahead. I was evacuated as a protected target, but for me, this is convenient. Standing inside the dim cavern, the boy prepares to make his move, muttering, "I'll take this opportunity." Lifting his hand, the golden-haired boy reveals a glowing green emerald ring. As a massive crimson aura flares around him, the boy feels the heavy pressure of external mana. With a sharp crack, the green gemstone on the boy's ring shatters under the intense pressure. Examining his hand as green smoke drifts away, the boy wonders, "My heart blocked the mana from the outside? If so, none?" Looking down thoughtfully, the boy observes the emerald necklace around his neck. Knight's signaling device. I learned how to use it. If I find the enemy, I'll launch a surprise attack. If I'm found, I'll use it as a decoy. A close-up shows the brilliant green and red gems resting against his white shirt. Carrying a heavy wooden crate on his back, the boy dashes swiftly through the forest, thinking the only one to watch out for is the Swordmaster. The golden-haired boy's red eye narrows in sharp focus as he moves through the wilderness. Sprinting with incredible speed, the boy kicks up dust as he rushes toward the battlefield. Sensing a change, the boy looks down at his glowing green necklace. I caught a signal for reinforcements. If they're asking for help at this level, it shouldn't be a transcendent realm. But they likely don't realize I'm an enemy yet. A deep crimson thought bubble expresses his ruthless plan. I'll suppress them all at once while they're still shaken. Reaching out a hand as he speeds forward, the boy declares, "Hang tight, I'm on my way." Deep within the rugged canyon known as Lion's Ravine, a chaotic magical battle unfolds. A powerful purple shockwave tears through the canyon, ripping apart the enemy forces as someone screams, "You despicable Cardenas!" In the middle of the carnage, a terrifying beast appears. "What the hell is going on with this island?" an assassin screams. "A-rank monster, Manticore. A monster like this is too much for us." The giant beast thrashes its segmented tail, raining poisonous purple venom down on its prey. Blood splatters everywhere as the monster decimates the squad. "Prioritize the mission! Ignore it and run!" yells a panicked leader. Desperately fleeing the beast, an assassin shouts, "One of our comrades is headed this way," while another notes, "It's an A-rank, but it's acting alone." The surviving assassins regroup, glaring back at the approaching threat. A close-up reveals the sheer panic in an assassin's eyes as a sharp blade approaches, sending droplets of blood flying. Moving like a blue bolt of lightning, the golden-haired boy strikes down several enemies in an instant. "3 of us are down," yells a stunned survivor. The masked leader of the assassins sweats in terror as he realizes how outclassed they are. Turning his head slightly, the golden-haired boy looks back and states coldly, "Your organization's strength is pathetic." "You despicable!" the assassin roars in fury. Standing over the fallen bodies, the boy calmly replies, "You let your emotions blind you." Standing tall amidst the carnage, the boy holds 2 swords crackling with intense blue lightning. "Shut up! This is for my comrades! You damn Cardenas devil!" the assassin screams as he lunges, only to be sliced down midair. Slicing through his opponent effortlessly, the boy mutters, "Idiots." Looking back at his remaining foe, the boy points out, "Did you forget what you were fighting against? The Manticore?" The ground rumbles violently as the massive beast steps forward with its heavy paws. With glowing red eyes and a fierce roar, the beast channels a massive surge of purple mana. Lion's body, a snake's tail, and the faces of goblins and trolls, the A-rank monster Manticore. The golden-haired boy stands alone before the towering monster. "I heard a Manticore's strength can be gauged by its heads," the boy notes calmly. "Does it have a human face, too?" From the shadows of its mane, the beast growls, "Who are you?" The grotesque human-like face of the beast speaks in a low, gravelly voice. "Human." Stunned by the unexpected intelligence, the boy thinks, "A monster speaking human tongue?" The Manticore looks at its opponent, saying slowly, "If you fight me, I will die." Listening, the boy is impressed. It can even measure its opponent's strength? Impressive. "But I won't die easily. If I have enough time, he will come." The boy narrows his eyes in suspicion, asking, "He?" The beast stares at the remains of the dead assassins, growling with deep respect, strong beyond comparison. The boy thinks of the formidable figure looming over the island. That one man is more dangerous than everyone else who landed on this island combined, Swordmaster. Looking at the green aura of the Swordmaster in his mind, the boy admits to himself, "At my current level, I don't stand a chance. If what this thing says is true, it's dangerous to stay here long, but you expect me to believe a monster? If you are not afraid of dying, then come," the manticore challenges, its single red eye glowing brightly. "You've got guts," the boy responds, sheathing one of his swords back into his crate. "I'll let you off this time," the monster decides. Turning his back on the beast, the boy calmly walks away, his boots crunching on the cracked ground. The manticore snarls, "Foolish human," as its multiple snake tails sway in the hot air. The golden-haired boy continues on his path, leaving the massive beast behind in the desolate ravine. Looking ahead with a sharp gaze, the boy mutters to himself, "Just as I thought." Suddenly, the boy turns and readies his weapon as a blue electric aura surges around him once more. Slicing through the air with a blinding surge of blue lightning, the golden-haired boy launches his attack, stating that the first strike is aimed directly for the head. The grotesque, human-faced beast roars in agony as it is blasted by a massive surge of blue mana, gasping in disbelief. Airborne and surrounded by the beast's thrashing tails, the boy readies his next move, declaring that the second strike is aimed for the lungs. Kicking up a storm of dust and debris, the boy swings his dual swords downward in a sweeping electric blue arc. Landing a precise lightning-infused final blow, the boy declares that the third strike is for the heart, before coldly telling the beast that he must take his leave since he cannot stay long. Gliding gracefully through the air, the boy looks down as his green signaling necklace begins to flash and emit a rhythmic beeping sound. Realizing that the legendary Swordmaster is nearby, the boy throws his necklace as a decoy and swiftly leaps away to avoid detection. Close-up shows the brilliant green gemstone signaling necklace flying through the air, glowing with residual magical energy. The necklace hurtles toward the ground just as a cloaked figure moves with incredible speed in the background. Landing with a sharp sound, the emerald gemstone necklace hits the earth as a green magical trail dissipates. Sinking into the cracked earth, the terrifyingly powerful Swordmaster lands with heavy authority. A sharp, clawed, armored hand reaches down slowly to retrieve the discarded glowing necklace. Holding up the emerald signaling device, the Swordmaster laments that he was too late, muttering that they could have achieved greatness together if he had arrived just a moment sooner. Sensing a strange presence nearby, the Swordmaster's eye flares with a brilliant, piercing green light. Turning with extreme aggression, the Swordmaster unleashes a powerful green slash toward the hidden watcher, shouting, "Who's there?" A devastating wave of green sword energy tears through the forest, obliterating the terrain in its path. The golden-haired boy narrowly escapes the destructive blast, shocked that the Swordmaster could sense him from such a distance and realizing he will be caught in the crossfire if he stays. Using a rapid burrowing technique, the boy digs underground to escape, reflecting on how useful a simple digging skill has turned out to be as he seeks to distance himself. The Swordmaster stands in a massive crater surrounded by shattered swords, the dusty wind howling around him. Looking back one last time, the Swordmaster prepares to depart the ruined battlefield. Walking away from the symbolic graves of his fallen comrades, the Swordmaster tells them that their lives will not be in vain and bids them to rest in peace. Walking forward with a cold, determined look, the Swordmaster notes that their primary objective has already been successfully achieved. Suddenly, a dirt-covered hand bursts out from the earth as the boy digs his way back to the forest surface. Kicking off the loose soil, the boy vaults out of the hole and lands crouched on the leaf-strewn ground. A weak, trembling voice calls out from the shadows of the trees, asking, "Who is it?" Spotting a severely injured soldier slumped against a wooden barrier, the boy instantly recognizes him as a Cardenas knight and notes that it is already too late to save him. Bleeding heavily from his mouth and panting for breath, the dying knight looks up in shock and asks if the newcomer is an apprentice knight. The knight weakly explains that 45 intermediate Cardenas knights were wiped out in an instant by a single Swordmaster, warning the boy to alert the others. The dying knight recounts that 8 apprentice knights were taken away in heavy shackles as test subjects. Hearing this critical piece of news, the golden-haired boy's eyes widen in silent realization. Standing silently in the dim forest, the boy looks down at the blood-spattered knight as black feathers fall around them. A close-up of the boy shows him listening intently, his analytical mind already processing the enemy's true motives. He deduces that since the enemy's goal is to secure test subjects, they must be transporting the captured apprentices safely and alive. Locking eyes with the dying man, the boy realizes that if that is the case, he can predict their exact method of transport. He recalls the mechanics of mass teleport, a magic scroll that allows many people to be transported to a single location simultaneously. Looking toward the dark sky, the boy notes that he must hurry now that the enemy has achieved their objective. He reasons that moving that many people requires a vast open space, making their destination highly predictable, and wonders if Sir Bradley is already in pursuit. Standing over the slumped, bloodied knight, the boy is informed that Sir Bradley is currently searching the entire area thoroughly. To keep his secret safe, the boy suddenly unleashes a fatal surge of blue lightning into the knight's chest, cutting off his confused question with a final choked scream. Leaving the dead knight behind, the boy mutters that Sir Bradley is completely off base with his search strategy. Heaving the dead knight's body onto his back, the boy wraps himself in a gray cloak, thinking that Cardenas will suffer a crushing defeat at this rate, but advice from a trainee like himself would lack persuasion. In the shadows, a shattered weapon covered in fresh blood glows with an ominous purple magical resonance. Meanwhile, Sir Bradley leads a large, fully armed squad of Cardenas knights marching through the dense forest. Looking around the empty woods in frustration, Bradley calls his missing men cowards for throwing away their pride as knights and running away. Sensing a sudden movement in the bushes, Bradley whips his head around and barks, "Who goes there?" Bursting out of the foliage, a hooded and masked figure carrying the dead knight's body vaults right past the startled squad. Glaring at the fast-moving intruder, Bradley grits his teeth and wonders if that swift movement belongs to a remnant of Cruzus. Bradley furiously orders his stunned soldiers to stop dazing off and eliminate the intruder immediately. Dashing into the air with the corpse over his shoulder, the boy smirks beneath his mask and mentally commands the knights to follow him. Looking back at his pursuers, the boy prepares to lead Bradley's squad directly into his trap. A hooded, masked boy carrying a dead soldier on his back swiftly dodges a volley of swords thrown at him, as an angry voice yells, "You won't get away!" With incredible agility, the boy twists and spins in midair, effortlessly evading the swords slicing through the wind around him. Landing gracefully on his feet, the boy continues to sprint forward through the forest with the dead soldier firmly secured on his back. With a sudden burst of speed, the boy slides and drops his cargo on the ground, setting up his deceptive maneuver. An attacking Cardenas knight leaps down from above, shouting, "You're pretty fast for someone from Cruzus," as the masked boy prepares to dodge. A close-up of the boy's amber eyes beneath his hood shows his calm, analytical expression as he watches his pursuer closely. The enraged knight swings his flaming sword down with immense force, shouting, "How dare you!" as he slams into the ground. As the dust settles, Sir Bradley looks around in shock, realizing that he was so focused on the chase that he didn't notice they had reached the coast, with a fallen knight lying nearby. Watching the scene unfold from the safety of the trees, the masked boy thinks to himself, "Don't die on me, Sir Bradley." With his eyes narrowed in anticipation, the boy notes, the real enemy will appear soon. Heavy, armored footsteps sound as a powerful Cruzus commander approaches Sir Bradley, mocking him. To think someone actually reached this place. Don't be in such a hurry to die, dog of Cardenas. Sir Bradley stands tall, demanding, "Are you the mastermind behind this commotion?" To which the commander replies with a grin, "This is but a small first step toward achieving a great feat." Sir Bradley confidently draws his sword and points it at his opponent, preparing for a high-stakes duel. The Cruzus commander draws a sword that begins to crackle with an ominous green magical aura, calmly warning, "Don't be so impatient." Smirking, the commander taunts, "Do you think we landed on this island without a plan? You have already been defeated." The commander releases a massive blast of green sword energy that completely overwhelms the battlefield, forcing Sir Bradley back. Struggling against the overwhelming force, Sir Bradley grits his teeth and yells, "Damn it, I won't let you leave," while the commander confidently declares that there are 15 minutes until full activation, during which he will personally be his opponent. The commander laughs mockingly, unleashing a flurry of green slashes and telling Sir Bradley to struggle as much as he likes. Observing the fierce clash from a distance, the masked boy watches the green explosions and determines, "Hold on a little longer, Sir Bradley. I will rescue the knights." Meanwhile, at the enemy camp, a massive blue magic circle glows brightly in the sky above the tents, signaling the ongoing mass teleportation spell. Inside one of the large tents, the masked boy stealthily slips past the guards unnoticed to locate the prisoners. Keeping his presence completely masked, the boy is surprised to find that the guards don't even glance his way. Stepping further into the tent, the boy spots the captured apprentice knights tied up and sitting on the floor. A close-up shows the magic-infused, glowing purple shackles binding the wrists of the captive apprentices. With a quick, silent slice of his magic-infused dagger, the boy shatters the purple chains. One of the captive knights looks down in utter disbelief, gasping, "It came off?" Stunned by the rescue, the apprentices ask, Aren't you with Cruzus? Why are you helping us?" To which the boy coldly responds that he has neither the time nor the obligation to explain, telling them to escape immediately. The rescued apprentices look at their mysterious savior with a mixture of confusion and awe. A close-up of the boy's sharp gaze shows him keeping watch as the prisoners prepare to make their escape. Bowing deeply, the grateful knights express their appreciation, saying, "Thank you from the bottom of our hearts." A loud explosion suddenly shakes the tent, indicating that the rescue operation has successfully transitioned into the next phase. Standing amidst the swirling dust, the masked boy draws his sword and notes with satisfaction, "Good, that solves the hostage problem." Walking out of the tent with dual swords drawn, the boy prepares to eliminate the remaining guards. With a swift and blinding surge of blue electric mana, the boy charges into a crowd of Crucis soldiers, slicing through them instantly. The boy effortlessly carves through the enemy ranks, splattering blood across the dirt and coldly stating, "It's time to take out the trash." An enemy soldier screams in agony as the boy lands a fatal blow, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. Meanwhile, back on the beach, Sir Bradley is struck by a powerful green slash, coughing up blood as he is sent flying. The cruise's commander stands triumphantly over the wounded knight, saying, "I'm not satisfied yet, but that served as a decent enough entertainment." Determined to finish the job, the commander states that this pointless game is over and that Crucis will once again stand at the pinnacle of the sword before suddenly sensing a powerful presence approaching. The commander's eyes widen in surprise as he feels a dangerous energy drawing near, realizing that the one who has been interfering with them all this time is coming. An armored figure leaps down from the sky with extreme speed, aiming a strike directly at the commander. Sensing the incoming attack, the commander quickly swings his green flaming sword upward to parry the blow. The newcomer, revealed to be the golden-haired boy without his mask, blocks the commander's strike as the commander exclaims in frustration, "The fifth shadow? What a complete disappointment!" Glaring at the young challenger, the commander sneers, "To think the one who killed our comrades and hindered our great feat was a mere brat like this?" The commander prepares to unleash his full power, stating, "Oh well, to mourn my fallen comrades, I will make sure to eliminate you specifically." Enveloped in a powerful green aura, the commander readies his sword for a devastating attack. The boy stands calmly on the battlefield, surrounded by the fallen bodies of the Crucis guards he defeated. Another Crucis soldier gasps in shock upon seeing the carnage, wondering, "He took everyone out?" before furiously shouting, "How dare you do this to my brothers in arms?" The enraged soldier leaps down with a glowing green sword, roaring, "I'll tear you to shreds, you cardinous devil!" Sensing the immense power of his opponent, the boy channels a brilliant blue electric aura into his sword, thinking, "He's at the master stage. He's on a completely different level from anyone I've fought so far. It's still too early for this, but if it's come to this, I have no choice." The golden-haired boy stands firm as a powerful green magical aura manifests in front of him, preparing to clash with the immense power of his opponent. Stunned by the boy's abilities, the hooded warrior demands to know how a mere trainee can manifest an aura blade, but the boy calmly replies that it is none of his business. With a swift, fluid motion, the boy unleashes a devastating slash with his aura blade, catching the enemy off guard and forcing a pained grunt from him. Knowing the physical limits of his young body, the boy calculates that he can only maintain this intense aura for 3 minutes at most. Realizing that time is against him, the boy resolves that he must end this high-stakes battle immediately. Enraged, the enemy soldier retaliates with a series of frantic, powerful green sword slashes, screaming in fury. As the enemy wildly swings his sword while yelling in frustration, the boy notes that his opponent has completely lost his composure, making his attacks easy to predict and evade. Seeing an opening in the chaotic flurry of blows, the boy realizes he has the perfect opportunity to launch a decisive counterattack. The boy focuses his gaze, planning to close the gap between them while dodging the incoming strikes, confident that he has his opponent cornered. Suddenly, the enemy's expression twists into a sinister grin as the boy coughs up blood, shocked by a sudden, unexpected turn of events. The hooded soldier smugly explains that his weapon is coated with a lethal poison known as the severing venom, warning that even a single drop is fatal. The toxic magic takes form as a giant snake ready to completely shut down the boy's pulse and sever his mana flow. Instead of panicking, the golden-haired boy smirks and mockingly thanks his opponent for the detailed explanation, leaving the soldier completely bewildered. A brilliant explosion of blue light bursts forth, completely neutralizing the dark, venomous magic of the snake. The enemy soldier screams in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend why his deadly poison has absolutely no effect on the young boy. As the boy charges forward, he wonders if his unique heart grants him immunity to poison just as it does to magic, before coldly reminding his enemy of what he said before. Their swords clash with immense force, and the boy delivers his final line, telling the soldier that he doesn't need to know the secret behind his immunity. Overwhelmed by the boy's incredible strength, the enemy soldier groans in pain as he is forced back by the relentless assault. The enemy's eyes widen with sheer madness and desperation as he realizes he is completely outmatched by a mere teenager. Summoning his remaining power, the enemy unleashes a massive technique, causing multiple colossal green serpents to rise and surround the battlefield. With a deafening roar, the giant serpents thrashed wildly, forcing the boy to leap high into the air to evade their destructive path. Observing the chaotic, unfocused rampage of the serpents, the boy calmly wonders if his opponent is simply swinging blindly in hopes of landing a lucky hit. Realizing that approaching his enemy directly through the wall of giant snakes is too difficult, the boy begins planning a different approach. Channeling a massive amount of energy, the boy prepares a devastating long-range blow to blast straight through his opponent's defenses. With a blinding flash of speed and precision, a powerful sword slash tears through the air, heading straight for the giant beasts. The boy's incredibly sharp attack slices cleanly through one of the massive green serpents, cutting it completely in half. The force of the shockwave blows the enemy soldier backward, sending his weapon flying from his hands. Covered in sweat and gasping for breath, the defeated soldier glares at the boy with pure hatred, cursing him under his breath. A stream of dark black blood suddenly drips from the soldier's eye, indicating the severe backlash of overexerting his mana. Driven to madness, the soldier declares that even if it costs him his life, he will drag the young boy down to hell with him. The giant serpents glow with an ominous purple and green energy, preparing a final suicidal blast of power. Seeing the dark aura gathering, the boy realizes his opponent is pushing his mana output past its absolute limit, betting everything on one final strike. Instead of retreating, the boy confidently maneuvers through the giant snakes, revealing that his apparent charge is merely a feint. With blinding speed, the boy's blade carves through the remaining serpentine obstacles, clearing his path to the enemy. Telling himself to stay calm, the boy focuses entirely on landing a swift, decisive strike to end the battle before the enemy can detonate his mana. He concentrates his brilliant aura into a single point on his blade, aiming for a perfectly precise strike. The concentrated strike slices through the last of the giant snakes with ease, completely dismantling the enemy's ultimate defense. With a clear path ahead, the boy leaps forward, realizing that his opponent is now completely wide open. The boy plunges his sword directly toward the enemy soldier, aiming to put an end to the fight once and for all. Suddenly, a glowing green magic circle activates on the enemy's chest, releasing the spell Shockbound to stop the boy's blade. A sudden, fiery explosion erupts from the magic circle, catching the boy off guard and forcing him to think in shock that his opponent was hiding a magic tool. Through the thick, swirling smoke of the explosion, a bloodied hand reaches out desperately to grab the boy. Before the boy can recover, the soldier lunges forward and tightly grabs him by the throat, pinning him in place. The smug soldier reveals that his seemingly wild attacks were just a bait to lure the boy in close, declaring that at this point-blank range, there's absolutely no way the boy can survive. As the volatile green mana begins to violently engulf them both, the soldier bids the boy a final farewell, but a mysterious voice suddenly chimes in, saying that won't be happening. A powerful, bearded warrior wearing a crimson cloak suddenly makes his grand entrance, his expression calm and authoritative. In a split second, a swift, unseen slash severs the soldier's arm, sending his clawed hand flying through the air. The mysterious, bearded knight in the red cloak floats gracefully down from the sky like a powerful savior. Clutching his severed arm, the terrified soldier looks up in absolute shock, wondering who this incredibly powerful newcomer is. With a cold and resolute gaze, the legendary knight unleashes a barrage of slashes that cuts down the enemy soldier, declaring that this strike is for his fallen men. "Really wanted to kill me that badly, huh?" Leonard asks, coughing as he looks up at his opponent. The soldier's bloodshot eye bleeds as he gasps in utter disbelief. How is this possible? The bearded knight in the crimson cloak walks up to Leonard, saying, "Sorry I'm late, Leonard." The legendary knight smiles down at Leonard with a warm, relieved expression, glad to see that the young boy is safe. "You have my gratitude," the green-cloaked knight says as he approaches, while the commander replies, "Now, I have a few questions for you, but..." Exhausted from the grueling battle, Leonard smiles weakly and asks, "Sir, if you don't mind, could we talk after I've had some sleep?" The commander smiles warmly and replies, "Of course, take some time to rest." The hooded soldier gasps as dark green energy violently consumes him, while a cold voice declares, "I'll start by cleaning up the leftover trash." Floating in the air with his severed limbs sustained by dark green mana, the crazed soldier screeches, "This isn't over yet." Glaring at the enemy, the commander mutters, "What an inhuman obsession," but it ends here, as his power flares. In a shocking move, the crazed soldier bypasses the commander and lunges straight down towards the defenseless Leonard. Looking back in complete shock, the commander realizes too late. That bastard, his target from the beginning, was grabbing at Leonard with a maniacal laugh. The bleeding soldier roars, "I'm taking you down with me if it's the last thing I do." Leonard's eyes widen in sheer terror as the blinding blue light of the spatial magic completely envelops him. With a soft hum, the bright blue light dissipates into the night, leaving only fading embers where Leonard and the soldier once stood. The commander steps onto the scorched ground, gritting his teeth in frustration as he mutters, "I've been outplayed." Walking past the blood-stained battlefield, the commander sighs. To think he would resort to such a foul trick. He likely used mass teleport to take him away, the knight explains, adding, "Furthermore, because the activation was incomplete, the destination is unknown." Looking down with deep regret, the commander admits, "I thought for sure he was targeting me. I let my guard down." Looking at the empty spot on the beach, the knight comments, "To think his target was Leonard. He must have seen Leonard as such a threat that he was willing to compromise his own beliefs," the knight observes. For someone who has only just become an apprentice knight to face a master of the transcendence realm, the knight ponders, remembering Leonard's combat prowess. Looking up at his commander, the knight continues, "But this is the first time I've witnessed such staggering growth." Looking toward the horizon, the knight declares, "A new legend is about to be etched into the history of Cardenas." The commander turns to leave, saying, "I have no objections. I'll leave the subsequent measures to you." The commander wears a solemn and determined expression as he looks out into the distance, silently praying for the young boy's safety. As Leonard floats unconscious on a piece of ship debris in the middle of the vast ocean, the narrator thinks, "Until then, please, stay safe." Suddenly waking up to the sound of splashing water, Leonard weakly opens his eyes and wonders, "Oh." Looking up at the massive vessel passing by under the twilight sky, Leonard wonders what it could be as the crew on deck spots him. Floating helplessly in the water, the golden-haired boy gazes up at the towering wooden hull of the ship that has found him. Waking up in a luxurious cabin bed, Leonard touches his forehead in confusion as a kind, orange-haired young woman sits beside him and asks, "Ah, you're awake?" Still disoriented, Leonard looks at the friendly young woman and weakly asks, "Lifesaver?" The orange-haired woman smiles warmly and extends her hand toward Leonard in a welcoming gesture, reassuring him that he is safe. Leonard gazes down at her outstretched hand, feeling a bit hesitant but deeply grateful for her kindness. Leonard reaches out and firmly shakes her hand, accepting her warm gesture of goodwill. The young woman looks at him in astonishment and asks, "All the way from there to here? How did you get here?" Leonard looks thoughtful as he prepares to recount the bizarre events that led to him floating in the middle of the ocean. "I got caught up in space magic," Leonard explains, recalling the final moments of his battle. "I don't remember anything after that." Sensing her companion's suspicion, the orange-haired girl turns and asks, "Marion?" Marion crosses her arms thoughtfully and mutters, Nothing else makes sense unless you're a Cardenas." "Oh, so Cardenas is famous even across the sea," Leonard says calmly, adding, "Yes, I am from Cardenas. Is there a problem?" As Marion cautions her captain to proceed with care, they are suddenly interrupted by a panicked sailor running down the hall, shouting, "Captain Francis, please hurry to the wharf." Sweating profusely, the panicked sailor pants heavily and yells, "That gang of ruffians is..." Outside, an arrogant, shady blonde man named Luciano Peterson stands smugly with a bottle of wine while his gang brawls in the background. Hearing the name, Marion grits her teeth in intense anger, her eyes flashing with deep resentment. Observing Marion's furious reaction, Leonard notes to himself, "It seems she has some history with those guys. She looks troubled." Without losing a second, Captain Francis and Marion pull on their heavy leather coats and rush out of the cabin to handle the situation. Left alone in the room, Leonard turns his gaze toward his folded apprentice knight uniform and the ruby badge resting on the table beside him. A look of quiet determination washes over Leonard's face as he decides that he cannot simply lie in bed while his saviors are in trouble. As a boot steps purposefully forward onto the floor, a voice echoes in the background, "Because you looked like you needed help." An orange-haired young woman in a brown leather coat turns back with a bright, welcoming smile. A dark narration box with a spiky white border reads, "It looks like you're the one who needs help, though." Looking troubled, the orange-haired girl named Frances watches as Leonard sits up in the luxurious bed in the background. An aerial view of a wooden ship docked at a long stone wharf with blue, sparkling water. Captain Francis and Marion, both wearing heavy leather coats over white shirts, walk down the stone wharf while Luciano Peterson watches them from a distance. Standing smugly with a wine bottle, Luciano Peterson greets them. Well, look who it is. It's been a while. Smile a bit more, would ya? Marion quickly draws her sword, stepping in front of Francis and declaring, I doubt you came here just to give me a greeting. Luciano Peterson's face twists into an ugly, irritated grimace at Marion's hostility. Luciano points at Marion, saying, I have business with your master, so the dog should keep its mouth shut. While Marion asks, you? Who do you think you're talking to? Drawing your sword like that? Can you even take responsibility for it? A close-up of Marion gritting her teeth in intense anger, her eye flashing with resentment. Luciano shoves Marion aside, saying, back off, mutt. This conversation is between masters. Luciano leans in close to Francis and coldly demands, don't be stubborn and just hand over the aquamarine. Luciano gestures toward their ship, mockingly adding, that ship is wasted on you. Francis looks down with a solemn, resolute expression, refusing to be intimidated. Looking up, Francis firmly tells him, please leave, Luciano. I will never hand over the aquamarine. Luciano turns away with an annoyed expression, muttering, I'm offering you a good price, so you'd better sell it quietly while you can. You guys always have to make things difficult. Suddenly, a spray of blood erupts in a swift, unexpected strike, catching Luciano completely off guard. Luciano's eyes widen in sheer horror as a bloodied arm flies through the air, revealing that Leonard has intervened. Holding a twin set of blades, Leonard stands with a cold, resolute gaze as he mutters, might as well erase anyone who looks like they'll be a nuisance later. Shocked and trembling, Francis and Marion ask, what was that just now? While a thug yells, boss, hurry up and pick up his arm. Clutching his bleeding stump, Luciano screams in excruciating pain and fury, you bastard! Francis, how dare you do this to me? I'll kill you. You guys, kill them all. A muscular thug lunges forward with a wooden club, roaring at Leonard. You piece of trash! How dare you do that to the boss? With blinding speed, Leonard unleashes a sweeping crescent-shaped strike that cuts down multiple opponents in an instant. Moving like a specter, Leonard cleanly slices through another attacker's blade and finishes the move with absolute precision. Delivering a powerful, flying roundhouse kick, Leonard knocks out another thug who gasps in agony. Francis and Marion stand in absolute shock as the defeated thugs lie unconscious on the ground around them. Marion sweats profusely in sheer disbelief, thinking to herself, before I even had time to swing my sword, what a man! In a swift and brutal finish, Leonard plants his bare foot firmly onto Luciano's head, slamming him face first into the stone floor. Leonard stands victoriously over the defeated Luciano, who grovels on the floor, while Francis and Marion walk up. Francis and Marion look at each other with sweat running down their faces, completely speechless at the boy's staggering power. Looking back calmly, Leonard gazes at the two women with a neutral expression. Francis looks down at Luciano and explains, yes, though he looks like this man is the illegitimate child of the highest authority in Atlantis. Francis wears a serious expression as she begins to explain the political situation. An aerial view of a majestic seaside city with white castle walls and a glowing blue magic circle in the sky. As Francis narrates, the Atlantis Maritime Union is governed by the Union Council, and the Union Council is the practical ruler of this sea. A silhouetted figure of a powerful, red-cloaked man with glowing eyes appears, representing Pablo L. Orlando Peterson. The text in the dark sphere confirms the name, Pablo L. Orlando Peterson. Listening to the explanation, Leonard thinks to himself, a more troublesome fellow than I thought. In that case, Francis looks at Leonard with wide, surprised eyes as he prepares to make a proposal. Leonard steps forward, his expression relaxed and confident. Leonard looks up at the massive wooden hull of the ship, contemplating his next move. Standing in the middle of the blood-stained plaza surrounded by dozens of defeated thugs, Leonard confidently offers, I'll be your bodyguard? Overjoyed by his proposal, Francis beams with a brilliant smile and extends her hand toward him. Francis and Leonard firmly shake hands to seal their new contract, while Marion watches with a mixture of relief and respect. Leonard grins warmly as he is addressed by name, a small smile appearing on his face. Francis looks down at the groveling Luciano, saying, we need to lock him up somewhere. As long as we don't kill him, it's fine. Francis looks back at Leonard and adds, it seems even his own father has given up on him. Francis continues, so he'll turn a blind eye as long as his son's dignity remains intact, to which Leonard calmly replies, that's a relief then. Francis turns around with a playful, energetic stride, saying, there's somewhere I need to go. Leonard looks slightly taken aback as Francis walks past him. Francis leans in close to Leonard with a mischievous, flushed expression and asks, huh? While the speech bubbles read, could you say that one more time? Fran, this isn't so bad. Standing before the majestic, towering stone structures of the city, one cannot help but admire the breathtaking architectural marvels nestled among the towering mountains. Gazing down at the magical flowing currents of water on the ground, Leonard walks behind Francis and Marion, quietly observing, it's quite a sight. Looking around in wonder at the swirling currents of magical water, Leonard says thoughtfully, I've never seen anything like this in Arcadia. Francis turns back to look at Leonard and replies with a gentle, humble smile. It's all just for show, really. Francis walks gracefully toward the shimmering barrier of flowing water, ready to present her credentials. Leonard watches her closely, intrigued by the incredible technology and magic of the city. A holographic confirmation screen lights up in the air, announcing, B007 Leader of Aquamarine, Francis Lel von Oceanus. Your credentials have been verified. Francis holds up a beautiful, ornate metallic badge with a glowing blue gemstone in the center and says, I will show you to Zephyrus Hall. Francis explains to Leonard and Marion, Zephyrus Hall is a lounge for B-rank adventuring parties. Leonard nods silently, processing her explanation as they prepare to enter the hall. A heavy boot steps purposefully onto the plush, intricately patterned carpet of the luxurious hall. Looking around the grand, column-filled interior, Leonard marvels silently. Wow, this place is fancy. Is B-rank really that high of a level? Narrowing his eyes thoughtfully, Leonard thinks to himself, if so, Aquamarine might be a much larger organization than I thought. An administrative official's polite voice echoes across the reception area. I'll be assisting you with your party registration today. The friendly, short-haired receptionist bows slightly and offers a warm, welcoming smile. Looking at the receptionist, Leonard asks with a hint of confusion and surprise, 3? The receptionist guides them forward as they stand before the main reception desk to complete their party registration. As Leonard stands near the desk, a rowdy adventurer sitting in the background mockingly draws his weapon, laughing loudly with a mug in hand. Francis assures the worried receptionist, no, it's fine. This happens all the time. He's just a filler recruit for a tiny two-person party, right? The smug adventurer stands up, pointing his massive sword directly at Leonard in a clear provocation. With blinding reflexes, Leonard reaches out and catches the sharp edge of the oncoming blade barehanded. The attacker's smug grin instantly freezes in place as Leonard stops his sword swing effortlessly with just 2 fingers. With lightning speed, Leonard draws his blade and presses it right against the rowdy adventurer's throat, asking coldly, have you seen enough to judge my skill? The entire room falls into a tense, stunned silence as the defeated adventurer stands completely frozen under Leonard's absolute dominance. The receptionist gasps in utter astonishment before nervously asking, by the way, where are you from? While keeping his grip on the weapon, Leonard thinks to himself, my origin. Based on Marion's reaction, I shouldn't reveal I'm from Arcadia. Leonard takes a step forward, ready to deliver his carefully fabricated answer to the receptionist. Walking past Francis, Leonard casually replies, the Kingdom of Kyrgyz, while internally sighing, it's a shame that's the only country I could think of on the spot. The receptionist swiftly presses her hand onto the registration document, activating a magical seal of verification. Francis clenches her fists in pure joy, cheering with flushed cheeks, finally, my party has a new member. Leonard looks slightly taken aback and sweat drops at Francis's overly enthusiastic and emotional celebration. Quickly realizing her lack of composure, Francis gasps and blushes, thinking, oh no, my dignity as a captain. Francis clears her throat and quickly walks away to hide her embarrassment, while Marion rubs her forehead with an exhausted sigh. Turning back around, Francis covers her blunder with a bright, cheerful laugh to regain her composure. Leonard simply stares back at her with a completely deadpan, unimpressed expression. Francis blinks in surprise at his neutral reaction, quickly shifting back to her captain persona. Standing outside a cozy building, Leonard hears an elegant voice call out from inside, Fran told me all about you. Come on in. Curious, Leonard steps through the doorway and into the beautifully lit interior. Gazing up at a mysterious woman floating gracefully in midair, Leonard listens as she observes, you don't look like a mage. With long, dark nails, the woman points her finger and casts a quick, seamless spell. Dozens of items, including teacups and lanterns, begin floating in a brilliant yellow aura of telekinetic magic as she commands, now tell me everything. Taking a seat, Leonard begins to explain a situation. Yes, ever since I was swallowed by space magic. Looking determined, Leonard continues his story. I realized I needed a way to counter it. The beautiful woman listens intently, resting her cheek against her hand as she studies Leonard's face. The elegant woman, identified as Esther, a fourth circle mage of the Atlantis Magic Tower, smiles knowingly and remarks, "I get it, so you're not just trying to become a magic swordsman." Standing up, Esther walks toward Leonard with a confident stride and says, "I know a method that's easy for even a swordsman to grasp." Esther conjures a brilliant, glowing magic crystal above her hand, explaining, "It's the same principle. We'll make your body familiar with magic." Esther guides the glowing crystal toward Leonard's chest, unleashing a powerful torrent of swirling blue mana around him. As the crystal begins to merge directly into his chest, Leonard gasps from the sudden influx of raw power, while Esther notes, "This is the fastest way." Sitting back down with a satisfied smile, Esther remarks, "As a member of Aquamarine, I have to guide my junior. Otherwise, that girl will come barging in here screaming at me again." Leonard groans in agony as intense blue magical energy surges through him, while Esther watches in mounting panic, thinking to herself, "What? Any normal person should be able to absorb this circuit easily. Could it be this? Constitution?" Esther stares in complete shock as Leonard is lifted into the air, engulfed in a massive, turbulent storm of raw magical power and brilliant light. The sheer pressure of the surging magical energy causes the room to shake violently, making the tea inside Esther's cup splash and spill onto the saucer. Sitting on the edge of her desk with a cup in hand, Esther lets out a sigh of relief and observes, "Looks like it's finally settling down." Esther looks down with concern at Leonard, who is sitting on a chair looking completely drained, and asks, "Are you okay, Leonard?" Panting heavily with sweat dripping from his face, Leonard looks up with his glowing red eyes and replies weakly, "Yes." Leonard reaches his hand out, effortlessly conjuring a small swirl of blue magical energy around his palm. Watching him closely, Esther is stunned and sweats nervously, thinking, "That's a basic spell, sure, but is that even possible?" With a sudden motion, Leonard unleashes the spell, sending a massive roaring torrent of blue mana shooting across the room. Leonard drops his hand back down, looking completely calm and unfazed by the sudden burst of power. Leaning in with wide eyes and her mouth open in utter disbelief, Esther gasps, "And 5 of them at once?" Looking back at her with a calm expression, Leonard asks, "I don't mind, but why?" while Esther looks on with a sweat drop. Leonard stands quietly as Esther stands before him, surrounded by several glowing blue magic circles spinning in the air. A majestic view of the soaring stone tower under the bright sun, labeled as the Atlantis Magic Tower. Inside the grand library of the tower, books and loose pages float magically through the air around a refined man with glasses wearing a blue suit with a gold sash. The distinguished man closes his book and lets out a weary sigh. Turning around, the elegant man, introduced as the chief elder of the Atlantis Magic Tower, declares, "I'm a busy man as the chief elder of the Magic Tower." Esther walks in cheerfully with Leonard close behind, introducing him to the elder with a bright smile. The chief elder stands firmly before them amid the floating books, demanding coldly, "So explain yourself at once." Esther smiles sheepishly and sweats slightly as she prepares to explain their situation to the chief elder. The chief elder listens with a skeptical, stern expression, adjusting his glasses. To demonstrate her point, Esther raises her hand and conjures a warm, glowing flame. Esther channels her magical power, causing bright, vibrant flames to swirl around her body. Raising her arm high, Esther shapes the flames into a compressed, spinning disc of fire, proudly explaining, "By compressing and spinning it into a disc, I've maximized its power." Esther looks back with a confident smile, while Leonard stands behind her with a neutral expression. Suddenly, the compressed flame disc begins to crackle uncontrollably, and Esther's confident smile turns into a panicked, sweating grimace as she gasps, "Ah!" Losing control of the spell, Esther stumbles backward as the fire disc goes wild, crying out in embarrassment, "I'm sorry, I still can't quite control it." The chief elder's eye widens in absolute shock behind his glasses as he thinks, "This boy has reached the realm of transformation only seen at the 6th circle?" With a casual wave of his hand, the chief elder effortlessly disperses the stray embers and extinguishes the wild flame. The chief elder raises a finger, adopting a lecturing tone with a confident smile on his face. Leonard stands silently, looking completely calm and collected as he listens to the elder. Walking toward Leonard and Esther with measured steps, the chief elder prepares to make an offer. Reaching out a gloved hand to Leonard, the chief elder states grandly, "For a mage, there is no greater opportunity." Leonard listens quietly, studying the elder's face. The chief elder points his finger upward and explains, "You have unlimited access to the tower, its knowledge, and its magic tools, though even all of that combined doesn't compare to my personal tutelage." Smiling warmly, the chief elder continues, Furthermore, I'll guarantee a favorable relationship with your guild, Aquamarine. Leonard smirks slightly, finding the elder's grand proposal amusing. Giving a slight nod, Leonard turns and calmly walks away, while Esther waves goodbye with a cheerful smile, noting, "A friendship with the Magic Tower will be a huge advantage for Aquamarine." Back at the guild headquarters, Frances sits at a large table covered in maps and reports, looking completely shocked as she yells, "What? You met with the chief elder of the Magic Tower?" Frances's eyes sparkle with excitement as she clasps her hands together, exclaiming happily, "The Magic Tower is a massive!" Leonard looks down at the table, quietly reviewing a document in front of him. Sitting with a gentle smile alongside Marion, Frances explains, "We can't expand our operations without more members." An impressive shot of Aquamarine's majestic wooden ship sailing across the sea under the bright blue sky, with Frances's narration, "Without the Aquamarine, even reaching B rank would have been difficult." Leonard listens attentively to Frances's explanation, looking thoughtful. Frances looks slightly nervous and sweats, hoping Leonard understands the guild's current situation. Meanwhile, a rowdy adventurer hangs upside down from a rope, flailing his arms and screaming in anger, "How dare you do this to me?" A beautiful, short-haired elf archer stands calmly below him, looking up at his struggling form. With a calm and focused expression, the elf archer draws her bow, which begins to glow with a brilliant green magical aura. With a sharp release, the magic-infused arrow cuts cleanly through the rope holding the adventurer. The adventurer screams in terror as he falls face-first toward the floor, crying, "Eek!" A skilled elf archer with short silver hair stands in the foreground, looking distressed, while a rowdy adventurer screams in anger as he is pinned high on the wall behind her by several arrows. Footsteps echo across the intricately patterned carpeted floor as a group of people walks with measured steps. The thugs of the Santa Maria Guild surround the elf archer, telling her to stop being stubborn and join them since her sister's ransom isn't exactly cheap. Leonard looks on with a stern, piercing gaze, warning the thugs that they are the ones taking things too far. In a flash of brilliant light, Leonard draws a powerful black bow, channeling a majestic blue magical aura into his shot. The short-haired elf archer Ninian is left hovering in surprise as the thugs gasp in sheer terror at the overwhelming power of Leonard's archery. Ninian looks completely dumbfounded and sweats nervously, staring in absolute disbelief at the display of skill. Leonard stands calmly amidst the swirling blue embers, letting his bow rest after delivering a spectacular attack. Back at the reception desk, Frances and Marion look at Leonard with sweat drops and wide eyes, asking in astonishment if he can use a bow as well. Ninian looks back at the group with a serious expression, noting that it is not a bad deal for them either and promising to make it worth their while. Observing Leonard's shot, Ninian realizes his archery is on an entirely different level compared to her spirit-mimicking arts and desperately wishes to learn it. As the thugs walk away, they mockingly warn Ninian that Aquamarine is on the verge of collapse and she should think long and hard about her choice. One of the thugs looks back with a sinister, mocking laugh, confident in their leverage over Ninian. Suddenly, a massive, muscular man with a scarred bald head and a giant sword on his back towers over the thugs. Grinning with a gold tooth, the towering giant is introduced as Christopher Conrad, the captain of the Santa Maria. Christopher Conrad walks past with his massive blade while Leonard watches him quietly from behind. Watching Conrad walk away, Leonard observes that while the man looks like an idiot, he is actually on the verge of the transcendent realm. Leonard carefully assesses the situation, realizing that in a direct face-to-face fight, he would be at a massive disadvantage. Looking at Ninian, Conrad smirks evilly, knowing that a skilled archer like her is the key to naval combat and that he cannot let such talent slip away. Standing with determination, Leonard resolves that even if he has to fight for it, he is going to make her a member of his guild. A warm, nostalgic memory of two young hands grasping each other tightly under the bright sunshine. In a sunny forest, a young Ninian wonders why she is called sister since she is only a half-breed elf, while her bright little sister Vivian cheerfully insists they are sisters. Ninian recalls with a soft smile that Vivian was her half-sister, and unlike her, Vivian was a spiritist with incomparable talent. Little Vivian smiles radiantly with her flower crown, representing Ninian's only friend and family in the world. The memory turns dark and bloody as Ninian is violently slashed and falls to the ground, while a cruel voice comments on how far she traveled after Vivian's distress signal. Christopher Conrad stands over a wounded Ninian, mocking her efforts and revealing a magical contract showing her little sister already belongs to him. As Conrad's crew surrounds them in the dark woods, Ninian begs desperately on her knees to get Vivian back, but Conrad mockingly dismisses her weak spirit arts. With a cruel, disgusted grimace, Conrad barks that he has no use for a mongrel like Ninian and tells her to get lost. Back in the present, Ninian trembles in frustration, clenching her fist as she laments her inability to save Vivian on her own. Suddenly, a firm pair of boots steps forward as a voice rings out, declaring a challenge to a duel. Ninian and Conrad turn around in absolute shock to see Leonard standing tall, calmly issuing the challenge. Marion gasps in panic, reaching out her hand to stop Leonard from doing something incredibly reckless. Sweating profusely, Marion pleads with Francis to stop Leonard before things get completely out of hand. Francis looks on with a calm and calculating gaze, pointing out that this is their perfect opportunity to recruit both a talented archer and a spiritist. Leonard stands firm and silent, completely unfazed by the commotion around him. A sudden, firm grip clamps down on Ninian's wrist, stopping her in her tracks as she asks what he is doing. Leonard holds Ninian back, staring ahead with deadpan intensity as Ninian looks at him with wide, startled eyes. Furious, Conrad grabs Leonard by the collar of his shirt, shouting in anger at the arrogant little brat who dares to challenge him to a duel. Conrad gets right in Leonard's face, angrily demanding what he could possibly wager that matches the value of a rare elf spiritist. Francis steps forward gracefully, confidently proposing that in exchange for the wager, they want Santa Maria's A-rank exploration rights. Conrad stares in disbelief at the audacious wager, while Leonard's sharp red eyes glint with calm confidence. Conrad points aggressively at Leonard, accepting the challenge as Francis and the others stand firmly behind their member. Conrad grumbles inwardly, thinking that he can't let some noble girl call in a swordmaster to fight her battles for her. Conrad's face twists into a mixture of annoyance and shock as he stares at the unbothered youth. Leonard looks back at Conrad with complete calm, ready to face whatever the captain has to offer. The atmosphere in the Grand Hall becomes incredibly tense as the two opposing forces prepare for their inevitable clash. High above, under the bright blue sky, the Grand Atlantis Magic Tower stands tall as someone inside screams, "Are you insane?" A hand slams down violently onto a desk covered in paper, scattering dust into the air from sheer anger. Marion stands in front of the desk with a deeply frustrated and angry expression, clutching her teacup in annoyance. Frances takes a nervous sip of her tea, sweating profusely as she shudders and remarks in disgust that the chief elder is a total creep. As the guild members gather around a large conference table covered in documents and maps, one of them points out the grim reality, exclaiming that they wouldn't stand a chance. Looking determined, Ninian states that it's fine and there is no turning back now, while Marion sighs in exasperation beside her. Sharp Blade begins to hum with intense energy, enveloped in a swirling, brilliant blue magical aura. Standing calmly with absolute focus, Leonard holds his sword upright as a majestic blue aura flows powerfully around him. Francis's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as she and the others witness the spectacular display, gasping in shock. An aura blade? With a calm and confident expression, Leonard confirms her suspicions, responding, "Yes, officially anyway." Leonard firmly grips the hilt of his sword, which continues to emit a fierce, radiant blue light. A close-up of a neatly tied blue ribbon adorned with a sparkling diamond-shaped blue jewel on a clean white collar. Francis bursts into a joyful, vibrant laugh, completely thrilled and relieved by Leonard's unexpected demonstration of power. Turning back to Francis, Leonard reassures her with a composed smile, pointing out that Conrad is not quite at the level of a swordmaster yet. Ninian looks on with wide, curious eyes, quietly processing the revelation of Leonard's incredible strength. A distinguished man with brown hair and glasses walks with a calm, analytical air, accompanied by a long-haired woman in a yellow cloak. Sitting behind his desk with his arms crossed, the man calmly observes the visitors and states, "I understand the situation." A sharp, calculating gaze glints behind the circular frame of his glasses as he carefully weighs the circumstances. Standing side by side with Francis, Leonard maintains a firm posture as he explains that he simply wants to ensure there is no foul play in the upcoming duel. The man smiles warmly, expressing his goodwill by reminding Leonard, "After all, you're Esther's savior." His expression shifts slightly as his eyes narrow behind his glasses, trailing off with a thoughtful, "Besides..." A man stands with his back to the room, looking out a large window bathed in a warm crimson glow. Conrad kneels respectfully on one knee with his giant sword on his back, asking, "You summon me, Councilman Pablo?" Councilman Pablo's face remains heavily shadowed, radiating an intense and intimidating authority. A profile reveals him to be Pablo L. Orlando Peterson, the leader of the A-rank party Moby Dick and a member of the Atlantis Union Council, who coldly states, "I've heard the news." Conrad's face tenses as sweat drops down his cheek, looking apprehensive under the councilman's heavy gaze. Kneeling on the floor, Conrad is addressed sternly by the councilman. Surrounded by a terrifying crimson aura, Councilman Pablo towers menacingly over Conrad, demanding, "Do I look like I'm asking you for a favor?" prompting a trembling Conrad to quickly apologize. With a grim, unyielding expression, Councilman Pablo watches as Conrad clenches his fist in frustration on the floor. Conrad grins with malicious resolve, promising, "Yes, I won't fail you, by any means necessary." The sun shines brilliantly in a clear blue sky, marking the arrival of the day of the duel. A majestic white castle city stands proudly atop a cliffside, overlooking powerful waterfalls that cascade into the roaring blue sea below. From high above, the circular arena is revealed. While it is officially known to the public as a simple event hall, in reality, it is a brutal combat arena. Excitement fills the spectator stands as an eager man leans over to his friend and asks, "Hey, how much did you put down?" The friend smiles confidently, explaining his wager as he gestures to the arena. Disguised in yellow hooded cloaks, Francis and the others sit tensely in the crowd, listening to the spectators gossip about the decided outcome of the fight. The announcer's voice echoes through the arena, introducing the combatants, the towering Christopher Conrad from Santa Maria and the young Leonard from Aquamarine. Facing the two combatants, the announcer hypes up the crowd, declaring that there is so much on the line for this duel. As the announcer enthusiastically rallies the roaring crowd, the man with glasses sits calmly in the front row, watching with a steady gaze. A focused close-up of the man's analytical gaze as he prepares to observe every detail of the upcoming clash. Back in a flashback, the woman looks completely startled as she asks, "And you want me to be the one to do it?" Francis firmly grabs her hands, pleading with a serious expression as she admits that although she believes in Leonard's strength, the risk is incredibly high. Francis explains that because there is barely any information on Leonard in the registry compared to Conrad, the crowd is definitely going to bet heavily on the veteran captain. Standing beside Leonard, the man with glasses agrees, while Francis notes that hardly anyone will be willing to risk their money on an unknown youth. Leonard calmly draws his polished silver sword, the blade reflecting the ambient light of the room. Francis stares at Leonard in awe, finally relenting and asking, "You really want me to bet everything Aquamarine has on you?" To which Leonard confidently replies, "Yes, please." A close-up of a sturdy black boot stepping firmly onto the sandy ground of the combat arena. Conrad walks right up to Leonard, mockingly placing his hand on the youth's head to assert his dominant size. Leonard remains completely unfazed, staring back with a cool, undisturbed expression. Conrad's smug grin falters, his face twisting into annoyance as a vein pops on his temple in response to Leonard's indifference. Stepping back, Conrad unleashes his power, summoning multiple spheres of glowing, fiery magical energy around him. Realizing his opponent is a formidable fifth circle mage, Leonard prepares himself, deciding to immediately utilize the sword he borrowed from the magic tower. As Leonard grips the hilt, the weapon begins to shine with a brilliant teal light, revealing it to be a top-grade artifact perfectly suited for magical imbuement. Leaping forward with immense power, Leonard swings his glowing sword and shouts, "My wind magic will blow you away," as a massive crescent of green wind energy surges toward his opponent. "What?" Conrad gasps in absolute shock, his face contorted in disbelief as he witnesses the unexpected turn of events. With lightning speed, Leonard dashes across the arena floor, his movements leaving a trail of swift afterimages. Conrad struggles to keep up, turning around in a panic as his opponent disappears from his line of sight. A sharp clashing sound echoes through the arena as a powerful impact shatters the solid ground. Rocks and debris fly everywhere as Leonard stands his ground, facing Conrad amidst the ruined arena floor. Amidst the chaos of the flying rocks, Leonard remains completely focused, his gaze locked onto his opponent. A heavy boot steps onto the ground, releasing a dark, ominous purple magical energy. Suddenly, yellow crackling electricity surges around Leonard, catching him off guard as he grits his teeth. A colossal pillar of yellow lightning explodes in the center of the arena, lighting up the entire hall in a brilliant glare. In a flash, a sharp strike slashes across Conrad's face, drawing a sudden spray of crimson blood. Capitalizing on the moment, Leonard delivers a devastating high kick straight to Conrad's face. Leonard drives Conrad into the ground with a powerful stomp, shattering the arena floor once more. "Gah!" Conrad screams in agonizing pain, coughing up blood as he reels from the impact. As the dust settles, Leonard stands calmly with his clothes partially torn, holding his weapons with complete composure. "A magic swordsman who won't even draw his sword? You're far too arrogant," Leonard states calmly. Conrad growls in response. "I can't believe you withstood my lightning strike. I let my guard down. In that case, I've got no choice but to use this," Conrad growls, revealing a strange, glowing dark pill on his tongue before biting down on it. "Gwah!" Conrad roars as a terrifying, explosive purple aura surges violently from his body. With veins bulging and his eyes glowing a sinister, bloody red, Conrad descends into a wild berserk state. What? He's releasing a massive amount of power all of a sudden. It's on par with a Swordmaster, Leonard notes, his eyes narrowing in surprise. He must have brought a secret weapon, Leonard realizes as Conrad leaps high into the air, aiming a heavy strike. Conrad swings his massive sword down with brutal force, but Leonard effortlessly maneuvers beneath the strike. A swift counterattack slashes Conrad, sending droplets of fresh blood spraying through the air. Conrad's bloodshot crimson eyes widen in fury as his attack fails to connect. Roaring in madness, the berserk captain launches another relentless heavy assault. Leonard leaps backward gracefully, keeping his distance from the wild swings of the frenzied giant. Conrad suddenly freezes in his tracks as a heavy toll is exacted on his body, causing Leonard to look back in surprise. Refusing to back down, Conrad raises his giant sword once more, channeling the sinister purple aura with all his might. "An aura blade, so you're finally getting serious with your sword," Conrad grunts. Leonard simply smiles in amusement. "Then I'll meet you head-on," Leonard declares confidently, his sword erupting in a brilliant, glowing blue aura. A magnificent swirl of blue energy gathers around his blade, crackling with immense power. The two forces collide in the center of the arena, creating a massive shockwave that ripples through the entire stadium. Sparks fly and metal grinds against metal as Leonard pushes back against Conrad's massive greatsword. "No way! A brat like him can use an aura blade?" Conrad screams inwardly, his mind reeling in absolute horror. A majestic blue dragon of pure aura surges forward, completely engulfing Conrad and sending his massive sword flying into the air. "This is a scam! It's impossible!" A spectator screams in disbelief, looking down at the defeated captain lying on the arena floor. "There's no way a magic swordsman who mastered the aura blade could lose to a brat like that," screams Carmen, the manager of the ALS A-rank hall in Bermuda. Carmen grits his teeth in sheer rage, his face contorting with unbearable frustration at the unexpected turn of events. Carmen whirls around, only to be met by the calm, unbothered presence of the distinguished man with glasses. The man with glasses offers a warm, knowing smile, completely pleased with how the duel unfolded. "No, sir," the announcer stammers nervously, sweating profusely as the distinguished gentleman looms behind him. Even the attempt to void the match went exactly as Leonard predicted, the man with glasses notes, observing Carmen's stunned reaction. With his plans completely foiled, Carmen turns and walks away in bitter defeat under the steady gaze of the distinguished gentleman. Standing victoriously in the center of the arena, Leonard looks back with a quiet, confident expression. Under the brilliant sunshine, a majestic sailing ship rests peacefully at the port, ready for its next grand voyage. "Our proposal went through," Frances declares triumphantly, slamming her hand onto the official document. "Now we can finally explore A-rank waters," Frances cheers, her eyes sparkling with excitement as the entire team gathers around the conference table. "So we won't have to worry about money for a while," Marion laughs joyfully, struggling to carry a massive, overflowing sack of gold coins. "I'm honored to be of service," Leonard replies with a gentle, polite smile as Frances looks at him with deep gratitude. The sound of firm footsteps echoes in the room as someone approaches the gathered guild members. "Thank you so much for saving my sister and me," Vivian says with a bright, heartwarming smile, bowing her head in sincere appreciation to Leonard. Vivian, the wind spirit elementalist, smiles brightly with her hands clasped gently to her chest, pleased to have been of help. As Vivian looks on with a slightly startled expression, a young golden-haired man with crimson eyes and a long-haired woman approach her warmly. Looking relieved and grateful, Vivian is escorted to her quarters by her companion. Smiling warmly, Frances looks at her companions and asks, "Do comrades really need to worry about things like that?" "All right, Marion will show you to your rooms," Frances cheers happily, playfully pushing Marion forward despite her protests of "please don't push me." Under a brilliant star-filled night sky, the majestic ship sails quietly across the dark, serene ocean. Standing beside Frances on the quiet deck, Leonard asks softly, "Did you send everyone back to their rooms early because of me?" A close-up of Frances's face, her deep blue eyes wide with surprise at Leonard's sudden question. Leonard looks at her with a gentle, serious expression, waiting for her response under the starry night sky. Looking back at him with a soft smile, Frances replies, "Really? In that case, please walk with me for a bit." "Yes, of course, Fran," Leonard agrees quietly. Leaning against the railing, Francis looks out at the sea and says, "Please, tell me." The narrative shifts to 8 years ago at the Grand Palace of the Union Council, standing proudly under a clear blue sky. Inside the high-ceilinged council chamber, a massive red magical rift hovers above the table as a council member asks, "Are you really going to leave the rift in the 5th sea zone like this?" Nord, the proud leader of the Aquamarine clan, warns with a grim look. At this rate, just like the demonic lands of that distant continent, it's only a matter of time before it's contaminated by otherworldly energy. "Njord, the rift's contamination is strictly managed," replies Pablo, a large, intimidating council member sitting across the table. Pablo confidently reassures him, saying there won't be any issues for at least the next 30 years, to which Nord counters firmly, "You're on the front lines. You should know that better than anyone, Pablo." Njord's eyes narrow as he adds seriously, "That's only if nothing unexpected happens, Pablo." Pablo dismissively waves his hand, with dark beasts looming in his thoughts, as he scoffs, "I'm saying we can handle it even if something does happen. Besides, it's a chance to secure more otherworld byproducts. What are you so afraid of?" A dramatic close-up of Njord's mouth as he grits his teeth, his frustration reaching a boiling point at Pablo's sheer greed. "Have you lost your mind, Pablo?" Njord roars in fury, grabbing the corrupt council member by his collar and lifting him from his seat. "Are you really going to ignore the danger just for some byproducts?" Staring back with cold, unyielding red eyes, Pablo retorts, "Those mere byproducts you just mentioned are what made Atlantis a city of wealth. Don't you know that? Let's hear what the other council members think." A tense silence fills the grand chamber as the rest of the council members turn away, choosing to side with Pablo out of sheer greed. Pablo effortlessly swats Njord's hand away, smirking as he declares, "Looks like the decision has been made." Left with no choice, Njord clenches his fist tightly, the pressure of his grip showing his deep anger and frustration. "Damn it, has everyone been blinded by greed?" Njord mutters to himself, looking down in bitter disappointment. Njord's eyes flare with absolute resolve as he realizes what must be done. We can't count on help from the other A-rank parties anymore. All hands, prepare to set sail. Throwing his majestic captain's coat over his shoulders, Njord declares, "We, Aquamarine, will seal every last rift." With a resounding "yes, sir" from the crew, the legendary Aquamarine flagship crashes through the roaring ocean waves. On the side of the hull, a massive, intricate magic circle glows intensely as the ship's powerful systems activate. The vessel surges forward with incredible speed, engulfed in a brilliant column of magical blue light. A blinding flash of teal energy explodes across the water as the ship prepares to execute its dangerous mission. Back then, the A-rank adventurer party, Aquamarine, was legendary. At the time, they had 1 7th-tier mage and 3 masters of the transcendental realm, making them unmatched in strength. As the flagship sails under a purple, starlit sky, a crew member's voice echoes over the communication line. "Chairman Njord, come back already, even if you're reducing the number of rifts for safety." "The atmosphere in town is getting crazy," the voice continues anxiously. "Do you realize how many jobs you're taking away from the adventurers?" Standing calmly in his command room, Njord replies, "I'll head back once we seal the giant rift, Charybdis." The crew member gasps in shock. "What? But that's the biggest rift." Njord remains completely silent, staring forward with steady, unwavering eyes. "That's exactly why we're sealing it," Njord answers firmly, looking at the massive, roaring red vortex of otherworldly energy. Braving the colossal, violent storm, the courageous vessel sails directly into the eye of the swirling red rift. After a hard-fought battle, the waters finally calm, reflecting a peaceful blue light under the quiet sky. "Did something go wrong there?" Francis asks, to which Leonard replies gently, "No, at the time, Aquamarine was incredibly strong." A sad, nostalgic expression crosses Francis's face as she recalls the memories of her father in her childhood. Leonard listens quietly, observing her solemn expression as she continues her tragic tale. Flashback to a warm golden sunset. The victorious ship sails peacefully past the floating remains of defeated sea monsters. "All right, now we can finally go home, right?" Njord stands proudly on the deck of his ship, bathed in the warm golden light of the setting sun. Looking back with a gentle, affectionate smile, Njord chuckles, "But I think everyone's going to lecture me when we get back. It took us a whole week, so my daughter is probably going to be mad at me too, right, Fran?" Njord asks warmly, looking down at his family. Holding hands with her mother, a young, bright-eyed Francis smiles up at him and asks excitedly, "Are we finally going home, Father?" "Of course," Njord begins to reply, but his words are instantly cut short as a colossal, terrifying explosion violently rips through the deck. It's the Moby Dick!" a crew member screams in sheer terror as a monstrous, heavily armored battleship towers over their burning vessel. Pablo? Is he launching a surprise attack? Njord shouts in absolute disbelief and rage as the truth dawns on him. Was this his plan from the very beginning? Looking utterly shocked, a young Francis stares up in disbelief as she mutters, "Father?" "Marion, take care of Fran!" Captain Njord roars amidst the chaos, shouting his final orders to the crew. "Get the aquamarine to the docks at full speed." Once we make it there, they won't dare pull a stunt like this in the open. Njord grits his teeth in rage before turning to rally his crew. Remaining fighters, intercept the Moby Dick! Determined to protect their captain, a loyal crew member grips his glowing spear and yells, "Understood." Staring down coldly, Pablo sneers, "You fools! Do you plan to lose everything over your stubborn pride? Break Aquamarine's will to fight, right here and now." "Shut up!" Njord screams in absolute fury, raising his glowing sword to strike down the attackers. Bathed in the intense light of battle, Njord vows Aquamarine's honor and will. As Marion desperately carries a crying young Francis away to safety, Njord's voice echoes, "Will live on, even if I die." A colossal, terrifying explosion violently rips through the Aquamarine flagship, engulfing the vessel in flames. Present-day Francis slowly opens her deep blue eyes, the painful memories of that day still fresh in her mind. "That's why I can't give up," Francis murmurs quietly, looking down on the deck as Leonard stands quietly by her side. Francis looks up with a sad, gentle smile and says, "So if you want to back out, you can leave any time." Leonard listens intently, a warm and understanding smile gracing his face. Looking out at the shimmering sea, Leonard raises his hand and replies, "If I get to cross swords with strong opponents, that's all I could ever ask for." Leonard turns to Francis with a steady, confident gaze, his crimson eyes filled with quiet determination. Francis stares back at him, wide-eyed and completely speechless at his unwavering resolve. Overcome with relief and gratitude, Francis bursts into a warm, joyful laugh. Under the brilliant, star-filled night sky, Francis asks, "Then will you come with me, as a member of Aquamarine?" Leonard offers a gentle, reassuring smile, sealing his silent promise to stand by her side. Under a bright blue sky, the majestic Aquamarine sails peacefully, ready for the adventures ahead. On the deck of the ship, Leonard trains diligently, his blade cutting through the air with incredible speed and precision. Firing a barrage of green magical energy arrows, the elf companion displays her formidable archery skills during practice. "Good movement, you two," Leonard calls out as he effortlessly parries their attacks. "That was our first spar, but you're both pretty good." In a flash of brilliant swordsmanship, Leonard completely outmaneuvers both companions, pointing his blades at them to end the match. The ponytail-haired swordswoman sweats nervously, stunned by how easily Leonard countered her stance. The elf archer gasps in surprise, completely frozen by the tip of Leonard's sword held inches from her. Sheathing his weapons with a calm smile, Leonard notes, "Well, we have a guest waiting, so let's wrap this up." Inside the cabin, a distinguished visitor stands with his back turned, carefully reviewing a report. "I took the liberty of watching your match," says Benjamin, the manager of the Bermuda A-Rank Hall, turning around. "It seems the rumors of you beating Christopher Conrad in a duel were true." Benjamin observes the party with a serious, evaluating gaze, sweating slightly under the weight of their potential. "And with a spiritist on your team, you certainly have the power of an A-Rank party," Benjamin acknowledges. However, Francis looks up at him with a startled and questioning expression, asking, "Right?" "Yes, while you're strong enough for the rank, you lack the numbers to actually begin operations," Benjamin explains, prompting Leonard to ask, "How many more do we need?" With a swift motion, Benjamin raises 2 fingers to answer their question. "Add 2 more members, and I will promote you to A rank immediately," Benjamin declares firmly. Seeking new recruits, Leonard and Francis make their way through a bustling industrial sector of Atlantis. "This part of Atlantis has a completely different feel from what we've seen. Is there really someone around here who would join us?" Francis asks, to which Leonard replies, "Yes, if we can convince him, he'll undoubtedly be a massive asset." Suddenly, Leonard's sharp senses pick up a commotion nearby, and he stops in his tracks. "You punks! Do you have any idea where you are?" A rough voice bellows as several hostile thugs block their path in a narrow alleyway. "This ain't a place for kids to be wandering around," a scarred thug yells, drawing a massive blade. "Get lost! Just 'cause you're kids doesn't mean I'll go easy." Before the thug can finish his sentence, Leonard moves like lightning, effortlessly blocking his arm and disarming him. Leonard looks at the thugs calmly, stating, "We didn't come here to fight, but if you draw your sword, I can't just stand here." With a powerful strike, Leonard sends the aggressive thug flying backward through the air. "Gah!" The defeated thug groans as he crashes heavily onto the pavement, while his leader in a red headband watches silently. Sensing a real challenge, the spearman with the red headband lunges forward, executing a swift and powerful counterattack. The spearman's heavy kick collides with Leonard's defense, pushing him back. Leonard thinks in surprise, so fast and heavy. "You might be a big shot on the streets," the spearman says as he begins to spin a heavy chain weapon. The heavy chain weapon tears through the air, but Leonard agilely dodges the dangerous attack just in time. For a mercenary who fights for his life every day, this is child's play, the red headband spearman boasts with a fierce, confident grin. The skilled mercenary spins his chain spear with terrifying speed, preparing to unleash his full power against Leonard. Leonard steps forward calmly, his sharp red eyes focused on the opponent ahead. Frances looks up in surprise, her eyes wide as she gasps at the sudden turn of events. The massive bearded spearman recognizes her, exclaiming, "No way! Is that really you, Frances? You were so small back then. It's been a long time. You've certainly grown." Leonard looks at him with interest, questioning, "So this is Galano of Wailing?" Galano stares back, completely surprised by their sudden appearance. Gazing at the legendary warrior, Frances holds a hand over her heart filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. A glowing memory of Dentuso of the Storm appears behind Galano as Frances pleads, "As his brother, please lend us your strength to bring back the party." Frances speaks with a tremor of emotion, desperately trying to reach his closed heart. Turning away, Galano coldly replies, "Back then, Aquamarine didn't just make an enemy of the Moby Dick, we made an enemy of Atlantis itself. You expect me to do what even my brother couldn't?" He takes a heavy step forward, muttering with finality, "I'm done walking a path with no future." Walking away alongside his injured men, Galano advises, "Frances, stop being stubborn and find another way. Next time we meet, let's talk about something better." A heavy, despondent silence falls over Frances as she looks down, realizing she failed to convince him. Suddenly, Leonard lunges forward like a flash of lightning, prompting a shocked Frances to scream, "Huh? Wait, Leonard?" Leaping high into the air, Leonard launches a sudden attack from above, catching everyone off guard. Galano spins around in sheer disbelief, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" Galano quickly raises his heavy chain spear to block Leonard's descending strike in a flurry of sparks. "If words won't work, I'll just have to beat some sense into you," Leonard declares, driving his spear down with immense force. Landing gracefully, Leonard walks forward and retorts, "You said you're done with a path that has no future, right? Funny, considering you can't even see the path right in front of you." Galano is driven to one knee, panting as dust rises around him from the impact of the attack. Gritting his teeth, Galano glares at Leonard and asks in frustration, "What the hell are you doing?" Standing firm, Leonard points his training spear at him and declares, "The path you're meant to take?" Leonard effortlessly spins the weapon in his hand, adding confidently, "I'm going to show it to you." Looking at his opponent, Leonard thinks to himself, "My spearmanship isn't as good as my swordsmanship, but it should be enough to get a rise out of him." Annoyed, Galano gets back on his feet, spinning his chain spear as he warns, "A spear? You're looking down on me. You better be ready to die." Their spears collide with a deafening impact, creating a massive shockwave of light and dust. In the blink of an eye, Leonard's training spear is sent spinning high into the air. As they trade lightning-fast blows, Galano's eyes widen in shock as he realizes, is he reading my attacks? Delivering a swift, decisive kick to his chest, Leonard sends Galano reeling backward as he groans, "Ugh." Keeping his composure, Leonard remarks, "Your spearmanship is excellent. Assuming you haven't been slacking on your training, that is." Infuriated by the provocation, Galano swings his spear with relentless fury, clashing repeatedly against Leonard's defense. Roaring in absolute rage, Galano yells, "Shut up!" Unleashing his buried pain, Galano screams, "My brother, my master, the one who showed me the way is gone. Suddenly, he stops, frozen in surprise. Standing behind Leonard, the spectral image of Dentuso of the Storm appears to correct his form, whispering, "Your step is too shallow. Thrust deeper." Bathed in the spectral light, Leonard looks back at him with a calm, understanding expression. Grasping the spear with absolute precision, Leonard unleashes a colossal, sweeping strike that tears through the air. Galano stares in absolute awe and disbelief at the staggering demonstration of power. The ground splits open in a massive fissure, revealing the sheer strength behind Leonard's perfect thrust. A heavy, reflective silence falls over the alleyway as Galano stares down, completely speechless. Lowering his weapon, Galano stands quietly, the heavy chains wrapped around his arms rattling gently as his anger dissolves. Looking up at Leonard with newfound respect, Galano asks with a soft smile, "Could you teach me a little more?" Leonard looks back at him, a subtle, approving smile playing on his lips. Raising his spear once more, Leonard replies, "Come at me. I'll spar with you as long as you like." Under the warm afternoon sun, the Atlantis shipyard stands quiet, echoing only with the sound of clashing weapons. After a long, exhausting sparring match, Galano and Leonard walk back together, both covered in sweat and dust. Galano stops in his tracks, blinking in surprise as he notices Francis waiting for them. Smiling warmly, Francis approaches them and remarks, "You look like you're in a much better mood." Galano cracks a smile, rubbing his head as he admits, "Getting beaten for the first time in a while really fired me up." Leonard smiles softly, glad that his trial by combat managed to reignite the seasoned mercenary spirit. Francis lets out a relieved laugh, sweating slightly at how reckless Leonard's method was, but deeply grateful for the outcome. Looking at the two warriors standing before her, Francis feels a deep sense of hope as the new member prepares to join Aquamarine.
Francis looks up with a bright, encouraging smile, happy to see Galano's spirits lifted.
Galano looks back at her, his face showing a mix of surprise and gratitude, sweating slightly as he processes his renewed resolve. Smiling warmly, Francis holds out her hand to Galano, welcoming him back into the fold of the Aquamarine party while Leonard stands quietly by her side. Placing his hand firmly over his chest, Galano declares with deep conviction, "I shall remain unmoved by any wave and undaunted by any storm." Turning around, Leonard smiles with confidence as he remarks, "Good, we're one step closer to reaching A rank." The trio of Leonard, Francis, and Galano walk together through the shipyard, their hearts filled with newfound determination. Francis thinks to herself with focus, "Just one more. I'd like to recruit a mage if possible." Inside a beautifully decorated hall, a man with glasses and a woman in a gold cape look around, the man noting, "Oh, so this is what the Aquamarine looks like inside." The woman adds with a smile, "Impressive, isn't it? I never expected you to visit, Master." Francis looks on in complete shock and disbelief at the sudden and prestigious guests standing before her. Francis asks them with surprise, "What brings you here so suddenly?" The distinguished older man with round spectacles smiles warmly as he prepares to speak. Adjusting his glasses, the man explains his purpose with a calm, analytical expression. A bubble states, "To continue my research, I require various specimens. Usually they're provided by the adventuring parties in Bermuda." Leonard listens intently with a serious gaze as the explanation continues. However, those supplies have recently been cut off. The man explains further, "They must be manipulating the market prices. They're likely restricting the Rift byproducts on purpose." Francis looks startled and asks, "So the reason you came here today is—" With a flourish of his hand, books begin to float around him as he boasts confidently, "With me around, you'll gain much more than just byproducts." Francis is completely taken aback, her mouth open in shock at the spectacular demonstration of magic. The woman in gold smiles, clarifying, "But he can come aboard as a researcher." She looks on with a knowing, confident smile, pleased with how the conversation is progressing. Standing before Benjamin, the Bermuda Hall manager, the entire group gathers to present their updated roster. Sweat dripping down his temple, Benjamin reviews the list on his clipboard, completely stunned by the incredible members they have assembled. Handing the registration document back to Francis, she bows slightly and says, "Thank you very much." Francis looks up, her eyes wide with nervous excitement as she realizes they have actually done it. The group stands together, united and ready to face whatever challenges await them in their upcoming operations. A massive sailing vessel surges forward, cutting through the deep blue ocean waves as they head toward their destination. A young spearman holding a weapon sighs heavily, exhaling a breath of nervousness as he prepares for what lies ahead. Smiling, Francis teases him, "Ha ha ha, did I rush things too much?" While he facepalms and sighs, that impatient streak hasn't changed a bit. Francis looks ahead, her expression softening into a gentle, determined smile as she says, "But..." The spearman looks out at the open sea, his expression turning calm and steady as he grips a spear. He smiles softly, his eyes filled with a quiet confidence as he reflects on their journey. Standing on the deck, the group reviews their details with a status bubble displaying difficulty B. The rift in the 5th sea area, the sea orc's lair. Deep inside a cavernous lair, a horde of menacing green-skinned sea orcs with glowing red eyes let out a terrifying, synchronized roar. A massive, swirling whirlpool portal of magical energy opens up in the middle of the ocean, displaying the title Rift, Sea Orc's Lair, Difficulty B. Lightning strikes around the ship as it approaches the violent storm surrounding the rift, marking the beginning of their dangerous expedition. Looking up at the colossal phenomenon, Leonard thinks to himself in awe, "So this is a rift. It's bigger than I thought." He observes the surroundings carefully, thinking, "It seems a bit different from the intel Fran and Benjamin provided, but it shouldn't be a problem." Turning back to the crew, Francis smiles brightly and announces it looks like everyone is ready. Francis stands at the front of the deck and addresses the party, stating, "The goal of this expedition is reconnaissance." The elf archer stands silently beside the spearman, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon with deep focus. The female mage in the gold cape looks on with a calm, collected expression, ready to support the team. Francis looks back at Leonard, explaining to the group, and I'm leaving the command entirely to Leonard. He's never explored a rift before, but his judgment is sharper than anyone's. Francis points upward with a cheerful grin, confidently assuring her companions of their leader's capabilities. She reaches her hand out towards the swirling rift, announcing, "Now then." With a sweeping gesture, Francis commands, "Into the sea you go," as Leonard stands poised at the edge of the ship. Standing at the precipice, Leonard looks down with a calm, fearless expression, ready to dive into the unknown. The spearman, the archer, and the mage are completely blindsided, crying out in utter panic, "Hey, wait!" Ignoring their protests, Leonard dives headfirst into the magical vortex, with the others shouting in exasperation, "Don't be in such a rush!" Falling through the sky above a lush tropical island, the group screams in shock. "What's going on? Are we in the sky? Why are we falling?" As Leonard looks back and calls out, "Esther," to which she screams back in panic, "Ah, I'm sorry." Screaming "Glaciate Field," the female mage unleashes a powerful ice spell from a magic circle in midair to freeze the water below. Successfully catching the mage in his arms, Leonard lands safely on the frozen surface, remarking, "Thank goodness, I made it in time." She replies in relief, "I didn't expect us to just drop into the middle of the ocean." The elf archer with white hair and an eye patch looks around warily, a drop of sweat rolling down her cheek as she senses danger nearby. Her eyes widen in shock as a sudden warning echoes, "Something's coming," while the water around their ice platform begins to churn violently. Suddenly, a massive green-skinned sea orc riding atop an orca rises from the water, roaring furiously, "Gra!" as the party exclaims in alarm, "It's sea orcs!" A horde of sea orcs leaps from the water, launching a barrage of spears as Leonard swiftly draws his sword to deflect their relentless attacks. Looking out at the rising tide of monsters, Leonard realizes with a grim expression, there's at least dozens of them. Leonard keeps his gaze steady and focused, dust and ice shards blowing past his face as he prepares for the oncoming onslaught. From a high vantage point, the small frozen platform stands isolated in the middle of the vast churning blue ocean as waves crash all around it. Several ferocious sea orcs brandishing heavy axes leap through the air, eager to tear the adventuring party apart. Drawing her bow, the elf archer looks back in panic and asks, "Are they trying to surround us?" Galano swings his spear with powerful strikes to fend off the incoming beasts while the archer supports him from behind. Pressured by the endless waves of monsters, Galano yells, "We're at a disadvantage out here on the water. How long until we reach the island?" The female mage looks on in terror as the colossal shadow of a sea orc looms directly behind her, prompting her to call out, "Give me 5 more minutes." The massive sea orc glares down at her with glowing red eyes, letting out a low, menacing growl. Grrr. Moving like a flash of lightning, Leonard leaps in to defend her, advising his companions, "Leave the defense to those two." With an explosive burst of speed, Leonard's boot digs into the cracked ice as he launches himself forward. Turning to Galano, the elf archer smiles with a mixture of relief and amazement, murmuring, "You never stop surprising me." Dashing across the ice, Leonard analyzes the battlefield, thinking, "If we take them on one by one, they'll have the advantage. I'll take out the leader and break their morale." Skimming effortlessly over the frozen surface, Leonard closes the distance to the enemy at blinding speed. Leonard leaps high into the air, his twin swords drawn as he confronts a giant sea orc captain wearing heavy fur armor. Slicing through the air as he descends, Leonard zeroes in on his target, thinking with absolute certainty, this must be the one. Suddenly, Leonard's eye widens in surprise as he catches a sudden movement amidst the flying water droplets. Heavy metallic chains wrap tightly around the muscular, dark-skinned arm of the formidable orc captain. The orc captain swings his massive chain-link weapon with devastating force, clashing heavily against Leonard's defensive stance. Glowing with a mystical energy, the chains whip violently past Leonard as he swiftly maneuvers to evade the blow. Spinning gracefully in midair, Leonard uses his momentum to dodge the deadly chain links. The orc captain grimaces with savage fury, his white eyes glaring as he tries to crush the agile human. With a sharp snap, the heavy chain is pulled taut, vibrating with immense power. Keeping his composure, Leonard rapidly spins his sword to deflect and parry the oncoming chain. With expert precision, Leonard allows the heavy chains to wrap around the blade of his sword. Using his incredible physical strength, Leonard pulls hard on the chain, violently shattering the weapon and leaving the orc captain completely defenseless. As the orc captain groans in pain, Leonard looks back calmly and thinks to himself, "I should probably teach Galano a lesson." Dashing up the length of the taut chain, Leonard strikes down the orc leader, leaving Galano staring in absolute awe. Grinning with newfound excitement, Galano prepares his own spear, confidently saying, "Don't just throw spears blindly, right?" Unleashing his buried potential, Galano swings his weapon with immense force, cutting through the remaining sea orcs in a single sweeping strike. The violent storm clears, revealing a quiet, sun-drenched tropical island with lush green forests and a wooden defensive fence along the sandy beach. Leonard and the female mage land softly on the sandy beach, stepping past the remains of the defeated sea orcs. Looking back at the empty beach, the mage remarks in complete shock, "They're all gone, in an instant." Suddenly, Leonard clutches his chest in agonizing pain as a dark, crackling aura surrounds him, causing the archer to cry out in panic, "Leonard?" Grimacing as sweat pours down his face, Leonard gasps in pain, My heart! It's trying to tell me something." Inside Leonard's mind, a vision of a beating red heart surrounded by crackling lightning appears as he senses somewhere deep within this island. A massive winged gargoyle demon holding a staff looms in the shadows as the narration warns a great calamity is lurking. The spectral image of the beating heart flashes again, pulsating with dark red energy as Leonard repeats, "It's trying to tell me something, deep within this island." Dark, foreboding energy swells in the air as a grim realization sinks in. A great disaster is lurking. The winged gargoyle demon stands silently in the cavern, purple magical energy swirling around its ancient staff. Clutching his chest tightly as his shirt wrinkles under his grip, Leonard struggles against the painful warning, feeling it telling me to stop it. Looking toward a dark cave entrance glowing with an ominous red light, Leonard steels himself for what lies ahead. Sweating profusely, Leonard analyzes the terrifying presence, thinking in terms of raw power it's likely more dangerous than Conrad was with the secret medicine. Galano, the archer, and the mage rush over in deep concern, with Galano calling out, "Renard, what's wrong?" To which Leonard calmly replies, "It's nothing serious, but we need to talk. I have found the location of the Crack's medium." Galano, the white-haired elf archer, and Esther look on in complete surprise as they react to Leonard's sudden announcement. Esther is left speechless, her eyes wide with apprehension as she contemplates the terrifying warning Leonard just delivered. Leonard turns his head back slightly, his expression serious and tense as he prepares to lead his companions deeper into the island's mysterious danger. Standing along the shore of the beautiful sandy beach, the party of adventurers gathers to discuss their next move and prepare themselves for the battles ahead. The elf archer places a hand over her chest and admits, "I want to see if my arrows work against a truly powerful foe." Galano smiles enthusiastically and raises his spear, declaring, "A fight's only worth it if you're putting your life on the line," as he hypes up the team. Esther looks on with a sweat drop on her cheek, clearly uneasy about her companion's reckless enthusiasm for dangerous fights. Esther reflects on her role as a magic user, thinking to herself, "I'm a scholar. There's no need for me to go out of my way to take risks." But, determined to prove her worth and support her allies, Esther raises her hand with a confident, proud smile, ready to face whatever lies ahead. A confident smirk plays on Leonard's lips as he prepares to lead the group into the dark depths of the cavern. With his twin swords drawn and glowing with power, Leonard leads the party forward, asking, "Is everyone ready?" The four adventurers cautiously make their way down into the dark, damp cavern, where the echoing sound of dripping water creates an unsettling atmosphere. As they navigate the eerie cave, Galano mutters that it feels kind of creepy, while Esther agrees, saying it feels like something could jump out at any moment, as a sinister silhouette watches them from a high pillar. Looking up from below, Esther's eyes widen in terror as she spots a massive, monstrous figure lurking on the pillar, realizing with a shock that something is indeed coming out. Reacting instantly to the sudden threat, Esther warns her companions at the top of her lungs, shouting, "Everyone, watch out, it's an ambush!" A horde of ferocious, muscular cave orcs leaps down from the ceiling, brandishing heavy battle axes as they launch a surprise attack on the party. A massive sword slash cuts through the air as Leonard commands, "Galano, don't let a single one pass." With an explosive leap, Leonard strikes down from above while Galano blocks an oncoming attack below, shouting, "On it!" Leonard shouts a fierce battle cry, his eyes shining with intense focus as he cuts through the enemy ranks. The white-haired elf archer yells out in determination, drawing her bow to provide long-range support for the frontliners. Sparks fly and weapons clash in the dark cave as Galano and the archer coordinate their attacks to fend off the relentless wave of beasts. Galano spins his spear with incredible speed, successfully deflecting the heavy axes of the lunging monsters. Struggling under the sheer volume of enemies, Galano grunts in frustration, shouting, "Damn, there's too many of them." Esther watches the chaotic melee in panic, realizing, "I can use magic, but they're too close. I'll end up hitting you guys too." Sweat pours down Esther's face as she clutches her clothes, completely frozen in indecision as she despairs, "What do I do?" Suddenly, a sword pierces clean through the chest of a menacing beast as Leonard's calm voice reassures her, "Esther, there's no need to hesitate." Esther looks up in absolute shock and relief as Leonard effortlessly protects her from the immediate danger. Spinning through the air, Leonard executes a flawless slash that cuts down the surrounding enemies in a spray of dark blood. Standing calmly amidst the fallen beasts, Leonard looks back at Esther and asks, "A spell that's more effective against a crowd? You have one, don't you?" With a spark of realization in her eyes, Esther prepares her magic as she declares her devastating spell, Chain Lightning. Struggling to hold back the massive beasts with his spear, Galano calls out desperately to Esther, yelling, "I don't care, just get these big bastards off me." Channeling crackling blue electricity in her hand, Esther prepares to unleash her spell as Galano grins wildly, shouting, "Come on, let's see how much this stings." Esther releases a massive, crackling surge of electric energy that engulfs the battlefield, shocking the incoming monsters while leaving Galano unharmed. The powerful electric currents course violently through the muscular bodies of the beasts, causing them to roar in agonizing pain. The devastating chain lightning continues to arc from one monster to another, completely neutralizing the ambush in a flash of blinding light. With the battle drawing to a close, a heavy boot steps firmly onto the head of a defeated beast lying motionless on the stone floor. Standing victoriously over the smoking remains of the monsters, Leonard advises his team, "When fighting a crowd, focus on your role." Leonard looks on with a calm, composed expression, his leadership and battlefield intelligence shining through. Galano rubs the back of his neck with a sheepish grin, feeling a mixture of embarrassment and deep respect for Leonard's perfect tactical guidance. Esther stands proudly with a smug grin, confidently boasting, "A spell like that is nothing," as the elf archer watches her with a calm expression. As they venture deeper into the cavern, the ominous atmosphere intensifies, prompting them to realize we're definitely getting closer to the medium. A sudden burst of magical blue energy explodes in the distance, indicating that they have reached the heart of the rift. Leaping down into the final chamber, Leonard sheathes his swords and calmly observes, "Looks like we're mostly done here." The white-haired elf archer freezes in place, a drop of sweat rolling down her cheek as she senses a colossal, terrifying presence ahead. They enter a majestic, ruinous cathedral hall where a giant demonic guardian sits on its knees, silently praying before a massive structure bound in magical blue chains. A close-up of the ancient guardian reveals its menacing face and glowing blue eyes, its hands tightly clasped together in deep prayer. Drawing upon her magical energy, Esther chants, "O Earth, sound the alarm and rage like a storm," as she recognizes the creature, thinking, "That's the guardian of the crack, no doubt about it. It's focused on its prayer. Now's our chance." Suddenly, the massive guardian interrupts its prayer and drops down from its pedestal, sending shockwaves through the chamber as the group looks on in alarm. The terrifying blue-skinned guardian, adorned with coral-like horns and a skull necklace, lets out a ferocious, blood-curdling roar as it prepares to crush the intruders. A violent, explosive spray of dark red blood slashes across the screen, marking the brutal beginning of their battle against the guardian. Esther is taken completely by surprise as a sudden splash of dark blood splatters across the scene. The blue-skinned guardian smirks malevolently as it swings its weapon, taunting, "You fell for it," while Leonard narrowly dodges the lethal strike. Gripping his sword tightly amidst the flying blood, Leonard calmly retorts, "You weren't the only one planning a surprise attack." Esther watches in tense apprehension, her breath catching as the sound of clashing steel echoes through the chamber. Seizing the opening, Leonard leaps high into the air and delivers a powerful downward strike, driving his blade into the massive guardian. An extreme close-up of an eye wide with sudden shock and realization as a new, overwhelming threat presents itself. A devastating beam of brilliant blue magical energy erupts across the cavern, tearing through everything in its path with a deafening rumble. The towering demonic guardian looms menacingly with its sharp claws outstretched as Leonard, injured and spitting blood, unleashes a desperate battle cry, screaming, "Gra!"